This young man was always seen as a failure. It's because he couldn't awaken his magic. To make things worse, his younger sister was a genius. She had the potential of a holy mage, which earned him more scorn. But no one knew the truth. He was the true genius destined to be the family's holy successor. The story begins with a young man named Luca after a terrible accident. He died and was reincarnated into a world of magic. But somehow, he awakened a strange power. The god of war's strength of 1,000 tons. This had to be a dream. So while other mages were busy chanting spells, our hero chose a different path. He was a physical fighter, ending it all with a single punch. He was a one-punch man in a world of mages. He feared no one. Inside the emergency room, a high school student named Su-Chi was dying. He listened to his family's last words. That morning, his kind mother handed him a lunchbox. It had his favorite rolled eggs. She told him not to worry about money and to just focus on his studies. His little sister cheerfully offered him candy. He gently patted her head, telling her to be good for their mother. But school was a living nightmare. The bullies stomped on his lunchbox and mocked him. They couldn't believe he still had the nerve to show up. They beat him mercilessly. It was because he dared to protect a female classmate. The leader laughed, saying a weakling like him could never save anyone. Even the girl he saved just stood in the rain. She told him not to provoke them and to worry about himself instead. Real tragedy struck on that rainy night. A truck sped towards him, its headlights blinding. Su-Chi's facial wounds hadn't even healed. He had no chance to escape. The powerful impact sent him flying. Lying motionless on the road, his consciousness faded. He desperately wondered, "Am I going to die?" Su-Chi painfully called out for his mother with his last breath. He was filled with regret for not being able to protect his loved ones. Amidst the whispers of passers-by, a fierce desire ignited within him. In his next life, he would become strong. He wouldn't let anyone bully him again. On the magical continent of Arcanas, the annual Holy Blessing ceremony was taking place. The priest declared to the crowd that children under 6 must offer their most valuable possession to the gods. If accepted, they would be granted a spirit messenger. This was the only chance for citizens to awaken their latent magic and become true mages. In the crowd, a poor boy naively asked his mother if his candy was enough to trade for magic. But his mother could only reply sadly, "No, my son. It must be expensive jewelry, like what the nobles offer." Indeed, noble families like Lady Blank's prepared lavish jewelry boxes. The more valuable the offering, the higher the chance of receiving a blessing. A buzz of conversation erupted when the Rian family appeared. Some even claimed they had bet their entire fortune for this one chance to change their destiny. Hojian, the head of the Rian family, looked at his children with a determined gaze. He told himself he had made a great gamble for the future of his family, for Lucas and Julia. The two smartest children in the family would surely receive high-level blessings. Soon after, the priest called the next name, Julia Rian. The small girl walked towards the altar. She placed a golden crown on the stone pedestal. The magic circle beneath her feet immediately activated and lit up. A powerful bolt of lightning erupted from the magic circle. No one could believe their eyes. The blessing had reached level 7, a feat unseen in the past 12 years. Julia stood amidst the blazing electricity. Her eyes shone with divine power. The entire square was shaken by her incredible natural talent. Witnessing Julia's success, the crowd began to whisper. They realized her offering was the crown of thunder, but some were still skeptical. They didn't think it was worth the Ryan family's entire fortune. Meanwhile, Lucas was enthusiastically clapping for his sister. His father, Hojian, approached him. He kindly adjusted his son's clothes and said, "Lucas, it's your turn." The boy replied confidently, "Yes, father." The butler slowly opened a wooden box. It revealed a sword, radiating an immense, powerful aura. The sword's appearance shocked everyone present. The magical energy it emitted was terrifying. The image of Vulcanus, the primordial god of fire magic, appeared in a blazing inferno behind Lucas. Everyone gasped in amazement. While Julia cheerfully wished her brother luck, Lucas calmly took the sword and walked to the altar. Even the priest was in awe of the priceless artifact. He understood the head of the Ryan family was betting everything on this child. As soon as Lucas placed the sword on the pedestal, the magic circle exploded in a blinding light. At the same time, the sky above the academy suddenly turned a blood-red color. Witnessing this unprecedented phenomenon, Hojian was stunned. He wondered, level 9? Or did I spend too much money? Inside the shrine, a giant pillar of fire erupted from the pedestal. However, the situation suddenly took a terrible turn. Lucas looked down at his hands. He saw flames erupting from within his own body. The sudden pain caught him completely off guard. His eyes blazed with a fierce fire. In extreme agony, Lucas screamed as the magical flames consumed him. The sword continued to float above him. It was like a cruel, sacrificial ritual. The sky slowly returned to normal, but the atmosphere of the ceremony was thick with anxiety. Lucas's father shouted in panic, "Is the ceremony over? Where is the spirit messenger?" Amidst the whispers, someone pointed towards the shrine. "Hey, look at the altar." Julia stared in shock. The candy in her hand fell and shattered as she saw the light. Her brother was thrown from the stone pedestal. he fell through the gray smoke to the ground. Lucas lay motionless on the ground, his eyes stared blankly into the void. "Big brother!" Julia screamed through her tears. Hojian also rushed forward frantically, calling his son's name. The family gathered around Lucas's cold body. His mother sobbed, not understanding what was happening. His father desperately begged Lucas to wake up. The priest stood there, drenched in sweat. He trembled as he made the grim announcement. "The god has rejected the boy. Lucas Rian has been refused by the primordial god of magic." While everyone was still in shock, a strange blue light silently left the scene. In another dimension, known as the fire god's domain, rivers of lava churned with the fury of a powerful, dark entity. He roared in outrage. "Damn it! How dare the Ryan family offer the sword that nearly killed me? What a pathetic fire god, scared of a single sword." He took the sword, feeling the unforgivable scars from the past when this very weapon had wounded him. The fire god coldly declared that the Ryan family should be grateful. He had only incinerated the child's soul. The little demons around him praised his mercy and generosity. Suddenly, a small demon noticed something unusual. A guest from another planet just checked into that body. Should I burn it again? But the fire god just sneered with contempt. "It's unnecessary. An insect from another world isn't worth my effort." He turned back to the offering and admitted it was a rather fine item. Meanwhile, in the real world, a blue, butterfly-shaped light began to land on Lucas's forehead. His eyes suddenly snapped open, emitting a blinding light. The scene shifts to the god of war's domain, the heavenly cave. A man with fiery red hair and bulging muscles floated in the void. Golden energy swirled around him, creating a divine pressure that was suffocating. When he opened his eyes, his pupils glowed a brilliant orange. They radiated the aura of a supreme ruler. With each step he took through the void, reality shattered around him like glass. The god of war continued to walk majestically. His every movement caused the space around him to tremble violently. Directly ahead, a colossal entity with blue skin and countless red eyes emerged from the darkness of space, blocking his path. Looking at it, he realized this was the source of power that ruled this world. Without any fear, the god of war crossed his arms arrogantly and challenged it. "Trying to block my path to ascension? You're not worthy." In response to the challenge, the cosmic monster opened its mouth full of sharp teeth. It fired a powerful beam of dark energy, intending to swallow the disrespectful being. An immense pressure shot straight towards the god of war, but he stood his ground in the center of the blast. His eyes blazed as he channeled all his power into his fist. The god of war unleashed a mighty punch. It created a massive explosion of light that wiped out the enemy's attack. Amidst the dissipating fragments of energy, the god of war stood tall. He walked towards the brilliant light after defeating the cosmic entity. The god of war let out an arrogant smile. "Cosmic power that feels like a mosquito bite. What a waste of my time." Just then, Ma, his guardian spirit, rushed towards him with a desperate cry. "Lord God of War." Interrupted, the god of war coldly pushed the small spirit away and demanded to know why. However, his expression suddenly changed. He sensed a horrifying truth. This aura, Retsuko, my old partner, has been destroyed. He began to question what was happening on the Arcana's continent. In his memory, 1,000 years ago, martial arts was the supreme power, far surpassing magic. He couldn't accept that Volcanus, the weakling who nearly died from a single slash of his, was now revered as a supreme fire god. Ma cried and complained that if he hadn't been so engrossed in martial arts, he wouldn't have let that minor god run rampant. Faced with the changing times, the god of war crossed his arms and pondered. Having to spread martial arts himself was a heavy burden. However, looking at the smoldering soul flame, he understood it was his responsibility to pass on his knowledge to future generations. With an unwavering will, the god of war decided to step into the light to seek a new level of ascension. At the same time, in the real world, Lucas slowly regained consciousness. He heard echoing voices in his head. He wondered in shock, "I'm already dead and still being bothered like this? How annoying." As soon as he opened his eyes, he froze. A host of Ma faces were pressed close, staring at him intently. The small spirit declared, "I am the martial god, Ma. With my protection, your life will be blessed." Lucas lay motionless on the bed. Specks of magical light danced all around him. Ma clearly declared, "I shall grant you the protection of the god of war." Before Lucas could even process it, a wave of blinding light shot out from the void and struck him. Instantly, a mystical notification appeared. "Blessing of the god of war, level 9. The level cap for martial arts training has been removed." He woke up on a bed, his body surrounded by a golden aura. Lucas was stunned. He wondered about the strange level 9 power and the spirits he had just heard. He stared at his trembling hands. His mind was in turmoil from this absurd reality. Lucas remembered the horrific moment he was hit by the truck in his past life. "I should have died that day. Why am I still alive?" Memories of the original Lucas Rian, the child rejected by the gods at the ceremony, flooded his mind. They mixed with his old memories, causing him to clutch his head in pain. He gave a bitter smile, wondering if the heavens were toying with his fate. Being reborn as a god-forsaken child in a world of magic made Lucas extremely anxious. He feared his family would soon abandon him, leading to a life even more miserable than his last. Deep down, he hoped his mother and sister Azusa from his old world could live well with his insurance money. Looking at the strange light on his hand, he still couldn't understand what the god of war's blessing meant. He knew nothing about martial arts. Suddenly, the sound of a falling candy made him turn around. Julia was standing at the door with teary eyes, whimpering, "Big brother." The little girl rushed forward and hugged Lucas, sobbing with joy. "You're not dead? I thought you were gone for good." Lucas gently patted her head to comfort his sister. "Don't cry anymore. I'm okay now." Looking at Julia, he felt a pang of sadness as he remembered Azusa. His sister from his past life must be heartbroken over his death. Lucas's eyes became determined. He vowed that in this new life, he would use everything he had to protect what was most precious. Gazing out the window, Lucas made a silent resolve. "I'm counting on you, god of war." In a dark shrine, a statue of an angel suddenly shed horrifying tears of blood. A demonic woman with long green hair slowly materialized. She sensed the disappearance of the cursed entity. She wondered if it had died or if it had left this world, and gave a sinister smile. She declared that even with only a remnant of their power, this world would eventually belong to them. 9 years later, at the Rian family mansion, Lucas had now grown into a tall and handsome young man. Wiping the sweat after his training, he thought that since the sky was clear, Julia's magic training must be over. Lucas intended to go pick up his sister, but immediately, a sudden murderous aura from behind put him on high alert. Thorny vines suddenly wrapped tightly around his body, lifting Lucas into the air. Instead of being scared, he just sighed in annoyance. He was all too familiar with this childish prank. The one who had just appeared was Jeremy Rian, the fourth son of the Ryan family and Lucas's half-brother. He leaned on his staff with a smug smile. He sneered, "You god-hated thing, why are you still here in this house?" Jeremy continued arrogantly, stating that this backyard was only for family members who could use magic. He tightened the vines, threatening to break a few of Lucas's ribs to teach him some manners. However, Lucas responded with a long, bored yawn, completely unfazed. He calmly reminded him that his sister's training was over and gave a warning. "Want to get roasted? Let me go before I change my mind." Although Jeremy trembled, he tried to act tough. He said that a weakling who needed his sister's protection had no right to order him around. But immediately, a massive bolt of purple lightning struck Jeremy from the sky. He screamed in agony as the electricity engulfed and scorched his entire body. He then collapsed to the ground in a cloud of black smoke. Lucas looked towards the gate. Julia was approaching with a glowing magic staff in her hand. Julia declared clearly, "If you ever dare to bully my brother again, I won't hold back." She puffed her cheeks in anger and quickly used fire magic. It burned away the thorny vines wrapped around Lucas. As the thorns fell to the ground, Lucas gently patted his sister's head to thank and reassure her. Lucas looked at Jeremy struggling to get up with a meaningful smile. "Did you learn your lesson, so this doesn't happen again?" Jeremy gritted his teeth in humiliation. He only managed to shout a threat. "You'll regret this." Then he and his maid fled for their lives. Watching them run, Lucas realized Julia had intentionally held back her power to avoid causing serious injury. Julia turned and asked. She knew her brother could easily defeat Jeremy if he wanted, so why didn't he fight back? Lucas just smiled and reminded her that his true strength was a secret known only to the two of them. Lucas smiled and patted his sister's head, asking, "Promise to protect me from now on, so no one bullies me, okay?" She eagerly replied, "Of course." 9 years had passed since his soul was reborn into the body of Lucas Rian. He recalled the day he woke up 9 years ago. Lucas's father had come to visit. He thought he would be kicked out for disappointing them, but he was wrong. Holtrian hugged his son and sobbed. "Oh my God, it's a miracle you're not dead. Our ancestors have blessed us." Although he was the leader of a knight order and often away on campaigns, he was still an exemplary father who deeply loved and cared for his children. When he learned Lucas had started martial arts training, he immediately sent a letter filled with useful information, revealing the existence of ancient martial arts books in the family library. Thanks to that letter, Lucas decided to carry out a very bold plan. At the mansion, the maids constantly gossiped about how the young master Lucas often disappeared alone, despite being so young. Some maliciously said that without magic, he would soon be kicked out of the house. Suddenly, violent tremors from underground shook the entire mansion. The maids guessed that someone was practicing earth magic. They were completely unaware that a fist of steel was furiously breaking through layers of hard rock right beneath their feet. Lucas wiped his sweat after finishing the tunnel. He was satisfied, telling himself that everything was in place. For 6 long months, he had secretly dug a secret basement under his room. He divided it into 4 separate areas: a study, a training area, a storage area, and even a makeshift bathroom. Since he had spent all his money on specialized equipment, he had to settle for a simple bathtub to soak in medicinal herbs. From then on, Lucas secretly devoted himself to grueling training sessions inside his secret base every day. The secret basement had now become a true dojo, complete with weapons and ancient bookshelves. Lucas was soaking in a medicinal bath that emitted a mystical purple aura. He thought to himself, This purple medicinal bath is the absolute best. For the past 3 years, he had been training relentlessly, based on a secret manual called the Chaos Body Tempering Art. The results were astonishing. Now, even level 5 magic attacks couldn't leave a single scratch on his body. With his defense perfected, Lucas began to focus on training his offensive skills. Standing before a training dummy, he drew his sword from its sheath with lightning speed. His eyes glowed with focus. Every movement exuded the power of a true master. Not stopping there, Lucas continued his training with a spear. A powerful swing of the spear created a golden wave of energy. It instantly crushed the training dummy into dust. He stood tall in the middle of the basement. His breathing was still steady even after such powerful strikes. A notification confirmed that Lucas had reached level 4 of the cloud-piercing Thunder Spear skill. He decided to practice his fist techniques a little more before ending his session. Over the past 9 years, his abilities had progressed remarkably. But deep down, he still worried about the limits of a martial artist. According to ancient texts, when martial artists reached a certain level, they would hit a wall that prevented further evolution. The only way to break through it was to achieve enlightenment, an extremely difficult challenge that caused countless people to give up halfway. This was also why martial arts gradually declined and was overshadowed by magic, even though they were originally equals. However, Lucas confidently affirmed, "It might be hard for others, but I'm the exception." He focused all his spirit into his fist. His eyes glowed with an intense blue light. With a loud roar, Lucas unleashed a powerful punch directly at the sandbag in front of him. The terrifying energy exploded, instantly pulverizing the target into dust in a cloud of smoke. Standing amidst the debris, Lucas calmly looked at his hand. A mystical notification appeared. Tyrant's Overlord Fist has reached level 5. He realized his skill levels were still progressing smoothly, seemingly without any limits. This was the result of the level 9 blessing from the God of War that he possessed. Various skills, from the cloud-piercing Thunder Spear and blade-drawing slash to the Chaos Body Tempering Art, had all reached astonishing levels. The clock chimed, reminding Lucas that his training time was over. He quickly changed his clothes. Tonight his father, Holt, would be returning home for a family dinner. Lucas walked through the magnificent corridors of the mansion, heading towards the main dining room. Pushing open the large double doors, he saw everyone already gathered at the long, luxurious dining table. Holt suddenly announced that this year, the Allen Magic Academy would be opening a martial arts department as a special measure. He had already submitted an application for Lucas. Hearing this, Jeremy could only click his tongue in contempt. His father continued to encourage him. "Martial arts is tough, but I believe Lucas can do it. Prepare well for the entrance exam next week." Lucas calmly thanked his father while Julia happily enjoyed her food beside him. He thought to himself that no matter which world he was in, becoming strong was essential to protect what was important. But to avoid trouble, he absolutely must not stand out too much. Julia excitedly interrupted the meal. "Father, I also want to go to the Allen Magic Academy with my brother." Holt smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm but reminded her that she was only 11, not old enough for official enrollment. Undeterred, Julia immediately countered, mentioning the existence of an elite course with no age restrictions. Then she confidently pulled out a bright red envelope. "I was invited directly into the school. I don't need to worry about age." Holding the letter, Holt was amazed. He realized Julia's reputation as a genius had reached the Allen Academy. He believed a great archmage would soon emerge from the Ryan family. Lucas silently admired his sister's talent, while Lady Catherine gently prayed for both siblings to pass the exam safely. However, this warm atmosphere made Jeremy extremely jealous. He gritted his teeth in resentment. He couldn't understand why someone like Lucas received special treatment. He feared his own reputation would be affected if his brother also enrolled. Lost in his jealousy, Jeremy was suddenly startled by a hand in a purple glove squeezing his thigh, making him cry out in pain. It was Jessica Ryan, Jeremy's mother and the second wife of the Ryan family. She coldly told her son to remain calm. Jessica caressed Jeremy's face with her hands. She reassured him not to worry. It would be a miracle if he passed. "Just wait for the show, my dear." With that, she flashed a wicked smile. A week later, the day of departure for the Magic Academy arrived. Standing at the mansion gate, their mother lovingly reminded them, "Lucas, Julia, take care of each other. Once you've settled in, I'll visit and bring your favorite pudding." She gave Lucas an item and reminded him, "Don't forget the lucky coin your father gave you." It was a coin from the Martial Dynasty, the era that unified the world 10,000 years ago. His father had obtained it after defeating a magical beast. The front of the coin depicted the first emperor, Ma, and the back showed the weapons he once used. Lucas was astonished to realize the face on the coin was the muscular god who had appeared to him before. Remembering his father's words to always carry it as a lucky charm, Lucas felt grateful for being born into such a wonderful family in this life. Dressed in their neat academy uniforms, the siblings waved goodbye. "We're leaving now." A few hours later, as the sun began to set, the carriage stopped at the edge of the forest to set up camp for the night. Sitting by the fire, the butler Fordham said that if they set out early tomorrow, they would reach Dak Town, where the Allen Magic Academy was located. before dark. Julia excitedly asked about the interesting things there. Fordham enthusiastically described the annual Magic Dodgeball tournament held every spring. Not only that, Dacktown was also famous as a food paradise with countless delicious dishes. Seeing his sister drooling with hunger, Lucas could only smile wryly and remind her, "Julia, wipe your mouth. You're about to become a waterfall." However, the cheerful atmosphere suddenly vanished as Lucas's ears twitched. A magic circle appeared in his eyes, allowing him to sense movements from far away. He coldly announced, "There are 12 horses and 13 people heading towards us at high speed from about 2 kilometers away." Despite Lucas's serious expression, Fordham calmly replied that the chances of encountering bandits in this area were very low. "Fordham, you're too naive. Life isn't always so kind." Thanks to the chaos body tempering art, Lucas now possessed incredible defense, recovery, and heightened senses. He was certain his feeling was not wrong. At the same time, he calculated that since their group only had 5 people, including a child, they needed to be very careful. While Julia was still innocently eating her snack, Lucas immediately stood up and warned, "A mysterious group is approaching us at an incredible speed. Get into position." The butler Fordham and the soldiers were still confused, as they hadn't heard anything. But he quickly placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. Fordham immediately shouted orders to his subordinates. "Are you all deaf? We have guests at our door. Go greet them." Although he didn't know where Lucas got his information, he understood that it was better to be cautious at a time like this. Shortly after, a gang of fierce bandits on horseback burst out from the darkness at lightning speed. The soldiers were shocked and exclaimed, "Impossible, they're really here." The bandit leader, with a long scar and an eye patch, laughed triumphantly. "We've got some fat prey. Just as I predicted," he said smugly. Many nobles were in the area before the Allen Magic Academy entrance exam. Looking at the two siblings, his cruel nature was revealed. He wanted to capture Julia alive to sell for a high price, and Lucas would be another prize, a product that would please clients with peculiar tastes. Fordham drew his sword with a dignified air and threatened, "Do you have any idea what happens when you mess with nobles?" The leader showed no fear and ordered his men to kill everyone except the 2 children. The battle erupted immediately. The soldiers shouted their determination to help Fordham protect their masters. The fierce bandits charged forward with savage smiles, brandishing their blades. The clash of steel rang through the night as the 2 sides fought fiercely. A brave soldier used his spear to take down a charging bandit. With sharp, determined eyes, he shouted, "Lady Julia, leave this to me." Fordham charged into the midst of the bandits like a fierce tiger. Each slash made the enemy pay dearly. In a moment of danger, he didn't forget to turn and shout, "Young Master Lucas, run away with Lady Julia." However, a sudden, horrifying scream made Lucas jump in surprise. A soldier guarding the carriage was engulfed in magical flames, screaming in excruciating pain. The bandit leader appeared with a glowing staff in his hand and a sinister smile. Witnessing this scene, Fordham was stunned as he realized the grim truth. "What? There's a mage among the bandits?" While he was distracted, another bandit closed in from behind. Fordham only had time to shout his final warning, "Young master, run into the forest." A brutal slash left Fordham severely injured. Lucas was extremely worried. Though his body was exhausted and surrounded by bandits on horseback, Fordham still managed to prop himself up with his sword. The lead mage approached with a menacing look. He growled, "You killed my comrades, so I'll burn you alive." Facing the glowing muzzle of the magic staff, Fordham resolved to protect his 2 young masters until his last breath. Standing in the shadows, Lucas calculated, a level 2 trying to fight a mage? That's like throwing an egg at a rock. He had intended to hide his true strength. But seeing the man who had always loved and cared for him, like family in danger, Lucas couldn't just stand by and watch. Memories of Fordham's kindness flooded his mind, making his heart ache. He couldn't let his family be killed right before his eyes. Lucas clenched his fist and turned to his sister. "Julia, you hide here. I'm going to help Mr. Fordham." He crouched low, preparing to enter the fight with a completely different aura. Julia worriedly instructed, "Okay, please be careful." At that moment, the battlefield became incredibly fierce. The butler Fordham let out a roar and swung his sword, cutting down another bandit. However, his strength was depleted. Fordham collapsed, gasping for breath amidst the tragic scene. Seizing the opportunity, a bandit leaped from above, swinging his blade. "Die, old man." But it wasn't him who was hurt. It was the surrounding bandits who were screaming in panic. "What is this?" Small stones covered in golden spiritual energy shot through the air at incredible speed. They pierced through the enemy formation, taking down the bandits in an instant, much to the astonishment of the survivors. Lucas stood in the darkness, tightly gripping a pebble that radiated a terrifying aura. He thought, "Luckily, my wind strike skill reached level 4 from throwing rocks at birds." With a cold gaze, he declared, "These bandits dare to challenge me?" Witnessing his men being wiped out in an instant, the mage leader screamed in fury, "Damn it, who did this?" He trembled as he activated the blazing magic circle on his staff, roaring his intention to take Fordham down with him. "Old man, you're coming with me." A giant fireball carrying destructive power shot straight towards Fordham. He helplessly closed his eyes, awaiting his end. He was thankful that at least his two young masters would be safe thanks to the mysterious helper. Just as all seemed lost, Lucas suddenly shot out like a flash of lightning. He channeled all his power into his fist and directly clashed with the giant fireball to protect the devoted butler. Fordham stared in shock at his young master's back and exclaimed, "Young master." The fireball was completely neutralized, much to the mage's astonishment. He desperately tried to counterattack. Even so, I can still use Fire Serpent to fight back. But before he could act, immediately, Lucas closed the distance and unleashed a powerful violent burst fist. The leader could only scream in terror as he was hit head-on. The powerful punch sent the mage flying, killing him instantly. Fordham stood stunned, watching Lucas. He still couldn't believe his eyes. Just now? How could you? A young boy instantly defeating a high-level mage was unprecedented in history. Lucas turned back and smiled confidently. Actually, it seems I have a talent for martial arts. Fordham could only say his young master's name with emotion and admiration. However, the joy was short-lived as both suddenly felt a thick, murderous aura. Dark, sinister vines suddenly shot up from the ground, causing Fordham to cry out in terror. Wah! A giant entity with the form of a monstrous skeleton, purple fiery eyes, and red flesh began to take shape. At the appearance of this terrifying monster, everyone was shocked and exclaimed, "Where did this messed up work of art come from?" It opened its mouth wide, revealing sharp fangs. The hideous monster continuously roared resentful cries of "Die!" The horrifying sound echoed, seeming to freeze the space around them. Watching the monster wildly swing its sharp claws, Lucas thought to himself that he couldn't let Julia see this horrifying sight. He needed to end this quickly. Immediately, Lucas leaped into the air like a bolt of lightning. He channeled all his power into an attack infused with golden spiritual energy, striking down at the target's head. However, the monster was completely unharmed. Instead, it radiated a sinister purple energy. Demonic chains emerged from its body. They pulled corpses from the ground, much to Lucas's surprise. "What the hell is this?" the monster growled, its eyes glowing with a strange snake symbol. Its body began to mutate, growing larger and radiating a deadly pressure that enveloped him. Seeing the symbol in its eyes, Lucas realized this monster could actually control the dead. Realizing that normal physical attacks were ineffective, he decided to change his strategy. If physical attacks don't work, let's try this. Lucas channeled all his spiritual energy into the palm of his hand. He unleashed a powerful violent energy palm. The golden wave of energy pierced through the evil entity, creating a blinding explosion of light that wiped out the darkness. The monster screamed in despair as its body disintegrated into demonic fragments. As the night gradually fell silent again, Lucas stood tall, ending the battle decisively. After the enemy had completely vanished, Lucas wearily sat down on the ground and sighed in relief. Hearing his name called, he smiled as he saw Julia running towards him. She jumped into his arms, praising him in awe. "You took care of everything?" Even the old butler was dumbfounded. He had no idea when his young master had become so strong. He had even defeated such a huge monster like it was nothing. The sound of a horse neighing broke the silence. A black horse slowly emerged. On its back was a silver-haired girl, tightly bound and gagged. Her face was contorted in pain. Lucas was surprised to see there was still someone to be saved. Meanwhile, in a sinister space filled with corpses, a demonic woman with long horns was leisurely bathing in a pool of blood. She sipped red wine, her sharp eyes flashing as she realized one of her pawns had been destroyed. "Number 4 is gone. Who dares to touch my toys?" Back with Lucas's group, after being rescued, the silver-haired girl introduced herself as Maya Rasta. Hearing the name, Lucas pondered. Rasta. I feel like I've heard that name somewhere before. Julia also nodded in agreement, saying she had heard it too. The butler Fordham explained that both the Rasta and Rian families were prominent noble families living near Dak Town. Lucas immediately recognized the familiarity and nodded in confirmation. "That's right." Julia curiously asked why Maya was attacked by the bandits. Maya tearfully recounted the horrifying incident that happened a few hours earlier. The bandits had suddenly appeared and attacked her carriage. The guards were brutally killed one by one in a sea of fire, amidst the bandits' savage laughter. Even her loyal maid was captured while trying her best to protect her. Maya choked up as she recalled that no matter how many times she asserted her noble status, it was all in vain. The leader's greedy eyes showed that their real goal from the start was to kidnap noble children like her for profit. Seeing Maya trembling with fear, Lucas gently reassured her. "Don't worry. Those thugs are all gone now." He fell silent with a thoughtful expression, contemplating the strange events that had just occurred. Late at night by the fire, Fordham brought food to Lucas and informed him that Lady Maya and Julia had gone to rest. Lucas thoughtfully asked for Fordham's opinion on what Maya had told them. The butler believed it was a professional criminal gang that had been targeting the children of noble families for a long time. Lucas clenched his fist, thinking about those who could use magic and possess the terrifying power to control the dead. He concluded, There's a mastermind pulling the strings, isn't there? Fordham promised to report the incident to his master immediately and contact the Rasta family to cooperate in the investigation. Lucas nodded in agreement but also made a suggestion to avoid future trouble. The next day, as the carriage entered Dak Town on the border of the Kamina Empire, Julia was surprised and disappointed to hear their sightseeing plans were cancelled. Lucas explained that some of the bandits' accomplices might still be in town. To ensure their safety, the group needed to head straight to the Magic Academy, leaving Julia to pout in disappointment. Though a bit disappointed, Maya still nodded in agreement. "You're right. I agree." Seeing Julia still sulking about the missed trip, Lucas smiled reassuringly. "You wanted to go to the town's food street, right? When we pass by later, I'll buy you anything you want." This statement immediately cheered Julia up. She exclaimed, "Really? Thank you." The bond between the siblings made Maya remark in admiration, "You two are really close." Just then, Mr. Fordham announced that the carriage had entered the town and invited everyone to look outside. As soon as she opened the carriage window, Julia gasped in amazement at the splendor of the place. This was the second largest town in the empire, second only to the capital. It had ancient architecture and streets bustling with people. Witnessing the lively shops and the crowds of people flocking there, Maya also chimed in excitedly. Looking at the passers-by, Lucas felt a sense of nostalgia. The atmosphere here reminded him a lot of the city where he lived in his past life. The trip suddenly became more lively when a clown unexpectedly appeared outside the window, startling the two girls. To make up for it, Lucas bought lots of delicious bread and donuts for them both. Watching Julia and Maya happily enjoy the delicious food, Lucas felt much more at ease after the recent events. Finally, the carriage stopped in front of the majestic gates of the Allen Magic Academy. Fordham stopped the horses and slowly announced, "This is as far as I can take you." Lucas got out of the carriage, looked straight at the devoted butler, and confidently declared, "You can go back now, sir. I can handle any security here." Julia was not to be outdone. She hugged her brother's arm tightly and proclaimed, "That's right, and I'll protect my big brother, too." Lucas patted his sister's head and smiled. "I'm counting on you, my genius mage." Julia replied smugly, "Hee hee, leave it to me." Watching the warm scene, Fordham could only smile with satisfaction, and Maya thought to herself that Lucas was a very interesting older brother to be protected by his own younger sister. As the three children walked through the academy gates together, Maya sincerely expressed her gratitude, saying that both siblings were very kind people. Maya blushed slightly, thinking how lucky she was to have met the Ryan siblings. Flashing back to the previous night, Mr. Fordham suddenly remembered a shocking fact and revealed it to Lucas. "It turns out Maya is your fiancée. What a small world." He recalled how the two children used to be very close on the swings when they were young, but tragedy struck right after the blessing ceremony. When Lucas was rejected by the gods and deemed a talentless person without magic, the engagement between the two families was immediately annulled. The Allen Magic Academy, located in the southern part of Dak Town, was one of the three most prestigious schools in the Kamina Empire. Here, all new students would undergo an examination after 1 year to be sorted into the departments of Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and a special department based on their individual abilities. Normally, students needed 6 years of study to receive a mage certificate, but exceptional individuals could graduate early. Currently, Lucas and Julia were at the academy's main square, preparing for the entrance exam. Julia puffed her cheeks in disappointment because she couldn't take the exam with Maya, but Lucas reassured his sister that Maya was now safe with her family. They would soon meet again as classmates if they both passed. Hearing this, Julia immediately cheered up and excitedly ran to find the reception desk. The arrival of the Ryan siblings quickly drew the attention of the surrounding crowd. Everyone couldn't stop praising them. Lucas's handsome appearance and Julia's cuteness were the talk of the town. Some even secretly wished for a cute younger sister like her. Just then, a female student with an elegant appearance and glasses approached Julia. It was Mina, the vice president of the student council at Allen Magic Academy. Seeing that Julia looked too young, Mina smiled and asked if she was secretly following her older brother. Julia immediately stated clearly, "No, I'm here to take the exam with my brother." Mina was secretly amazed. She realized this was the genius the Academy's elite course had specifically sent an invitation to. Mina gently bent down to confirm, "You're Julia from the Ryan family, right?" To Julia's surprise, Mina just smiled mysteriously and offered to guide her to the reception desk. Being completely ignored from start to finish, Lucas could only sweat and sigh, wondering if he was completely invisible to the student council member. Immediately, Julia remembered. "Wait, my brother wants to register for the exam too." Mina was startled, realizing her oversight. She quickly checked the records and exclaimed, "Oh, I forgot who you were. The martial arts department, right?" Her words unintentionally caused the surrounding crowd to erupt in mocking laughter. Someone even sarcastically remarked how ridiculous it was for a fool to enter a magic academy to practice martial arts. Another even said something nasty. A martial artist is only slightly more useful than a magical beast. Lucas walked calmly amidst the disdainful stares. He understood that mages always consider themselves superior, but deep down, he knew they were all just weaklings. Whether it was Jeremy or the monster he had faced, none of them compared to his true power. To Lucas, they were all like insects. If not for his parents' kindness, he wouldn't have wasted his time in a place like this. Seeing Lucas's pensive expression, Mina suddenly felt guilty for speaking too loudly and drawing attention to him. She sighed to herself. "Oh no. My big mouth got me in trouble again." She gently called out, "Lucas, please come with me. After you've registered, I'll take you to the exam location." Meanwhile, Julia didn't forget to turn back and stick her tongue out at the people who had just laughed at her brother, venting her anger. Seeing Mina's attitude, Lucas felt grateful that she was one of the few who didn't look at him with prejudice. "She's a rare one." He smiled back. "Then, I'll be in your care." The group headed towards a giant circular building, where hundreds of candidates were gathered to begin the exam. Mina began to magically levitate the application forms and handed badges to the siblings. "Submit your applications to the student council members. These are your badges. Your exam numbers are stored inside, so remember to wear them in the exam hall." Then, she explained the three main parts of the test. First was measuring magical potential with a magic light orb. Next was testing elemental compatibility. And finally, measuring destructive power on test dummies. Lucas asked if martial arts candidates had to go through the same process and received an affirmative answer from Mina, explaining it was to ensure fairness for all departments. Lucas could only sweat at this absurdity. He knew the academy was just too lazy to create a separate test for martial arts. Lucas clenched his fist with determination. "I understand. I'll show them a fraction of my power to crush their prejudice against martial arts." At the potential measurement area, the headmaster loudly announced the start of the first round and asked the candidates to place their hands on the magic light orb one by one. The examiner looked at the magic orb and exclaimed in shock, "This is the first time in my life I've seen something like this. A phenomenon that only happens once in 100 years. No, once in 1,000 years." However, in complete contrast to that astonishment, the orb in Lucas's hand showed a big, fat 0. The surrounding crowd immediately burst into mocking laughter. "A perfect score of 0. That's a record that'll never be broken." Someone even sneered. "That guy from the martial arts department got a 0 potential score. He won't even be able to make any progress in the martial arts department." Lucas could only sigh in exasperation. Here we go again. Soon after, it was Julia's turn. The moment her small hand touched it, the orb immediately emitted a mystical purple light, stunning everyone. "Huh. Purple light? Julia's on another level." The color purple symbolized a potential of 7 out of 10, a score high enough to place Julia among the top candidates this year. Witnessing everyone's shock, Lucas thought, "They're already dazzled by just a little light." He loudly advised his sister, "Julia, you don't have to hold back today." She replied confidently, "I understand." The examiner standing nearby was puzzled by Lucas's strange advice. Immediately, Julia focused her mind. The orb in her hand began to emit a light more brilliant and intense than ever before. A blinding golden light suddenly erupted from the orb, sweeping across the entire square, forcing all the candidates to shield their eyes in terror. The examiner was so stunned he trembled. "This is golden light, just one step away from the maximum value of 10. He recalled that 2 years ago, a student had also achieved this level of light, but Julia was much younger than that student. He couldn't help but marvel at such a truly astonishing natural talent. At the end of the test, Julia jumped for joy and ran straight to her brother. "Brother, did you see how good I was?" Lucas gently caught his sister and praised her with a smile. "Amazing. My Julia will definitely become a great archmage in the future." Amidst the whispers about the stark difference between the siblings, someone was about to mock Lucas as a talentless loser. But his friend immediately covered his mouth. "Shut up. If you dare insult her brother in front of her, who knows what she'll do. Don't pick a fight with a genius over some piece of trash." Seeing everything unfold as he had planned, Lucas gave a mysterious smile. "It's all part of my script." Julia fiercely protected her brother. She declared to the crowd, "If anyone dares to bully my brother, I will never forgive them." Lucas calculated that if Julia revealed her full talent and fearsomeness, he would have a more peaceful school life. In fact, for the past 3 years, he had secretly dedicated all his efforts to using magic enhancement skills to train and elevate his sister's talent. All his efforts had finally paid off. The examiner then loudly announced the start of the second and third rounds. He asked everyone to move to the spirit house. Lucas gently patted Julia's head encouragingly. "Today is the day all my efforts will bear fruit." The massive gates of the academy slowly creaked open, welcoming the candidates to their next challenge. Lucas held Julia's hand tightly. Together, they walked towards the brilliant light ahead. At the compatibility testing area, an unprecedented sight was unfolding, leaving everyone stunned. Countless elemental spirits, from fire and water to wind and earth, appeared all at once. They shone brilliantly throughout the hall. The crowd exclaimed in amazement, "The spirits are dancing." At the center of this mystical light stood Julia. She was surrounded by powerful spirits, all competing to get close to her. Witnessing this, another candidate complained bitterly, "Even though I received a level 6 blessing from the wind god, I can't understand it." Not a single wind spirit will come to me. People began to realize the shocking truth. All the spirits are heading towards her. Does that child have maximum compatibility with all elements? Her talent is truly terrifying. Watching from a distance, Lucas was pleased. Good. The Mage Meridian technique I created is successfully enhancing Julia's potential. He thought that even though Julia was only at level 2, it was more than enough to pass this entrance exam. Soon after, a loud announcement was made. Julia Rian's compatibility is 90, the highest score among all candidates. The examiner smiled and congratulated her. Julia politely replied, "Yes, thank you." However, the excessive attention from the crowd began to make Julia feel pressured. Dark figures around her kept whispering, "She's so good, so cute, let's be friends." Feeling frightened by the scrutinizing gazes, Julia immediately ran to hug her brother and called out, "Brother!" Seeing his sister trembling, Lucas kindly asked what was wrong. Julia sobbed, "Why is everyone looking at me like that? It's so scary." Lucas gently patted her head to comfort her. "It's okay. It's because you're a genius, Julia. From now on, you'll receive even more looks like this." Lucas continued to soothe his sister. "Don't worry about what others think. Just get used to it slowly." Hearing this, Julia regained her determination. She firmly declared, "You're right. I need to become stronger because I will protect you, brother." Julia is truly the ideal little sister. Lucas smiled encouragingly. "That's right. Do your best." However, deep down, he realized he also needed to train Julia to have a strong mind and the courage to face public opinion. At the same time, malicious whispers rose from behind again. "With such talent, I thought she had royal blood. But since her brother is a loser, I guess not." When someone asked about Lucas's compatibility, the answer was just sarcasm. "It's probably another perfect 0. Haha. Indeed, as soon as Lucas walked by, the elemental spirits immediately scattered to avoid him. The crowd witnessing this could only shake their heads in contempt, thinking that even the spirits found him disgusting. In the crowd, whispers about Lucas began to rise. A candidate whispered to his friend about a strange phenomenon that occurred right after the second round. He claimed that the moment Lucas walked out, a fire spirit's arm was torn off, scaring him speechless. Although his friend thought spirits were very small and he probably saw it wrong, Lucas, who was walking by, heard everything. He thought to himself. He never expected a witness during the second test. Lucas's memories flooded back. He realized why the fire spirits treated him so badly. It was because the fire god rejected him. They constantly made faces, teasing, and mocking him. When the test ended, Lucas turned to leave. But one fire spirit went too far. It spat fire at him. Lucas never forgave those who crossed him. He coldly picked up a small stone. He channeled power into his fingertips. He flicked the stone at lightning speed. It shattered the insolent fire spirit's arm. He thought with conviction, "A servant of the fire god has no right to act so arrogantly before me." Back in the present, Lucas gently took his sister's hand. He urged Julia toward the final test. Julia playfully asked, "Are you going for first place again?" Lucas smiled back. He joked that he'd let his sister protect him, so he wouldn't have to show off too much. They walked toward the magic destruction power test area. Metal training dummies were already lined up. Seeing Julia shine, a magic class student gritted his teeth. He planned to take his frustration out on a dummy. Someone worried the Rian genius would destroy the target. Another student immediately dismissed it. He said it was impossible. He explained the dummies were made of special metal. They were reinforced with defensive magic. They could withstand any attack below the curse level. He insisted that at Julia's age, she couldn't possibly unleash a curse-level attack. Lucas stared at the sturdy dummies ahead. He secretly clenched his fist. His eyes lit up with determination. This was the perfect chance to test his level 6 skill. Attending school wasn't so bad, Lucas thought. He had access to expensive equipment. While standing in line with Julia, a loud shout came from behind. "Hey, don't cut in line. Wait for your turn." A girl with shoulder-length hair stepped forward. She pointed her finger arrogantly. "The rule here is that the untalented go to the back." The one being criticized was a girl with long black hair. Suddenly, her eyes blazed with immense pressure. The other girl flinched, too scared to say another word. She felt a terrifying grip on her heart. Then, the girl's gaze fell on Lucas and his sister. She looked down at Julia and asked, "So, you're Julia, the one who got a perfect score on the compatibility test?" Her aura was overwhelming. Julia hid behind her brother, trembling. "Brother, this woman is so scary." Lucas calmly stepped forward to shield his sister. He coolly asked, "And who are you?" The girl proudly raised her head. "I am Awa Miranda, granddaughter of Duke Miranda." The name Miranda made Lucas pause. He recalled the family. They were one of the 3 most powerful noble families in the north, a family that produced legendary mages. He quickly realized the blood connection. This girl was the daughter of his uncle Cian, his mother's younger brother. Lucas smiled faintly. He asked a familiar question. "Iwa, how old are you this year?" "I'm 15, Awa replied, annoyed. Lucas remained relaxed. He told her not to glare at him like that. After all, they were cousins. This statement made Iwa furious. She yelled, "How rude! I've never heard of having any cousins. To punish the imposter, Iowa activated a magic circle. A glowing hexagon enveloped Lucas. She gritted her teeth and gave a cruel command. Start fire dancing. Let everyone see how useless you are. Lucas just smiled at Awa's attack. He taunted her. Using mind magic on a relative you just met? Is this how the Miranda family raises their children? Iowa was shocked. Her strongest magic was completely useless. Inwardly, Lucas scoffed. Such cheap magic couldn't control a martial artist, not one with a will as strong as his. Just then, the announcer called his name. Lucas Rien, prepare for your test. He walked away calmly. Sorry, I have to go. Unwilling to give up, Awa pointed at Julia and snapped. Julia, don't get complacent. I will take first place in this test. Looking at the ranking board, Julia was first. Iowa was second. Lucas understood. She came here to declare war. For his own peace, he told himself, he couldn't let his sister lose her top spot. Lucas took out a pill. Julia, want some candy? He asked. Julia innocently popped it into her mouth, but she immediately started coughing violently. She cried out, You tricked me. What kind of candy is as bitter as poison? Lucas chuckled and apologized. He explained it was a special magic potion. It was made from rare ingredients. She would soon feel its effects. The examiner urged him onto the field. Lucas waved goodbye. I'll improve the flavor next time. I'm off now. Julia could only watch resentfully. She no longer trusted her brother's promises. Lucas confidently stepped into the arena before the examiner. The man instructed him. Attack this training dummy with all your magic power. We'll evaluate your destructive force for a final score. Now, begin. Lucas replied calmly, I don't know how to use magic. The examiner looked stunned. Lucas tightened his fist and asked, Can I use a physical attack instead? Seeing Lucas prepare for the test with just a punch, the crowd began to whisper. They mocked him. Is he trying to punch it? He'll break his hand. Such a crude martial artist. He's going to get hurt. Hearing their insults, Julia gritted her teeth in anger. She thought to herself, if her brother hadn't told her to behave, she would have beaten them all up for looking down on him. Standing nearby, Awa whispered curiously, Is it true? Your brother really can't use magic. Even though her mind magic didn't work on Lucas, Awa found it hard to believe. A person with no magic couldn't do anything impressive. She pitied Julia. She thought the poor girl had been deceived by her brother. In her eyes, a martial artist was completely useless. But Julia proudly declared, he really can't use magic, but he's amazing. Suddenly, a deafening explosion erupted. A terrifying shockwave sent everything flying. The entire square shook in a cloud of dust. Awa stared in disbelief at the shattered target and exclaimed, What just happened? 2 minutes earlier, Lucas had carefully asked the examiner. He asked if he could use a physical attack. He got a nod. The method of attack didn't matter. He replied calmly, All right, I'll take care of this piece of scrap metal instantly. Lucas calculated in his head. His martial arts skills evolved every 3 levels. His strongest move, the extreme flash, maxed its speed at level 3. He believed that at level 6, its power would reach a whole new level. Lucas's entire body began to glow. A brilliant golden aura surrounded him. Lucas stomped his foot, gathering momentum. He closed in on the target in an instant. He focused all his energy into his fist. It burned like a fireball. Lucas slammed his fist directly into the giant dummy. The blow carried immense destructive power. It pierced through the target. It created a massive energy explosion. A deep crater was left in the dummy's chest. From a distance, Iowa watched in shock. Her magic eyes were glowing. This speed is insane, she thought. Even high-level wind magic isn't this fast. And the dummy glowed gold. That means the attack was curse level. The other students were still stunned. They wondered if the useless martial artist had really just punched the target away. But Awa already knew the truth. It seems I'm the only one who sees Lucas's true power. She watched Lucas on the monitor. She concluded he was deliberately hiding his strength. He was a truly terrifying person. At the scene, the examiner believed it was a fluke. You're very lucky. This is the first time this dummy has malfunctioned in over a decade. I'll give you a perfect score. Lucas calmly replied, Thank you. Should I clean up this fallen dummy? The examiner waved him off. You can go. It's too heavy. I'll move it with magic later. Lucas smiled and gave Julia a victory sign before walking away. He thought to himself. He not only avoided failing, but also hid his true power. I should really thank those who looked down on me. As time went on, people paid less attention to Lucas. This was exactly what he wanted. However, the spotlight of the entire ceremony fell on Julia. Her innate talent was astounding. She stood in the center of a magic circle. Her platinum hair flowed in a brilliant purple energy. Bolts of lightning began to surround her body. It created a terrifying pressure. The nearby students were stunned with fear. Julia focused all her magic into her staff. She activated the spell, Descent of the Thunder God. A pillar of crimson lightning descended from the sky. It carried devastating power. It swallowed the training dummy in a blinding flash of light. The crowd erupted in amazement. That's red lightning. Her power is off the charts. They began to praise lightning magic as the strongest attack. They wished they could reach her level before graduation. However, when the light faded, everyone was stunned again. Julia was sitting on the ground, looking dazed. Someone wondered if she'd been overwhelmed by her own magic. Julia stared at her hands in disbelief. She couldn't believe it. The scoreboard showed a perfect 9.5. Julia and to her brother. When she used Descent of the Thunder God, red lightning suddenly struck. It shocked her. Before, even at full power, she could only create purple lightning. She felt a much fiercer power than usual. Julia wondered about this strange change. Lucas stood beside her, smiling secretly. He knew the reason. It was the magic pill he gave her earlier. It temporarily boosted her power. Lucas thought, I need to hide the candy, or she'll keep asking for more. He explained that in this world, both mages and martial artists have their own pharmacy skills, but mages need a medium to brew their potions. Martial artists, however, use alchemy techniques. They create pills that can be absorbed directly. But as martial arts declined, alchemy became a lost art. A martial artist creating a power-enhancing pill like Lucas did was extremely rare in this era. The reason was simple. To make that kind of pill, one needed to be a level 6 alchemist. Currently, only one person in the entire empire could do it. Duke Resulgen, the Minister of Martial Affairs. He was a level 9 martial artist. Even the greatest mages had to beg him for pills. Lucas knew revealing this ability would cause huge trouble. He had to keep his level 6 skill a secret. A while later, they were sitting on a stone bench. Julia grew impatient. Is everything done yet? Lucas gently reassured her. Just a little more patience. After the class lists were posted, they could finally rest at the dorms. Just then, Mina appeared. She walked toward the siblings with a folder in her hand. Mina smiled and announced she was here to post the class list. She also offered her warm congratulations. Congratulations, you too. You both ranked number 1 in the elite and martial arts classes. Julia jumped for joy. She never expected to be first in the elite class. Mina turned to Julia. She asked which of the 5 departments she wanted to join. Earth, fire, wind, water, or the special department. She suggested that with the Thunder God's blessing, Julia was a perfect fit for the wind department. Before the girl could react, Mina excitedly took her hand. She pulled her along, saying she'd be waiting for her at the wind department. Watching this, Lucas broke into a cold sweat. He realized the academy was desperate to recruit top talents like his sister. After entrusting his sister to Mina to guide to the girls' dorm, Lucas waved goodbye to Julia. He then headed alone toward the martial arts dorm. Passing a crowded notice board, he heard jealous whispers about Julia's number 1 spot. The students complained. All the new students this year were just background characters for the Ryan Genius. However, in a hidden corner under a tree, a mysterious black-haired girl stared at the list. Her eyes burned with resentment. Lucas stood silently before the martial arts dorm building. He knew this place wasn't well regarded, but the reality was far worse than he imagined. Staring at the ruins before him, he wondered in dismay, can we really live in this? It looks like it's about to collapse. But Lucas quickly composed himself. He told himself that at least here, he'd have a peaceful school life without being bothered. Just then, a tall young man with silver hair appeared from behind. Yo, you're Lucas, the guy who dominated the martial arts department, right? The young man warmly introduced himself. Nice to meet you. I'm Kai Taroy, also from the martial arts department. As they shook hands, Kai praised him endlessly. That punch that sent the dummy flying was really amazing. While signing the register, Lucas replied modestly, I was just lucky. After they finished, the manager handed them keys. Your rooms are on the 2nd floor. Here, take these. Seeing room number 205 inches Lucas's hand, Kai cheered excitedly. We're roommates. Let's go together. Stopping in front of a door, Kai mumbled, Room 205. Here it is. As they opened the door, they saw 2 other roommates already waiting inside. A blue-haired boy smiled and shook their hands. Nice to meet you guys. I'm Ko Lin. Looks like we're roommates from now on. The blonde-haired boy behind him also introduced himself cheerfully. I'm Sap. Nice to meet you. But Kai's face suddenly went pale when he saw the inside. The room looked like an abandoned warehouse. Cobwebs were everywhere. The walls were peeling. The old beds were filthy. Kai covered his face and screamed in horror. What the hell is this room? It's worse than a pigsty. He was in total shock. He jumped when a spider crawled by and asked frantically, Lucas, can you stand this dump? Lucas looked at his friend's expression and thought, what a neat freak. How troublesome. Suddenly, Kai pulled out a shiny gold coin. Ko Lin and Sap's eyes widened in amazement. He held the coin high and declared, I'll give this to whoever cleans this room. Ko Lin and Sap immediately agreed to Kai's offer. Lucas was stunned by his friend's extravagance. He casually offered more than a commoner's monthly salary just to have someone clean the room. It turns out Kai was the young master of the Taroy family, one of the 3 great noble houses in the Northern Empire. While his 2 roommates started cleaning, Kai kept complaining. I didn't sign up to live in a dump like this. Lucas tried to reassure him. This was the prestigious Allen Magic Academy. The living conditions would surely improve soon. But the moment he saw a black spider on the wall, Kai screamed in terror. This is practically a prison cell. Lucas could only remind his friend to watch his mouth, unless he wanted to be dragged away by the student council for insulting the academy. Soon, thanks to the power of money, the room was sparkling clean. Kai excitedly gave the shiny gold coins to Colin and Sap as promised. He then declared, "Don't worry. As long as I'm here, no one will dare mess with you guys." He confidently claimed to be quite famous in this town. His two friends could only look on in admiration. Watching the scene, Lucas thought to himself, Kai might be a bit arrogant, but he was generous. It was hard to dislike him. Just then, an older man knocked and entered. He was carrying new uniforms. He announced he was here to deliver them. He told the group to change quickly. They needed to attend the opening ceremony in the Great Hall. As soon as he picked up the uniform, Kai panicked again. What is this cheap, ragged uniform? If I wear this, I'll look like a total loser. While Colin and Sap thought it wasn't so bad, Lucas began to think about something he'd heard. He knew the academy had a student request system. An idea sparked. He said to Kai, if we demand to be treated better at the ceremony, maybe they'll give us better uniforms. Kai immediately fell for it. He urged everyone to hurry to the Great Hall. Lucas sighed. Such a gullible chick, so easy to fool. The group left the dorm together. They headed for the majestic Great Hall. A giant statue of a mage on a broom stood out front. Lucas put on the new uniform and stepped inside. He was overwhelmed by the splendor and grandeur of the Academy's Great Hall. Brilliant chandeliers lit up the vast space. Hundreds of students were gathered. Lucas thought, what a luxurious hall. Hearing this, Kai, standing next to him, kept his arrogant expression. He claimed this place was nothing compared to his family's mansion. Lucas started looking around worriedly. Where's Julia? Kai quickly understood and pointed to the front rows. Looking for your sister? The elite class always gets the front seats. Their uniforms look amazing, too. He also reminded Lucas that martial arts students had to sit in the farthest rows. If he wanted to talk to his sister, he had to do it now. Lucas looked at Julia and smiled to himself. My sister looks beautiful in anything. She's the best. The group trudged to the back of the hall. Kai couldn't help but grumble. The martial arts department was being discriminated against with these terrible seats. Lucas quietly settled into his seat next to his new friends. He prepared for the ceremony to begin. Suddenly, a fire blazed violently from above. It caught the attention of all the new students. A powerful level 6 fire spell called Flying Swarm appeared. It blazed brightly, engulfing the hall as the crowd watched in awe. In the middle of the sea of flames, a young man with brilliant red hair appeared majestically. He declared, "New students, you should feel honored." He slowly landed on the stage and introduced himself. I am Ted Faremel, the Student Council President. Today, I will introduce you to our school's point system. Witnessing a level 6 magic display before graduation, the students below cheered wildly. Amazing. His aura is incredible. He's a true genius. While everyone was excited, Lucas remained calm. He watched the president on stage. Ted continued to explain. At Allen Magic Academy, the point system was the foundation of everything. Any academic resource could be exchanged for points, magic skills, rare books, rare materials, tame beasts, and even direct guidance from great masters. Ted listed ways to earn points. First was manual labor like mining or cooking, but this only earned 1 to 5 points per hour, an extremely small amount. He emphasized that instead of labor, participating in department events was much more efficient. Even today's orientation was a golden opportunity for upperclassmen to earn points. Another way to get a stable monthly income was to join the student council. The president earned 500 points, the vice president earned 200, and members earned 100. Finally, there was a riskier method, hunting monsters. He explained that behind the school was the Demon Beast Mountain Range. It was famous for countless ferocious beasts. If students could hunt them and turn in the collected materials, they would receive corresponding points. Hearing this, Lucas wasn't scared. He grinned confidently. The Demon Beast Mountain Range? That's my personal playground. A few hours later, after nightfall, Lucas began his plan. Thanks to the soothing incense, his roommates were all fast asleep. Lucas sneaked out of the dorm. He thought about the martial arts dorm's location. Being at the edge of campus was a huge advantage. He could act without being discovered. Standing behind the building, Lucas looked up. A towering wall separated the school from the outside world. He knew that once he crossed this wall, he would enter the dangerous Demon Beast Mountain Range. Without hesitation, Lucas stomped his foot for momentum. He leaped high into the air. He crossed the solid wall like a ghost in the night. He plunged straight into the ancient forest, where beasts lurked. The moment he landed, a giant, purple-skinned beast lunged at him. Lucas swiftly dodged the attack. He spun around and unleashed a lightning kick. The powerful blow slammed into the monster's head. It crashed to the ground, creating a deep crater. Looking at the defeated beast, Lucas identified it. It was a massive black-horned frog. He knew the horn of this poisonous frog was a valuable ingredient. It was used for making magic potions. It would surely trade for a lot of points. Lucas's real goal was to gather enough points. He wanted to acquire the martial god's legendary techniques, They were stored here at Allen Academy. Standing on a cliff under the crescent moon, he quickly scanned the area. He needed to find his next targets. Lucas covered his eyes, activating his ocular art. His pupils glowed with an intense golden light. A wave of spiritual energy spread from his body. It radiated through the forest like a radar, searching for targets. Instantly, a level 1 armored rat charged him. It had rough skin and sharp teeth. Lucas didn't flinch. He threw a powerful, direct punch. The monster collapsed on the spot. He said coldly, "Sleep well, don't be a rat in your next life." The night hunt continued dramatically. He faced a level 3 demon seal leopard. He launched an attack so strong it shattered the ground. He defeated it in an instant. Lucas smiled with satisfaction. He looked at the full sack on his shoulder. What a huge haul today. Besides materials for points, I also have ingredients for alchemy. However, he suddenly noticed something unusual. The forest had become strangely silent. Kneeling to check the ground, Lucas saw something. The tracks of other beasts had almost completely vanished. He suspected a powerful creature was dominating the area. It was scaring the other monsters away. Lucas focused his mind. He activated his spiritual wave again to find the answer. From deep within a dark cave, a dense, blue-purple aura began to radiate threateningly. A pair of fiery purple eyes and sharp fangs filled with killing intent appeared in the darkness. Lucas smirked confidently. "Found you." He raced through the treetops at incredible speed. He realized his opponent had also sensed his presence. Even from a kilometer away, he landed in a clearing. Lucas stood facing a giant creature with gray-white fur. It was a level 6 Icefire wolf. A top-tier predator growled, drool dripping from its fangs. It was ready to tear apart anyone who dared invade its territory. Lucas smiled. He understood. So that's it. As a wolf, its territorial instincts are very strong. The monster immediately lunged to attack, but Lucas was ready. "I've been waiting." The wolf opened its mouth, breathing a bone-chilling frost. But Lucas bravely charged through the icy mist. Lucas's hand was covered in a thin layer of ice, a side effect from his opponent's attack. The wolf was shocked. Its enemy was completely unharmed. Seizing the opening, Lucas delivered a powerful punch to the monster's jaw. The impact was so strong it sent the wolf's massive body flying. It crashed to the ground in pain. Looking at his stunned opponent, Lucas felt a twinge of regret. If I had trained more, I could have blown its leg off. He calmly shook the remaining ice from his hand. He then gave a cold command. "Get up. You're not done with just that, are you?" As if answering the challenge, the wolf struggled to its feet. Blood dripped from its mouth. Its eyes burned with hatred. Flames gathered in its throat. They erupted into a giant, furious fireball. It incinerated everything around it with terrifying heat. The wolf stood in the center of the flames. Its body was now shrouded in a powerful fiery aura. The Icefire wolf roared. Its entire body blazed intensely. It wanted to incinerate the obstacle in its path. Lucas didn't flinch. He clenched his fist. He gathered a glowing spiritual energy for the finishing blow. As his opponent charged, Lucas moved like lightning. He threw a thunderous punch directly into the monster's sharp fangs. The incredible force sent the giant monster flying dozens of meters. It slammed into a cliff face. A massive explosion of dust and debris erupted. The wolf collapsed. Its breathing grew ragged and weak after the brutal attack. Watching the loser from a distance, Lucas thought, "It uses both fire and ice. Huh. And I still beat it to a pulp." The beast lay flat on the ground. Its purple eyes slowly faded with exhaustion. The wolf's pupils trembled with absolute fear. It watched as Lucas's shadow slowly loomed over it. With his golden eyes glowing intensely, Lucas remarked coldly, "What a rare beast." Instantly, the Icefire wolf launched a counterattack. It unleashed 2 powerful streams of energy, ice, and fire, simultaneously. Seeing the white mist envelop the area, Lucas realized, "Is this steam?" Using the thick smoke as cover, the wolf quickly turned. It fled deep into the darkness. Not letting his prey escape, Lucas gave chase. He yelled, "I won't let you get away." He leaped forward. "Where do you think you're going?" His hand grabbed the beast's large body. He slammed it hard onto the ground. Looking down at the defeated creature, Lucas was satisfied. A final boss like this is worth the effort. The points are mine. However, he froze, on high alert. The monster suddenly struggled to its feet. Lucas quickly jumped back. He dodged a terrifying fire explosion. The Icefire wolf madly spewed giant fireballs. It incinerated everything around it in a fit of rage. He darted between waves of heat. The monster continuously roared, unleashing its full firepower to burn its enemy alive. Lucas descended from above like a god. "Stand still, and let me teach you a lesson. Stop struggling." A massive pillar of golden light descended with destructive force. It created a terrifying explosion, sending dirt and rocks flying everywhere. The Icefire wolf lay flattened in a deep crater. Its body was broken, its breathing faint. In utter despair, it wondered, "Am I going to die here?" Realizing there was no escape from Lucas's overwhelming power, the monster resorted to its last option to survive. Instead of fighting back, it suddenly curled up. It whimpered pitifully. Its eyes showed complete submission to its conqueror. Two brilliant orbs of energy appeared. One was icy blue, the other was fiery red. They floated over and landed in Lucas's palm. He was surprised. These were mana cores. They were an extremely rare magic material. They were also the life source of powerful beasts. From what he knew, if a drop of human blood touched a mana core, the beast would become that person's loyal servant forever. Looking at the whimpering wolf at his feet, Lucas asked coldly, "You want to become my beast?" Lucas smiled with satisfaction. "All right, I accept you." This was an unexpected harvest, he thought. Even for high-level mages, taming a level 6 beast as a subordinate was incredibly rare. He felt this wolf wasn't very bright. It gave up its pride so easily. Still, Lucas took out a small knife. He decisively made a small cut on his finger. The moment a drop of fresh blood touched the two energy orbs, a brilliant light erupted. It officially sealed the soul contract between them. As soon as it swallowed the two energy orbs, the Icefire Wolf's aura changed. Lucas was stunned to hear a voice in his head. "It is I, Master." He realized in amazement that after the contract, he could understand its language. Lucas smiled and patted the monster's head. He gave it a new name. "Good boy. From now on, I'll call you Uru." The wolf bowed its head in respect. "Understood, Master," Lucas pondered. If Uru was his subordinate, this entire territory now belonged to him. He wondered if the wolf had collected any valuable loot from its hunts. As if understanding its master's thoughts, it sniffed Lucas's hand. It then eagerly led the way. "My treasure is this way. Please follow me, Master." Lucas followed with a smile. "Oh, you're very thoughtful." They crossed treacherous cliffs, heading deep into the monster's lair. Stepping inside, Lucas was stunned. He saw a huge pile of loot. The pelt of a level 6 beast, the bones of an iron arm ape, and countless sparkling gems. His mouth watered with joy at the thought of all the points he could get. Points! I'm going to be rich. But Uru looked confused. "Master, what are you doing? My treasure isn't this junk. It's over here." Lucas turned and was amazed. He saw a bag full of beast crystals from level 3 and up. There were even two extremely precious level 6 crystals. Uru explained that they were water and fire attribute beast cores it had collected. To level up, it had to eat the cores of opponents with equal or greater strength. Lucas was impressed. It meant Uru had defeated at least two extremely powerful enemies. He took out a pill and rewarded it. "Eat this and work hard for me, my pet." Uru smelled the tempting aroma. Uru immediately swallowed it. It felt a burst of vitality. Its wounds healed quickly. Lucas gave a firm command. "This is a recovery potion for beasts. While you recover, stay here and guard this treasure for me." Uru eagerly accepted the order. "Leave it to me." Lucas stood at the cave entrance with a confident look. "Now then, what's next?" A mysterious smile crossed his face. He seemed ready for his upcoming plans at the academy. The next morning, bright sunlight covered the majestic academy building. Inside the classroom, the new students of the martial arts department had gathered. They were ready for their first day of class. Sitting in class, Lucas couldn't help but yawn. He told himself that even though he stayed up all night, the soothing incense made his fatigue disappear. He recalled the bittersweet scene from last night. He was busy inventorying his treasure. Uru kept bothering him with affectionate licks to the face. The clock struck 9 in the morning, but the classroom remained unusually quiet. Colin looked around and asked, "Where's the teacher?" Logically, the teacher should have been waiting for the new students, not the other way around. Kai was also worried and shouted, "Did they forget to assign a teacher? What kind of school is this?" Lucas calmly replied that was impossible. Suddenly, hurried footsteps echoed down the hall. A man cursed himself for drinking too much last night. The classroom door was then kicked open. It was done so violently that the entire class jumped in surprise. A man with a scruffy beard leaned against the door. He declared, "I'm Sigan, your homeroom teacher for the martial arts department. Class starts now." Lucas silently watched the sloppy-looking professor. His eyes were filled with doubt. Sigan walked to the blackboard. He lazily wrote his name on it. Then he let out a long, tired yawn while holding the attendance book. Kai stared at the disheveled professor with disgust. He leaned close to Lucas and whispered, "What's with this sloppy teacher? He's so annoying to look at." Instantly, a piece of chalk flew through the air. It slammed right into Kai's forehead, making him cry out in pain. Lucas was amazed by Sigan's swift movements. He assessed him inwardly. A level 6 martial artist? This teacher is no joke, Sigan announced coldly. "From now on, talking without my permission is forbidden. I'll now take attendance." He began to call out names. A short-haired girl named Tessie answered loudly. Next, it was Lucas's turn. Looking at Tessie, Lucas remembered. He had seen her at the opening ceremony. She stood out for her composure, unlike the noisy crowd around her. After calling Ko Lin and Sap, Sigan decisively closed the book. He announced, "Good, everyone's here. Let's see. Today's lesson is..." "Oh, I forgot the textbook. Tessie, I'm appointing you as class president. Go to my research room and get the books." Tessie pointed to herself in disbelief. "Huh, me?" Sigan confirmed it nonchalantly. "That's right." Kai immediately slammed his desk and stood up to protest. Wait a minute. The class president should be chosen fairly, through competition among candidates. He began to boast about his wealthy family and his abilities. He claimed that he was the one who deserved to be class president, but before he could finish, another piece of chalk flew at incredible speed. It slammed right into his face. It knocked him backward, and he fell to the floor instantly. Sigyn repeated coldly, no talking. After assigning Tessie to distribute the textbooks and telling the class to self-study for the day, the sloppy professor simply turned and walked out. Tessie answered clearly. A strong determination burned within her. She told herself she would seize this opportunity to change her own destiny. Meanwhile, Kai rubbed his bruised head, whining about the violent teacher. Lucas observed thoughtfully, realizing something was very wrong with this man. When Kai angrily suggested reporting the teacher to get him fired, Lucas remained silent. He watched Sigyn's retreating back. Observing his steps closely, he noticed how the man shifted his weight. It showed he had suffered extremely severe injuries in the past. Lucas was secretly amazed. He wondered, if he's this terrifying now, how strong was he before he was injured? He believed that having such a powerful teacher would make his school life very promising. A few hours later, the group was in front of the academy's cafeteria. Along the way, Kai kept grumbling. That damn teacher had made the whole class self-study all morning. He angrily claimed Sigyn was a terrible teacher. He was irresponsible and arbitrarily appointed a class president. Just then, Julia ran over from a distance, calling out, "Brother!" Lucas affectionately patted his sister's head. He asked about her first day of class. Julia happily shared that her homeroom teacher, Linda, was extremely kind. She even encouraged Julia to do her best. She told me to try to become the class president next week. Hearing this, Kai trembled with frustration. He realized the other classes had a proper election process. They had a week-long process for choosing their president. Unlike his own dictatorial class, Julia curiously asked if her brother was chosen as the class president of the martial arts department. Lucas smiled and replied that it wasn't him. He quickly changed the subject to lighten the mood. More importantly, let's get some lunch. I heard the food here is delicious. Julia excitedly pulled her brother's hand and led him away. Kai was left to jog behind them. At Allen Magic Academy, even eating followed the strict point system. New students with no points were allowed to exchange cash for points only once at the beginning. However, this exchange rate varied depending on the student's department. On the table, delicious-looking cakes and egg rolls gave off a fragrant aroma. Julia was extremely excited. She ate enthusiastically. This is so delicious. Brother, you should eat too. In contrast to the abundance of the elite class, Kai was munching on dry bread. He was filled with utter resentment. He bitterly realized the ridiculous injustice of the academy. For the same amount of money, the elite class gets 100 points, but the martial arts department only gets a measly 10. This is so unfair. Kai even went to the front desk to complain. He only received a cold reply from the staff. Those are the rules. If you don't like it, get out. He could only bow his head in helplessness. The discrimination against martial arts students was open, even from the staff. The bespectacled staff member added more harsh words. He said that here, nobility or commoner status didn't matter. Students without magical talent had to accept the difficulty of earning points. Kai chewed on his bread, tears of self-pity in his eyes. He felt that enrolling here was like being stripped of his human rights. Seeing this miserable sight, Julia gently pushed her tray full of grilled meat towards him. She said, "Kai, you should eat too." This warm gesture moved Kai deeply. He sobbed with gratitude. "Julia, you're such a kind girl." Standing beside them, Lucas was speechless at his new friend's overreaction. Just then, a familiar figure approached their table. Maya Rasta appeared with a bright smile. She greeted them softly. "Hello, Lucas. Hello, Julia. We meet again." Julia cheered and immediately invited Maya to eat with them. Maya politely declined, as she had already eaten. "I ate earlier, but I baked some cookies to thank you for the other day. Would you like to try some?" Julia excitedly took them. She praised them endlessly while enjoying the delicious cookie with a hot coffee. "Wow, these cookies are amazing. Thank you." Even Lucas was drawn in by the wonderful taste. Julia continued to praise Maya's excellent baking skills. Seeing the tasty food, Kai also rushed over to ask for a piece. He showered it with praise. "Delicious. This quality is comparable to the special desserts of the Taroi family. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Kai Taroi." Maya blushed slightly and replied humbly, "I'm Maya Rasta. I'm honored by your compliment." Kai quickly turned to nudge Lucas, teasing him. "Wow, you know such a beautiful girl?" Lucas could only force a smile. He thought to himself that he could never let them know Maya was his former fiancée. After saying goodbye and watching Maya leave, Lucas sighed wearily. He realized the chances of running into acquaintances in this cafeteria were disturbingly high. He remembered an earlier time. Mina had approached their table and asked how the cafeteria food was. Suddenly, whispers filled the air as Ted appeared. He was floating on the balcony with his fire magic. It's Senior Ted. So cool. Lucas thought to himself that this student council president really loved to show off. using magic to fly around even in public places. However, Lucas accidentally discovered the secret behind that glamour. He saw Ted exhausted in a hidden corner. He was chugging a potion and muttering, "That was close. I can barely use level 6 magic." Luckily, thanks to this potion, I managed to look cool in front of the new students. Lucas chewed on a donut, thinking. He once thought Ted was amazing, until he overheard his confession after the opening ceremony. Lost in thought, the sound of a bottle rolling on the floor caught his attention. Huh? He recognized the familiar back of his teacher, Sigyn. He was stumbling along with a bottle of alcohol in his hand. Lucas wondered where his homeroom teacher was going in such a drunken state. Sigyn staggered under the clock tower. His face was flushed, and he muttered drunkenly. Sigyn pushed open the door to the academy's staff room. His colleagues looked on with disapproval. One teacher sighed, "It's Sigyn again. He always keeps everyone waiting." Another was disappointed, hoping he would change after becoming a homeroom teacher. They knew that after what happened in the past, Sigyn could hardly go back to his old self. Ignoring the stares, Sigyn casually sat down and yawned wearily. A female teacher with blonde hair sat opposite him. She watched her slovenly colleague in silence, her eyes full of thought. The headmaster tapped the table to restore order. He announced loudly, "Everyone is here. Let's begin the meeting." With a serious expression, he got straight to the point. This meeting is about the beast taming competition. In the Kamina Empire, which was often attacked by hordes of beasts, taming multiple monsters was a required skill for all mages. Therefore, every year, new students of Allen Magic Academy must participate in the beast taming competition to test their skills. The school had prepared over 2,000 level 1 beasts for the competition, which would take place in 6 days. However, a teacher named Greg spoke up with a contemptuous look. "Let the martial arts department sit this one out. What do they know about beasts? They can't fight them anyway. It's just a waste of time." A loud slam on the table cut Greg off. Sigyn's eyes were dark with pressure. He declared, "I disagree." Greg stammered, claiming he was just concerned for the students' safety. But Teacher Linda immediately spoke up in support. "Teacher Sigyn is right. As new students of this school, the martial arts department must also participate." Even Mina nodded in agreement. All students needed to be treated equally. Greg gritted his teeth in frustration. He couldn't believe there were still teachers who sided with Sigyn, especially Linda, he thought to himself. Does she still think he's a level 8 master? What a delusion. Finally, Greg reluctantly agreed. "Fine, if you all insist, though I'm sure those kids will just end up crying in fear." The headmaster made the final decision. Then it's settled. The martial arts department will also participate. The meeting ended. The teachers left the room one by one in a tense atmosphere. A male teacher worriedly asked Linda if she was really okay with this decision. Greg's point wasn't entirely wrong. The competition was too harsh for martial artists. Linda smiled softly, looking out the window. She remembered what someone had taught her long ago. A coward with no will to overcome difficulties has no right to call himself a martial artist. That was also why Sigyn decided any student who refused to participate would be personally expelled by him immediately. Sigyn announced that the beast taming competition would officially take place in 6 days. Right after this class, he ordered everyone to the training grounds. He wanted to ensure they all had the necessary strength to defeat the beasts. Kai immediately spoke up. He argued that the competition was just to choose a class president. Since they already had Tessie, there was no need to participate. Before he could finish his sentence, a sharp crack echoed as Sigyn punished the talkative student with a painful knock on the head. Seeing Kai with a huge bump on his head, Lucas could only sigh. His friend had a talent for angering teachers. Lucas thought about the upcoming combat practice. He reminded himself, "I need to hold back. One slip-up, and I'll send my friends flying." On the training grounds, the atmosphere was lively as students began to spar. Lucas looked around. He noticed that those who passed the entrance exam all possessed considerable skill, especially Tessie. Lucas judged that Tessie's strength was probably second only to his. He acknowledged that Sigyn had a keen eye for talent when he chose her as class president. Meanwhile, Lucas easily defeated his opponent with a gentle push, expending no effort. The practice ended when a staggering Sigyn, bottle in hand, announced that time was up. Kai lay on the grass, out of breath. He whimpered with joy that the ordeal was finally over. Ho-Lin and Sap came over. They said they were going to the cafeteria. They promised to bring back food for Kai as agreed. Lucas curiously asked if Kai had made another deal. Kai proudly explained that he had hired Ko-Lin to buy his food for 2 points, in exchange for 2 gold coins. According to him, it was a win-win situation. Ko-Lin got extra spending money, and he saved precious points for other things. Sap seemed jealous he missed out on the deal. Kai quickly promised to let him handle the next order. Watching this, Lucas secretly praised Ko-Lin's cleverness. He knew how to make money while maintaining a good relationship with his roommates. Kai puffed out his chest and asked Lucas if he thought he was smart. He even offered to teach him for free. He slung his arm around Lucas's shoulder. They left the training grounds together. Lucas just smiled and declined Kai's offer. "Thanks, but I'll pass. I can't afford it." Kai watched him with envy. He thought that because Lucas had a sister in the elite class, He never had to worry about points or food. But Kai was completely wrong. That night, under the crescent moon, Lucas stood triumphantly on the body of a giant, defeated beast. He thought to himself, even without Julia, I have no trouble with food. After all, I'm enjoying nature's bounty like this. In the quiet night by the cliff, a large piece of meat was roasting over a fire, giving off a rich aroma. Lucas sat alone, thinking, if I didn't have to go with Julia, I could have used dinner time for more training. But the image of Mina deliberately approaching his sister during dinner came back to him. It bothered him. Lucas's eyes narrowed sharply. He vowed to never let his guard down. If she truly had bad intentions, he would make her regret it. Suddenly, a wagging white tail caught his attention. Uru was staring at the roasted meat. His eyes sparkled and he drooled with anticipation. Lucas smiled and offered the meat. Here, eat up. You've got it good, Uru, having such a dedicated master. Looking at the wolf's happy face, he thought Uru was actually quite cute, and having a beast subordinate to get free food wasn't bad at all. But as soon as Uru finished eating, Lucas stood up and cracked his knuckles menacingly. All right, after eating, you'll train with me. I promise I won't hurt you. It seems even a subordinate couldn't enjoy a free meal in peace. At the same time, at the Ryan family mansion, Lady Catherine sat quietly in the garden under the moonlight, a worried look on her face. Hearing slow footsteps approach, she remained still in the silent space. Hojia came and placed a hand on his wife's shoulder. He asked gently, Catherine, are you worried about the children again? Catherine lowered her head and replied sadly, yes. I can't hide anything from you. Hojia looked at Catherine with concern. The kids must have started their classes by now. If you miss them so much, why don't we go visit? Seeing his wife still teary-eyed from missing her children, he gently comforted her. He said he had business in town anyway, so he would take her with him. Catherine burst with happiness and exclaimed, thank you so much. I'm so happy I'll get to see the children again. Meanwhile, at the Grin estate, a strange ceremony was taking place in a gloomy atmosphere. Masked figures respectfully greeted a mysterious woman who had just appeared. She raised a hand with purple nails, introducing a new drug called Jade Dream. To demonstrate, she casually injured herself. She let her red blood flow into wine glasses. She called it a toast, so that everyone could enjoy the party to the fullest. The blue-haired woman turned her back. She revealed a glowing, demonic seal and announced, now then, let today's game begin. The mysterious figures began to discuss how an one-year-old girl had single-handedly destroyed a gang. After the ceremony, the blue-haired woman lay next to Jessica. She remarked that Julia had received a level 7 blessing. It seemed Catherine's child had inherited the Miranda family's talent. However, she gave a contemptuous smile. Level 7 to beat number 4? In her dreams, she continued to whisper venomous words into Jessica's ear. She mocked that no matter how hard her daughter tried, she would never achieve the desired results. With a wicked look in her eyes, she asked directly, you want to kill Catherine and her daughter to become the Countess, don't you? Jessica admitted without hesitation, yes. What should I do? The blue-haired woman smiled with satisfaction. She touched a glowing magic circle and thought to herself, the moment a budding flower withers is truly a beautiful sight. The next morning, combat training continued. The students were exhausted. Tessie announced the training plan. The students below complained, no way, my whole body aches. I was in so much pain last night, I couldn't sleep. Teacher Saigon is a demon. Seeing this, Tessie was surprised by everyone's exhaustion. Lucas realized that he and his roommates were still perfectly fine. He wondered if his group was just more resilient than the others. Kai immediately puffed up his chest, boasting, of course, it's because I'm so awesome. Who else would be the strongest in class? Lucas just smiled to himself. He knew the group's alertness was actually thanks to the soothing incense he had used the night before. Watching from a distance, Tessie was impressed by the stamina of Lucas's group. She believed that with this foundation, they could endure tougher training and become promising martial artists. Soon after, Kai shouted excitedly, let's go. He then suddenly lunged at Lucas to start the sparring session. Kai threw a flurry of fast punches, but Lucas remained calm, easily parrying them. He didn't want to reveal his true strength too much. Lucas secretly activated a level 5 restriction. It suppressed his power to a minimum. The two engaged in a dramatic exchange of techniques. Kai grinned excitedly at his opponent's resilience and admitted, not bad. Lucas also smirked back, you too. However, in the middle of the fight, Lucas's keen senses made him freeze. He felt a strange presence secretly watching him from afar. He narrowed his eyes. He looked towards an ancient tree at the edge of the training grounds. An old man with white hair and a beard was sitting there mysteriously. He watched his every move. Seeing Lucas suddenly lose focus, Kai also looked over curiously. What about the old man over there? Kai lunged forward, yelling, you're too careless. Take this. But Lucas quickly dodged the attack. Kai lost his balance and fell flat on his face. Kai got up angrily. His eyes burned with determination. Don't look away. We'll fight until we have a winner. Lucas just calmly replied, fine, I'll indulge you. He then returned to his defensive stance. From afar, the old man, Otani, smiled mysteriously. He then quietly left. A girl approached and asked if he needed help getting back to the library, but Otani declined. He wanted to walk back alone. In his mind, he couldn't stop thinking about Lucas, an interesting young man who was hiding his true strength, so much so that even a veteran like him couldn't see through it. He told himself he would definitely remember the name Lucas. A few hours after practice ended, Teacher Sigin gathered the class. He taught them a massage technique. He told everyone to memorize it well, as it was very important. The effect of the massage was incredible. It relieved all the students' muscle fatigue in an instant. Lucas thought that this would make his classmates forget that only his group of 4 had been full of energy since the morning. After class, he decided to buy the necessary materials to build his own new training ground. Lucas went to the Allen Academy's magic materials store. It was a luxurious and spacious place, like a shopping mall. It sold countless rare items that ordinary people would never have a chance to touch. Just like everywhere else at the academy, all payments here are made with points. A high-grade training dummy cost 30 points. Lucas sighed. Everything was way too expensive for him. He estimated he would need to spend 100 points each month just for training. He knew Julia had a lot of points, but Lucas told himself he couldn't keep relying on his sister. It would be a shame if she spent all her allowance on him instead of food. In the end, he decided to just buy magical herbs for his bath. Everything else would wait until he could trade the materials from Uru's cave for points. Across the room, a girl had fallen asleep. She was surrounded by stacks of books and a cold cup of coffee. Lucas placed a heavy sack on the counter. He confidently held out his card and said, "Bag all of this for me. No need to check the price." After checking, she announced the total was 5 points. As soon as Lucas swiped his card, the magic orb lit up, displaying a bright number 5. The staff member was shocked when she saw his uniform. It was for the martial arts department. These students usually only get 10 points to start, yet he just spent half of it in one go. After the payment was confirmed, Lucas happily took the large sack and didn't forget to thank her. "Thank you very much." As he turned to leave, the worried staff member called out, "Hey, aren't you afraid of wasting money buying so much? Don't come crying later." Lucas turned back with a confident smile. "I still don't think this is enough. I'll be back for more later." Her anger flared at his attitude. The martial arts department doesn't even have herbalism classes. What's he planning to do with all that? This kind of spending. He must be a noble. She sighed, watching Lucas's retreating back. "Seriously, this is why I hate nobles." He brought his haul to his secret cave. Lucas was enjoying a relaxing soak in a steaming hot bath. He casually tossed the herbs he just bought into the tub. Lucas thought that even in bathwater, the herbs' effects wouldn't be lost. It would be a waste to just throw them away. Looking at the medicinal water, he chuckled to himself. "But I can't just make someone drink my bathwater." Lucas stepped out of the medicinal bath feeling refreshed. "Ah, that was great. Now, should I go get some materials to trade for points?" To avoid too much attention, he decided to only bring common grade 2 materials. He left the rarer items behind. Suddenly, a strange noise from behind made Lucas jump. He was stunned. He saw Uru calmly lapping up all the water in the tub. Lucas yelled in alarm. "Uru, what the hell are you doing? Did you just drink all the water I just bathed in?" Facing the wolf's guilty eyes, Lucas could only sigh in defeat. However, he soon realized it wasn't so bad. The medicinal water would also help make Uru's body stronger. The gluttonous wolf even made a demand. "Thanks, master. But I'm still hungry. Can I have some beef?" Lucas smiled and scolded him affectionately. "You greedy wolf. At least this solves the problem of wasting the medicinal water." He began planning. He would secretly transport the materials for points during off-peak hours over the next 3 days to avoid suspicion. Late at night, Lucas was hauling heavy equipment from the store to the dorms. Mina suddenly appeared behind him. She offered to help with magic. "That looks heavy. Should I use magic to move it for you?" Lucas quickly refused. "It's fine. I'm okay. I can carry it myself." Lucas thought it was lucky she assumed his family had sent the materials. This helped him out. It concealed the fact that he was frequently entering and exiting the demonic beast mountain range. Time flew by. The demonic beast taming tournament was just around the corner. At the training grounds, Instructor Sigin was raging at his students. "Do you guys have any motivation at all? The tournament is tomorrow. Stop being lazy just because you hate training. If you don't want to, then just go home." He relentlessly pointed out fatal flaws in everyone's technique, from Sarb's high kicks to Kai's shaky stance. "You're so weak you couldn't even catch a bird, let alone fight a demonic beast." Kai immediately protested, his pride wounded. "I object. I've actually defeated Lucas, Sarp, and Colin." But before he could finish, the instructor took him down with a single flick to the forehead. He turned to the other 3. "Did you 3 really lose to this guy?" For various reasons, like not wanting to offend a noble or simply avoiding trouble, all 3 confirmed it in unison. "Yes." Sigin held his head in frustration. "Damn, troublesome nobles. They can't do anything right." To test their true strength, He ordered Taisi to spar with Kai. Kai eagerly got into his stance. He confidently declared he wouldn't hold back. He would prove with his strength that he was the most deserving of the class president position. Taixi took a defensive stance. She smiled humbly. "Please go easy on me." Immediately, Kai charged forward to attack. His speed was incredible. "Take this," he shouted. However, Taxi's agility far exceeded his expectations. Kai was stunned. "So fast," he gasped. She didn't give her opponent a moment to recover. Taixi closed the distance with swift, deadly movements. The match ended decisively. Kai was sent flying backward. He crashed painfully into the fence. The surrounding students were shocked. Did Kai really lose? He's so built, but he still got wrecked. Witnessing this, Lucas understood why Instructor Sigen chose Taixi as class president. Instructor Sigen's sharp, intense gaze was a warning. Demonic beasts will never go easy on you. All of you, go all out. Lucas realized Kai's mistake. He was too focused on attacking and forgot to defend. This created an opening for Taixi to finish him. Taixi kindly walked over to check on him. "Are you okay?" But Kai could only remain silent, still in shock. Sigen announced clearly, "Listen up. Tomorrow, each of you must tame at least one demonic beast." Sigen's next threat sent a chill down the entire class's spine. "If you fail, you will be expelled from the martial arts department immediately." Kai trembled with fear. Meanwhile, the disheveled professor casually turned and walked away. He ordered the class to train until dark. While Kai sat in a daze, Lucas approached him and pointed out his weakness. "Your defense was completely neglected. If you can fix that habit and attack your enemy's weak points, you'll be fine." However, Kai's face turned beet red. He yelled out a shocking truth. "No, it's not that. I've fallen for Taisi." Lucas froze at the unexpected confession. Kai dreamily recalled that it was the first time in his life a girl had hit him, and Taishi's movements looked so cool. He even excitedly boasted that he had already thought of names for them, for their future children. Lucas was speechless. He silently wondered if this guy was some kind of masochist. Does Kai have a thing for getting beaten up? The next day, the taming tournament officially began in a giant arena. An announcement called for students to prepare to enter. Standing before the grand arena, Kai began to tremble. He could hear the roars of demonic beasts echoing from below. "It's so loud. How many of them are in there? Just thinking about those monsters roaring right under my feet is terrifying." At the same time, Magic Department students from above jeered at them. "The Martial Arts Department is participating? Did they come to be beast fodder?" Suddenly, Sigen appeared from behind. His intense presence silenced the arrogant crowd. He warned them coldly, "If you have time to think about useless things, you should be cramming the tournament rules into your heads." The magic students quickly agreed and backed away. Lucas was surprised to see Instructor Sigen defending his students. However, Kai couldn't stop shaking with anxiety before the life or death moment. To calm his friend, Lucas gently advised, "Just imagine they're Instructor Sigen. Then you can go all out, nothing to worry about." Kai imagined himself pummeling a super weak version of Instructor Sigen. He burst out laughing. "That's awesome. I'm feeling fired up now." Seeing his friend's excitement, Lucas could only play along. "You brats. I heard everything." Right after, Lucas started giving Kai practical strategic advice. "You remember what we talked about yesterday, right? Low-level demonic beasts can't break your defense. So if you focus on defending, you'll definitely win." Kai declared he wouldn't repeat yesterday's mistake. Even Saigen had to silently admit that Lucas gave really high-quality advice. On the arena's large screen, the judge announced the rules. In this tournament, those who tame 10 demonic beasts will receive a perfect score. Points will be deducted for those who accidentally kill them. The time limit is 10 minutes. If you're injured, call out loudly for the teachers outside the arena. Immediately after, Julia walked out confidently. She was in the first group of contestants to enter the challenge area. She stepped through the magic gate. Julia was surprised to find herself in a vast barrier space. "This is a barrier space? So that's it. I was wondering how 50 demonic beasts could fit in such a small building." From the darkness, 2 giant demonic bears with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth suddenly appeared. Instead of being scared, Julia flashed a mischievous smile. She casually remarked, "This one's small and cute. Let's catch it." The girl raised her staff. She activated a brilliant purple magic circle and unleashed her Thunder Ring spell. Powerful bolts of lightning erupted. They engulfed the demonic beasts, making them roar in pain. According to the rules, all beasts in the tournament are coated with a special magic dye. When they are tamed, a thick purple smoke rises from their bodies. Outside the barrier, teachers used magic circles to sense the situation inside. This allowed them to accurately track the number of beasts each student had tamed for fair scoring. The judge outside couldn't help but sweat when he saw the signal from Area 5. "Is the counter broken? How did she finish so fast?" An announcement echoed through the arena. "Area 5, mission complete, exam finished. Next contestants, please prepare." Julia calmly walked out of the barrier. To everyone's amazement, the blonde female teacher praised her lavishly. "Finished in just 3 minutes. What an incredible result." Julia politely thanked her, then quickly asked about her brother. When she learned the martial arts students in Area 10 would go last, she decided to buy snacks while she waited. However, behind the dark gate, a mysterious shadow silently watched Julia's every move with calculating eyes. She wondered if the martial arts boy could create another shocking miracle like he did at the opening ceremony. 2 hours passed. The atmosphere in the arena grew somber as contestants emerged one by one. It seemed this test was quite difficult. Kai started trembling again. He doubted their group could even remain in the martial arts department given the tournament's harshness. Lucas reassured his friend, "Don't worry. In terms of actual strength, we martial artists are no less than those mages." Instructor Siggins suddenly spoke up, shattering the students' self-doubt. "Why the low self-esteem? If you can't even handle a grade 1 beast, you should just pack up and go home." He emphasized that martial artists always surpass low-level mages in both physical strength and close combat. He demanded the class have more confidence in themselves. This rare encouragement shocked Kai and Colin. Instructor Siggin was known for being harsh. Just then, Taishi returned after secretly scouting the situation. She reported that most of the other contestants were just exhausted from overusing magic. They weren't in any real danger. Taishi had also gathered important information. The demonic beast's movement range was limited by the barrier for safety. She advised that if they encountered a strong opponent, they could retreat to find an easier target. They just needed to manage their stamina to guarantee a score. A hit-and-run strategy was the best approach. Hexie's heartfelt advice excited the entire class. They cheered in unison for their amazing class president. Instructor Siggin was also secretly pleased. He knew he'd put his trust in the right person. However, a mocking smile and a contemptuous voice suddenly rang out. Well, no wonder I sensed someone sneaking around and eavesdropping. Turns out it was someone from the martial arts department." Greg appeared with an arrogant look. He claimed that because Siggin and his students were talentless, they had to resort to cheap tricks like eavesdropping to score points. Greg coldly announced it was the martial arts department's turn to prepare to enter the arena. He didn't forget to add a threat. If they didn't do well, the martial arts department would soon be wiped from the academy's records. And in fact, a place like this should never have been established in the first place. Watching Greg walk away with an arrogant laugh, Lucas's eyes darkened with a murderous aura. He reminded him of the bullies from his past life, those who always looked down on others because of their own status. Lucas stepped forward decisively. He asked to confirm his priority right. "After this, I'll be the first one to enter the arena, since I ranked first at the opening ceremony, right?" Seeing the serious expression and the pressure radiating from his student, Siggin offered to let someone else go if he was worried. Lucas's eyes suddenly blazed with a powerful golden light. He coldly rejected the offer. "No need to switch. Just let me in. I'll take care of all of them." He vowed to achieve an outstanding result. He would put those who dared to look down on the martial arts department in their place. Seeing his confidence, Kai and Sob were fired up. "That's right. Let's show them our true power." Instructor Siggin, standing behind them, was surprised to see his students' attitudes change so quickly. Kai even reminded him not to forget what Lady Taixi had said. Lucas was speechless at his roommate's simplicity. 10 minutes later, in Test Area 10, Lucas dashed into the thick fog. He realized that if he dodged the traps, he could act freely without anyone knowing. When a demonic beast acknowledges a master, their souls connect. This allows the person to temporarily use their abilities. Uru, who was gnawing on a bone, had to stop and ask, "Master, you're already so strong. Why bother using my power?" Lucas didn't answer. He immediately activated the power. A giant spectral wolf's leg enveloped his own. It enhanced his speed and explosive power. Using brute force to suppress these low-level demonic beasts was incredibly easy. The surrounding demonic beasts fled in terror from the presence of a high-level predator. However, instead of attacking directly, Lucas realized it would be more effective to psychologically corner the beasts and crush their will to fight. The presence of a high-level beast spirit image like Uru's easily made the weaker ones tremble in fear. Lucas was pleased to see the magic owl quickly submit, but he also reminded himself to be careful. He couldn't let the magic smoke leak too far outside the barrier, not before he made every single beast in the arena submit to him. Meanwhile, outside the arena, the scoreboard still showed a big fat 0 next to Lucas Rian's name. Half the time had already passed. Seeing the pathetic result, Greg didn't miss the chance to mock him. Scoring 0 points means he can't even defeat the lowest level demonic beasts. This is the massive difference between a martial artist and a mage. These words infuriated Julia. She yelled to defend her brother. "Don't you dare mock my brother. He may not be able to use magic, but he's truly amazing." Greg just snorted in disdain. He thought she had lost her judgment, just like Lena, and he asserted that the results on the scoreboard would speak for themselves. However, just as Greg finished speaking, the announcer's voice suddenly rang out. 1 point scored, Lucas Rian. His friends cheered with joy. At least Lucas had scored enough to stay in the department. Greg still looked smug. He thought 1 point was nothing when the best student in his class had already scored 5. But his smile quickly vanished as the number on the scoreboard shot up to 2, 3, 4. then stopped at 5. Greg was so shocked he broke out in a cold sweat. He couldn't believe a trash martial artist could match his own class's highest record. Greg's face must look hilarious right now. Inside the barrier, Lucas stood casually on the head of a giant, completely subdued snake. He calculated that after he had subdued and terrified the beasts, his classmates could now easily score points without any trouble. Now, it was time for Lucas to end his performance and leave. He shot forward like a lightning bolt, taking down his 6th, 7th, and 8th targets in just a few seconds. Lucas scored his 9th point by defeating a demon bat in midair. The owl from before was unlucky enough to fall into Lucas's sights once again. It cried silent tears when it saw the Grim Reaper suddenly return. With his 10th and final strike, Lucas officially completed the exercise. The score left Greg frozen in astonishment. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. Lucas Rian achieves a perfect score of 10 points. Julia looked up at the screen with sparkling, proud eyes and cheered. "My brother is the best. No one can beat him." Lucas walked out of the arena amidst the stunned murmurs of the crowd. "A martial arts student got a perfect score? Are you kidding me?" Julia joyfully rushed to hug her brother. "I knew you'd be fine." Lucas gently patted his sister's head. Greg still couldn't accept the truth. He roared in anger. "There's no way a martial arts freshman could make 10 demonic beasts submit. Sigan, you must have used a stand-in or some other trick, right?" Immediately, the nearby judge spoke up, reprimanding Greg. "Are you implying that I took a bribe and covered up cheating?" Greg's face paled. He realized he had just offended someone in power. He trembled with regret. "Damn it, I completely forgot about the judge's presence. Angering people with this kind of authority is a terrible idea." He quickly waved his hands, making excuses. He was only suspicious because Lucas had broken a training dummy during the entrance exam. The judge made a firm decision. "Then let's go inside the barrier space and check." Sigan looked annoyed that the martial arts department was being unreasonably suspected. Just because the martial arts department got a perfect score, they have to re-examine everything. What an insult. Lucas remained calm. Let them be. Let them do whatever they want. 10 minutes later, inside the barrier, the magic owl slowly opened its eyes as the magic gate began to open. Seeing the exit, it realized the powerful being from before was gone and immediately called to its comrades. "We're free. That scary guy is gone. Everyone, run!" Just as the beasts were about to escape, the judges quickly used their authority to activate golden magic circles. Chains of light bound the owl in midair, rendering it immobile. The judges noted the beasts were quite agitated, but not enough to change the test location. One of them still wondered if Lucas had truly earned his score legitimately. The head judge observed thoughtfully, then silently concluded, "I find no evidence, but something definitely happened to these beasts." The judges decided to let the tournament continue. The 10 beasts Lucas had just faced would be taken for detailed examination. Soon after, the announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "No issues found with the inspection results. Next contestant, please prepare." Lucas stood with his arms crossed calmly. He thought that even though they found no errors, they clearly still didn't fully trust his abilities. Looking towards Taixi, Lucas smirked slightly. "Interesting. But the real surprise has only just begun." When it was her turn, Taixi decisively charged into the arena with fierce determination. She told herself she absolutely could not lose to Lucas. As soon as she entered the barrier, she quickly devised a strategy. If she couldn't make an opponent submit within 30 seconds, she would immediately switch targets to save time. However, the demonic beast suddenly froze. Its eyes widened in terror when it saw Taixi. It trembled, realizing the scent and aura on this girl were very similar to the monster that had tormented its comrades earlier. It was terrified. It frantically wondered if that fearsome creature was still lurking nearby. Seizing the opportunity, Taixi threw a powerful punch. It made the grade 3 Shadow Wolf whimper and immediately bow in submission. She couldn't help but be puzzled. A grade 3 wolf went down that fast? Something feels wrong. She looked at her own hands. Taichi's eyes lit up with confidence. She wondered if martial arts students weren't as weak as everyone thought. With rising momentum, Taishi successively defeated a giant lizard, then a giant boar, making the scoreboard continuously tick upward. In the stands, Kai enthusiastically cheered for his goddess, while instructor Saigen maintained a thoughtful expression. Taishi's score soared from 3, 4, all the way to 5. She unleashed powerful punches, conquering her 6th and 7th targets in the blink of an eye. Soon after, she took down her 10th target, officially completing the test with a perfect score. The entire arena erupted in shock. Another perfect score. Taishi's completion time was even shorter than Lucas's, making Kai cheer wildly. Witnessing this unbelievable sight, the judges were once again thrown into confusion. What is happening? Another technical error? They quickly ordered this group of beasts to be taken for immediate inspection. Amidst the murmurs, Taichi stood proudly, looking at Lucas with a radiant smile. She silently confirmed that just as Lucas had said, these demonic beasts weren't as scary as she thought, and martial artists were definitely not weaker than mages. The third match went by in a flash, as a demon bat was sent flying by a powerful energy blast. Anto flashed a bright smile. He easily added his name to the list of perfect 10 scorers. The whole martial arts department is hacking the game, folks. Immediately after, in the fourth match, Colin unleashed a thunderous kick, felling a giant ape. He brought home another perfect 10 for the martial arts department. In the fifth match, Kai poured all his strength into his fist, stunning a tiger. The beast was so terrified it shed tears before completely submitting. Kai stood arrogantly over the creature's body, a confident, contemptuous look on his face as he received the perfect score announcement. On the leaderboard, martial arts students like Julia, Lucas, and Taisi continuously dominated the top spots. This created a true earthquake, shaking the entire academy to its core. Witnessing the martial arts department's performance, which exceeded all expectations, Saigen smiled with immense satisfaction. He quietly slipped into a hidden corner and took a long, refreshing swig of alcohol to celebrate his students' victory. After placing the beasts in cages for a thorough inspection, the judges were shocked to confirm there were no abnormalities with the barrier or their physical conditions. Regarding the martial arts department's outstanding results, they concluded the beasts must have been terrified by attacks from the magic classes that competed earlier. The martial artist's aggressive, close combat style pushed the beasts' fear to the extreme. This was the first time this department had ever participated. The long-bearded headmaster Otani thoughtfully made the final decision. I see. From next year on, let the martial arts department compete first. This year's results will stand. This declaration shocked Greg so much, he blurted out, "What?" He couldn't accept the martial arts department surpassing the magic classes to stand alongside the elite class at the top. Facing the headmaster's cold gaze and his question, "Is that so? Do you have any objections?" Greg could only stammer, "No, I have no objections." However, he still grumbled that the martial arts department's top rank was pure luck, not real skill. Headmaster Otani coldly dismissed his claim. Luck is also a part of one's ability. Since this is not the students' fault, we cannot nullify their results. The other teachers agreed that the headmaster's opinion was entirely correct. Greg could only grit his teeth and obey before leaving resentfully. Looking at Instructor Sigen's back, he seethed with a bitter desire for revenge. "Sigen, I will remember this." In the demonic beast enclosure, a high-ranking official approached Headmaster Otani and asked seriously, "This is a matter of survival for the martial arts department. As a grade 9 martial artist, you must have realized the true cause, right?" The headmaster replied pensively, "It's not convenient to discuss, but our school can rest assured. There is no harm." Looking towards the academy tower, he silently vowed to keep the secret of Lucas's true strength, just as the young man wished. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Kai was laughing smugly about his perfect score. "Unbelievable. I have to tell my father immediately." He excitedly claimed that taming demonic beasts wasn't as hard as people said. He believed their group had improved dramatically since the entrance exam. Lucas sighed in relief that no one suspected him. He smiled and played along. It's all thanks to Instructor Saigen's special training. Kai sat down and eagerly asked the group, "Hey guys, what are you going to do with the 20 bonus points for taking the top spot?" Colin and Saab planned to save the bonus points for emergencies or to treat the group to a meal. However, Kai immediately dismissed that idea. Points are meant for buying top-tier gear for real combat training. That's the only way. Hearing the phrase real combat training, Lucas couldn't help but be curious. It was the challenge at the Tower of Iran, a unique training facility at the Magic Academy. Inside the tower was an illusory world. It was filled with countless races, from demonic beasts and beastmen to giants. Since it's all an illusion, participants can't die. It's an excellent opportunity to learn how to fight against various opponents, and to hone one's true combat strength. However, Colin was worried. Only 100 freshmen are allowed into the tower. Since the 12 elite class students are guaranteed spots, their chances of securing the remaining positions are slim. Kai confidently put an arm around Lucas. He asserted that participants are usually chosen based on their ranking in the annual taming tournament. Since they all got perfect scores, they would definitely be on the list. Immediately after, Colin and Saab excitedly ran off to the material shop to buy training equipment. Watching his two friends hurry away, Lucas thought to himself, "Look at them run off to train. Their desire for strength is truly intense." Lucas told himself that secretly helping everyone get perfect scores was the right decision. Lost in thought, he was suddenly grabbed by Kai, who urged him to go to the material shop with them. Lucas firmly refused because he had something more important to do. He took out a pendant shaped like a sharp, intricately carved beast fang. This was the item Instructor Sigen had given him earlier. Lucas squinted at the strange item. He was determined to find out the real secret behind the disheveled professor's gift, a precious reward that only the top 3 in the tournament had a chance to receive. He clicked his tongue in regret, thinking about the rankings. If only I had ranked lower, this would have belonged to Taishi. Noticing Kai looking at him, Lucas casually put the item away and smiled. "My only strength is my luck." Kai sighed and said goodbye. "Whatever. I'm going to the materials shop to catch up with Anto and the others. Lucas nodded in reply. Yeah, see you later. The news that the entire martial arts department had achieved perfect scores was displayed prominently on the large bulletin board. It sent shockwaves of disbelief and controversy throughout the entire academy. Lila, a female student from the magic class and also instructor Greg's student, was so angry she kicked the wall hard. She gritted her teeth and screamed in frustration. We were supposed to get outstanding results for 3 years in a row and become the top class after the elites. With eyes full of hatred, Lila couldn't accept that her father's 10 years of hard work were being ruined by a bunch of martial artists. Lila's anger flared even more when she realized the martial arts department had taken 20 precious slots for the Tower of Iran. A male student standing next to her chimed in with resentment. The tower slots belonged to mages. Those martial artists stole them. Even though someone pointed out that the teachers at the demonic beast base confirmed the martial arts department didn't cheat, it only made the magic students angrier. Another student from instructor Greg's faction stated coldly, the martial arts department clearly bribed the teachers at the beast base. He argued it was entirely possible because the son of the wealthy Taroi family in the martial arts department could easily buy off anyone with money. Andre adjusted his glasses. A calculating glint appeared in his eyes. He revealed he had seen 2 of the Taroi family's lackeys buying out the last of the training equipment at the school's materials shop. Andre worried that when the martial arts department received their 20 bonus points tomorrow, they would continue to take all the valuable materials. Lila coldly gripped her magic staff. She ominously recalled that a martial artist's meridians are more fragile than glass. With a cruel laugh, she vowed to break the arms and legs of those martial artists so they couldn't get stronger. That very afternoon, they planned their attack on the martial arts students. Their first 2 victims, ambushed on the road, were Anto and Desio. Desio yelled out, questioning why they were being attacked so suddenly. Anto was already severely injured with a large gash on his back, groaning in pain. Desio realized with horror that the wound was poisoned. He needed to get his friend treatment immediately. But the mages from the magic class wouldn't let them go. They mocked them. If you want points, we'll grant them to you right now. Lila activated her magic circle. She launched a merciless attack aimed directly at the 2 injured students. Heart-wrenching screams echoed as Desio and Anto were tortured by demonic vines and ice, unable to resist. Lila watched with a vacant expression. She declared coldly, "Shut up. I don't need your points." Anto trembled, asking why they were being treated so cruelly. She coldly stated that her request was actually very simple. Lila held a vial in her hand. Her face twisted into a demonic, terrifying expression. "Crawl back and insult your martial arts department," she ordered. "Tell them you're all just trash." A few hours later, after dark, the other martial arts students searched for their teammates with lanterns. They desperately called out Desio and Anto's names in the quiet night. Kai wondered why Lucas seemed so alarmed. It was normal for their friends to come back late from part-time jobs, but Lucas knew today was completely different. This was the first time he had smelled such a strong scent of blood on this path. As soon as he caught the trail, Lucas immediately took off, leaving Kai stunned. While chasing him, Kai grumbled about Lucas suddenly running off, but he soon froze. He saw an injured hand reaching out from the bushes. A horrific scene appeared before them as their 2 classmates lay motionless in a pool of blood. Kai screamed in horror. Who in the world did this? Lucas immediately knelt down, quickly checking the victim's conditions. The injured friend weakly revealed the culprit was Lila from instructor Greg's class. She had ruthlessly severed their meridians. Witnessing his comrades being harmed, a dark, cold, murderous aura erupted violently around Lucas. Lucas quickly reassured them. He's alive, just unconscious. He immediately assigned tasks. I'll stop the bleeding. Kai, go find medicine. As soon as Kai left, Lucas focused his spiritual energy into his hands. He performed emergency first aid to prevent the wounds from worsening. Touching the victim's body, Lucas was shocked by the severity of the injury, cursed with all his bones shattered into pieces. This was clearly bone-crushing art, a technique often used by black market assassins. He clenched his fists, veins popping in fury as he thought, to harm them both with such a cruel technique. I will destroy them. This isn't bullying. This was a murder attempt. Below, his friend groaned in delirium. Dad, Mom, it hurts. Lucas looked at his pained friend and declared firmly, don't worry. I'll take care of them and get revenge for you. In the dark forest, Lucas diligently tended to them until Kai returned with Taishi. Seeing the tragic scene, Taishi gasped in shock. Anto and Desio were attacked. Kai explained he had run into Taishi while looking for medicine. Lucas updated them on the situation. Yes, their lives aren't in danger, but they'll need to rest for a few days. Kai handed the bag of medicine to Lucas, silently thanking him for the timely first aid. He then gritted his teeth in anger. Damn it. I'll never forgive them. Kai decided, tomorrow, I'm going to the student council. However, Taishi was pessimistic. She believed the teachers were turning a blind eye, so the student council wouldn't take the martial arts department's issues seriously either. Lucas cut her off. I don't care. His terrifying expression stunned Taxi into silence. A dark, murderous aura erupted, engulfing Lucas's entire body. He looked like a completely different person from his usual gentle self. Lucas gritted his teeth with resentment, vowing, "I will settle this score, no matter what it takes." In the student council room, the atmosphere was tense as Theon listened to Lucas's group's request. He smirked. "I see. So you want to challenge Instructor Greg's class to a fight?" Lucas stated clearly that if they won, he demanded a formal apology from those who attacked the two martial arts students. In return, Lucas was willing to bet his S-rank reward, giving it to Greg's class if they lost. However, Theon smiled sinisterly and said there was no proof Greg's students were the culprits. Then he reached out, grabbed the Beast Fang pendant and asked, "Is this what you mean by an S-rank reward?" Suddenly, Theon let go, and the pendant fell to the floor, shocking everyone. He uttered a fake apology. "Oh, my hand slipped." Theon continued his contemptuous mockery. "For something as serious as a challenge, don't you think betting something so cheap is inappropriate?" Seeing Theon's insulting act, Kai gritted his teeth, ready to charge. But Lucas quickly stopped him. Lucas looked straight at the student council president and asked, "Then what would be considered appropriate?" Theon pretended to think for a moment. Then he slowly suggested that something unique and iconic to the school would be better. He smiled with a calculating look and made a shocking proposal. The losing side will permanently lose their right to enter the Tower of Around for training. While Kai and Teichi were stunned, Lucas remained terrifyingly calm. He decisively accepted the high-stakes challenge. Deal. The announcement of the duel between the martial arts department and Greg's class was quickly posted. It caught the attention of the entire school. The event was set to take place in 2 days. The news delighted the freshmen who were dissatisfied with the martial arts department. They gloated, relentlessly cheering for Instructor Greg's class. Even Greg himself openly praised the 3 who had attacked Anto's group in front of everyone. In contrast to the uproar, Instructor Sigan made no comment. He silently intensified his students' combat training under immense pressure. In the middle of the training ground, Lucas trained quietly. His eyes burned with resentful fire. He was ready to reclaim justice for his fallen comrades. And so, the day of the duel finally arrived. The atmosphere in the arena was hotter than ever, with thousands of spectators eager for a good show. Cheers roared from the stands. "Those 3 are fighting for the martial arts department. Let's support them with all we've got." Facing Lucas's group, Lila smiled smugly and continued her arrogant mockery. "So many people are watching. If you apologize now, I might consider forgiving you." Lucas remained terrifyingly calm. He looked straight at his opponent and replied coldly, "We still don't know how this match will end." When the referee ordered both sides to their positions, Kai bravely stepped forward. A glowing short sword was in his hand. He declared firmly, "Let's end this quickly." His opponent was a male student with glasses holding a staff. He casually adjusted his glasses and replied smugly, "Bring it on." The match officially began. The magic student activated a giant, glowing magic circle under his feet and shouted, "Blizzard." Sharp shards of ice rained down with destructive power, heading straight for Kai. But he shocked everyone. He used incredible speed to deflect every attack in the blink of an eye. The glasses-wearing mage turned pale, sweating profusely in shock. "What?" He deflected all of them. Amidst the dissipating ice shards, Kai stood tall with a look of contempt. He challenged, "Is that all you've got? So weak." Kai swung his sword, deflecting the sharp ice shards, and snorted, "Is that really all you have?" However, the glasses-wearing mage, Andre, still had a smug smile. He thought to himself, "You fell for it, you idiot. Martial artists are so easy to fool." Immediately, Andre activated his ice prison magic. Sharp ice pillars suddenly shot up from the ground, locking Kai's feet in place. He arrogantly adjusted his glasses. "Lie still and die, you half-baked noble." Andre swung his staff, pouring all his ice magic into a final blow to end the match. Kai was crushed by giant blocks of ice. His body was battered and severely injured in the disastrous scene. "Hey, do you understand now? This is the price for provoking a mage." He pretended to cup his ear and mocked. "What was that you said? If you want to surrender, you'll have to speak up." In the stands, Lila laughed smugly. "Just as expected. Trash will always be trash. If you admit defeat now, I'll spare your pathetic life." Seeing his teammate humiliated, Lucas's eyes turned sharp and intimidating. He growled, "How long are you going to keep spouting that garbage until you're satisfied?" Suddenly, Kai flashed a mysterious smile. His eyes burned with a brilliant orange fire, radiating an overwhelming aura. He clenched a mass of energy as hot as lava in his hand and coldly asked back, "Can your ice magic freeze the lava flow of the demonic beast mountains?" From above, Lila screamed in horror, "Idiot, run!" Andre was stunned when he realized what Kai was holding was a lava slime core. An earth-shattering explosion erupted on the spot. Smoke and heat engulfed both contestants in the center of the arena. Andre trembled as he questioned in terror, detonating it at such a close range. "Do you not value your own life?" But amidst the thick smoke, Kai suddenly burst out, his eyes blazing with a murderous glint. Despite his injuries, Kai launched an attack that pierced through Andre's magic defense, drawing blood. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes. A martial artist defeating a mage? Am I dreaming? Looking at Kai's completely burnt legs, Lucas was amazed at his friend's iron will. He'd blown up his own legs to escape the brutal ice prison. Kai smiled arrogantly through his bloody wounds. He remembered Lucas's advice: the moment the opponent confidently breaks your magic is when their defenses are most open to attack. Andre screamed in humiliation. To be wounded by a mere martial artist. But with those crippled legs, you can't dodge anymore. Die. He focused all his ice magic into a sphere of energy, but Kai had another blazing attack ready in his hand. Another blinding explosion erupted in the center of the arena. Andre exclaimed in terror, "This guy, he's insane." Kai fearlessly advanced and coldly mocked, "I hate people who use ice." Andre scrambled backward, shouting, "Stay away from me," but it was too late. Kai delivered a direct headbutt, shattering Andre's glasses. Andre screamed in agony and collapsed instantly, his face covered in injuries. Andre lay motionless on the ground. He still couldn't believe his ice shield was broken by pure physical strength. The referee loudly declared the martial arts department the winner of the first match. Kai excitedly raised his weapon to show his victory to Lucas. He felt his body was in peak condition, unaware that Lucas had secretly put a performance-enhancing drug in his breakfast. The next match between Taishi and Lila was about to begin. Lucas was confident that with Taishi's skills, everything would be fine. The battle began. Giant vines suddenly shot up from the ground. The class president nimbly dodged the dangerous attack. She shuddered, realizing she was almost crushed in the first few seconds. Lila began mocking the martial artist's delusional moral principles. She declared that mages only care about the final result, then activated a brilliant green magic circle in her hand. Demonic tentacles swarmed the arena, but Taxi displayed incredible speed. She closed in on her opponent, leaving Lila too shocked to react. A powerful punch landed straight in her stomach, making her spit blood. She stumbled back in utter shock, not understanding how a mere grade 1 could possess such terrifying speed. She grabbed her opponent's arm and declared loudly, "A martial artist's morality is rooted in the teaching of valuing human life." Lila desperately tried to counterattack with plant magic in a mad frenzy, but Taishi unleashed a continuous barrage of powerful strikes. Lucas watched, impressed. He realized she was attacking the magic pressure points with absolute precision. Lucas silently acknowledged that her sharp eye and decisiveness had earned Taishi a convincing victory. Kai was still stunned by her speed. Taichi coldly reminded her opponent to never trample on a martial artist's pride. The referee declared the second consecutive victory for the martial arts department as Lila lay completely motionless on the ground. Poison needles suddenly fell from her sleeves, enraging Mina, who was watching from a distance. She immediately questioned Theon why he allowed such dangerous weapons in a match, but he just casually sipped his tea and said she was overreacting, since nothing bad had actually happened. Seeing the class president's victory, Kai cheered enthusiastically. "Well done, Taishi. No wonder Instructor Saigon chose you as class president." This result was like a slap in the face to those who dared call martial artists trash. On the other side, the magic class instructor gritted his teeth in frustration. His plan to secure slots in the Tower of Iran was falling apart. He thought, "I still have a trump card. I must win this match." The third match officially began. Lucas entered the ring. He faced an enemy holding a glowing purple magic dagger. As soon as the bell rang, the mage smugly claimed that some, like him, also trained in physical arts, and Lucas would be completely helpless against his high-speed afterimage technique. From the sidelines, Taishi grew worried. Lucas was only defending and keeping his distance instead of actively attacking. Lucas thought to himself that he didn't need to reveal his full strength, but he still needed to probe his opponent a bit. He stomped his foot hard, deciding to close in with just 5% of his power. Lucas's sudden speed made the mage exclaim in horror, "Impossible!" But Lucas didn't want to end the match too quickly, so he pretended to miss. However, taking advantage of Lucas standing still, he smirked. "Too bad for you." Then he suddenly stabbed the magic dagger into Lucas's shoulder, drawing blood. Lucas lowered his head, silently enduring the blow. The mage laughed triumphantly, declaring that no one could resist his bone-crushing art. He madly poured his power in, intending to shatter every bone in Lucas's body. However, his smile quickly faded as he realized something was wrong. Even at full power, his prized bone-breaking technique was completely useless against his opponent's steel-like body. Seeing Lucas being overwhelmed, Kai anxiously yelled out, not understanding what was happening. The mage smugly thought Lucas was just trying to act tough, but it was all a bluff. He roared, preparing to deliver the final blow to end the match. However, a dry crack echoed as Lucas effortlessly blocked the attack with his bare hand. He whispered, "I think that's enough." Lucas stomped his foot hard on the arena floor. It created a terrifying shockwave that shattered the ground into pieces. His opponent was stunned by this absurd power. A grade 1 this strong? This is ridiculous. Lucas looked at him coldly, his eyes glowing with pressure. "Now I don't have to worry about anyone seeing what's about to happen. Are you ready?" The mage's magic sword instantly shattered, making him scream in alarm. "My magic sword." Lucas charged like a whirlwind, launching an attack that made his opponent let out a pained cry. He stomped hard on the man and mocked, This scene looks familiar, doesn't it? Using only 2% of his power, Lucas still inflicted excruciating pain as he asked, "How does it feel to be stabbed through the hand by the very shards of the weapon you used to stab Anto?" Lucas followed up with a kick that made the mage scream in agony from his severe injuries. He realized with horror that he had completely lost the ability to resist. "I can't use magic. Did that last attack sever my magic meridians?" Seeing his student completely overpowered, Greg shot up from his seat in the stands and yelled, "Stop, right now." Ignoring the warning, Lucas poured all his strength into his fist, preparing to land a fatal blow straight to his opponent's face. In desperation, the mage gasped, "I surrender." Lucas stopped his hand, silently looking down at the defeated man at his feet. Greg was still screaming madly from afar. "What the hell are you saying? With your abilities, you could have easily won." Lucas felt contempt. He realized the old man couldn't even see the serious injuries of his own student. Instructor Sigan observed thoughtfully. He worried that this victory might bring considerable trouble for the martial arts department. However, the atmosphere below was ecstatic. Kai cheered enthusiastically. "Well done. Our martial arts department won all 3 matches, and everyone used to look down on us." Murmurs spread through the stands. Some began to believe that martial artists could indeed defeat mages in duels. Just as Lucas turned to leave, his opponent suddenly jumped up and lunged at him with a sharp dagger. A female student screamed in alarm. "Lucas, watch out." However, Lucas, quick as lightning, was already behind him. He said coldly, "I've been waiting for you to show your true colors." He attacked the back of his opponent's neck without any mercy. The student, Brick, felt the power inside his body slowly fading away. He realized with horror that all his magic meridians were being torn apart and wondered what Lucas had just done. Brick collapsed instantly, his eyes vacant and filled with despair. Lucas stood tall over the defeated man and reminded him coldly, "When you used the bone-crushing art, did you not think you'd get the same in return?" The announcer clearly declared the absolute victory belonged to Lucas of the martial arts department. In the stands, Awa was so stunned she couldn't believe her eyes. She was completely devastated by the unbelievable result. Noticing her strange behavior, Julia asked with concern. Awa didn't answer. Deep down, she was in shock. She recognized the last strike as meridian severance, a high-level technique lost for 100 years. Her eyes burned with suspicion. She wondered to herself who Lucas really was to possess such terrifying power. Meanwhile, everyone was excitedly celebrating the victory. Awa declared that the mages were just cowards who specialized in sneak attacks. She announced she would challenge anyone who dared to look down on her. Taishi humbly said that today, the group had simply performed better than usual, but their joy was short-lived. Instructor Sagan suddenly appeared from behind with a stern look. He warned them coldly, "You win a little, and you're already on cloud 9? Getting delusional, are we?" Sigan roared, demanding the class not to get arrogant over a few initial victories. Although Awa tried to remind him they had also won the taming tournament, the disheveled professor firmly dismissed it. He asserted that their victory in the taming tournament was purely due to luck, as the demonic beasts were already exhausted. Sigan turned his back and coldly stated that in the entire martial arts department, only Lucas, Kai, and Taishi truly possessed real ability. Sigan stood under a tree. "Let me be frank. Are you planning to live your whole lives as parasites, leeching off the strong?" He emphasized that even when they were senselessly attacked and nearly killed like Colin and Saab, if they continued to let others handle their revenge and survival, they would never become strong. Sigan coldly walked away, leaving one final warning. "If you truly think that way of life is acceptable, then you'd better leave the martial arts department immediately." These words were like salt in the student's wounds of pride. Lucas thoughtfully watched his teacher's back. He silently acknowledged that Sigan's words were entirely correct. Martial artists need confidence, but if they don't train hard and let arrogance take over, they'll remain stagnant. Behind the tree, the female teacher, Linda, suddenly appeared and teased Sigan, saying he was starting to act like a real homeroom teacher. Sigan just sighed wearily. He admitted he just didn't want the kids to repeat his mistakes and end up like him. Meanwhile, in the infirmary, Brick's condition was getting worse. Black cracks spread across his hand like a spiderweb. It was a terrifying phenomenon similar to the ancient forbidden art known as meridian severance. Greg sat slumped on the hospital bed. His entire body was shrouded in a dark, evil aura. He growled in his throat as the pain from his shattered meridians relentlessly tortured his body. In the dead of night, a horse-drawn carriage hurriedly entered the academy grounds amidst a tense atmosphere. Inside the room, Brick's father slammed his hand on the table, his face twisted in anger and pain as he roared. "How did a duel between freshmen turn into this? My son's magic meridians have been completely destroyed. He can never use magic again." He madly demanded a blind sense of justice. "Punish that boy severely. Disband the martial arts department, now." Just then, a bottle of alcohol was thrown and shattered on the floor. Sigan staggered in with a cold gaze. "A harsh punishment for the cruel culprit, you say? You're absolutely right. The magic used by Brick's trio in the duel perfectly matches the magic used on Saab and Colin. Clearly, Those three were the ones who severely injured our two students. Headmaster, handle them according to the rules. Greg, standing nearby, was shocked. Those brats. They were trying to kill their opponents in a duel, but why is he bringing this up now? Don't change the subject. We are discussing who is responsible for Brick being hit with a forbidden art. Sigyn remained calm. He asserted that it hadn't been confirmed that Brick was hit by a forbidden art, and Meridian's severance was absolutely not something a novice martial artist could use. Hearing this, Brick's father had to nod in agreement. He believed that the talentless, god-forsaken eldest son of the Ryan family could never have the skill to control such an ancient forbidden art. Greg clicked his tongue mockingly. Only a high-level martial artist can perform a forbidden art. But the only high-level martial artist present at the duel was Instructor Sigyn. He moved closer, getting in Sigyn's face with a sinister smile. I suspect you used a forbidden art, or was it you? Sigyn replied coldly. If I could use a forbidden art, I would have used it on you a long time ago. The headmaster sat majestically in his chair, looking straight at Sigyn and questioning him. Instructor Sigyn, you seem to think student Brick was not hit by a forbidden art. Then how do you explain his current condition? Perhaps this is karma, Sigyn coldly stated about Brick's condition. He recounted that he had later questioned Lucas. The boy claimed he didn't know how to use forbidden arts but offered a convincing theory. Lucas suggested that Brick, being a rebellious noble child, had spent a large sum of money to learn torture techniques from black market assassins. Therefore, it was possible that a master from the underworld, fearing a leak of information, used this duel as a cover to silently strike. Hearing this, Headmaster Otani pondered deeply, but Brick's father roared in fury. Are you trying to cover everything up with these ridiculous rumors? Greg, standing beside him, also claimed it was just baseless speculation. Sigyn immediately countered. He asserted that this theory was still more believable than a novice martial artist being able to use an ancient forbidden art. He emphasized that there was clearly a powerful figure behind the scenes present at the duel and warned, anger a master, and you'll find out what happens. Meridian Severance is a truly brutal technique that can destroy even the most talented mages in an instant. That night, at the Iran Academy library, Headmaster Otani, alone, carried a lantern, searching for clues. He stopped in front of an ancient bookshelf and exclaimed, "Found it." He looked closer. The dust on the Meridian book was gone. Someone had clearly held it recently. He flipped through the pages. His eyes landed on a special hand seal. The illustration glowed under the light. Just as I thought, the director let out a knowing smile in the silent room. Meanwhile, at a secret hot spring in the Demon Beast Mountains, Lucas was preparing the final step. It was for Anto and Desio's treatment. He poured a sparkling potion into the water and announced, "Your final treatment begins now." Thick steam rose from the water. It enveloped the bodies of his two friends. Anto and Desio gritted their teeth. Glowing green spiritual energy seeped into their very flesh. It powerfully regenerated their destroyed meridians. Witnessing his comrades' pain, Lucas watched intently. He calmly reassured them. It's going to hurt, but just hang on a little longer. He boldly declared a truth the magical world had forgotten. Healing martial artists are way better than most mages. A few days later in the town of Dak, the Ryong family's luxurious carriage finally stopped. It was in front of the majestic academy gates. Holtrian gently took his wife's hand and smiled. "We'll see the children soon." Catherine nodded softly in reply. "Yes, it's been a long time." Looking up at the towering walls, she sighed. This place hadn't changed at all. Seeing his wife lost in thought, Holt called her name worriedly. Catherine smiled to reassure her husband. She was just remembering old times. She told him not to worry. Suddenly, the sound of galloping hooves echoed. Catherine was stunned. She recognized the person and gasped, "Is that?" The newcomer was Sayan Miranda. He was Catherine's younger brother and I was father. He dismounted his horse and greeted her with a smile. "Sister, it's been a while." This unexpected reunion brought back memories from 10 years ago. The Beastmen tribes had launched massive attacks on the Empire's borders. Brutal wars raged endlessly. The sky was always filled with smoke and the roars of monsters. Faced with the savage Beastmen army, humanity united to fight back. After 3 days and nights of non-stop fighting, both sides suffered heavy losses. In the middle of that fierce battlefield, a young female mage faced death. A giant monster was closing in. In that critical moment, a young knight charged in like a god. He swung his sword, cut down the monster, and caught her just in time. That was the fateful moment. The young knight Captain Holt and the mage Catherine Miranda met for the first time. They survived life and death moments together on the battlefield. They vowed to spend their lives together forever. Catherine's father, Duke Miranda, had fiercely opposed the marriage. It led to her cutting all ties with her family. Sayan looked at his sister thoughtfully. He never imagined their children would meet for the first time at this very academy. "Time flies," Sayan smiled. He said Julia was just like Catherine back then. "Aren't you coming home?" "Father is still waiting," Catherine asked joyfully. But her smile vanished when Sayan confirmed, "Yes, but only you." She was shocked. She realized her father still hadn't accepted Holt. Understanding his wife's situation, Holt spoke up. "You should go. I have to head to the front lines now anyway," he added gently. I'm glad they're letting you come home. I'll pick you up when the campaign is over." Watching Holtz retreating back, Catherine was grateful. Her husband had swallowed his pride. He secretly asked Sayan to help her reconcile with her family. However, Sayan was still troubled. His father hadn't forgiven a noble mage for marrying a martial artist. He secretly hoped someone would appear one day, someone who could erase society's prejudice against martial artists. At the same time at the academy, Lucas suddenly sneezed. He wondered if he'd trained too hard and caught a cold. Julia stood beside him, teasing Kai. He was carrying a large bag of food. It's rare to see Kai buying food for others. Kai grumbled back, "Mind your own business." He thought to himself that after Anto and the others recovered, he'd make them treat him to a big meal. Lucas could only smile wryly and reply, "I think that's fair." But malicious whispers from the magic students started again. They called Lucas the lucky king of the martial arts department. They said he only beat Brick because an assassin had weakened him first. Hearing the gossip, Julia unleashed a dark, threatening aura. It terrified the other students into silence. At the cafeteria, Lucas noticed his sister's new hair clip and asked about it. "Is that hair clip new?" Julia happily showed it off. It was a gift from Iowa of the Miranda family. Lucas was inwardly surprised. The Miranda family was actively approaching his sister. He realized it was understandable. They wanted to recruit someone with Julia's talent. For their mother's sake, Lucas told Julia to get along with Awa. Julia excitedly added, "I became the class president. I have to tell Mom right away." Mina suddenly appeared from behind. She put her food tray down and congratulated Julia warmly. Mina stated with confidence, "In the future, you'll surely become a pillar of this school. I'll always support you." Julia repeated blankly, "A pillar of the school?" Suddenly, a silent figure glided past, catching her eye. It was a female student with long black hair. She had a sorrowful face. She walked silently through the crowded hallway. Rewinding time a bit, inside a faculty office, the atmosphere was tense. The teacher behind the desk made a cold decision. "Although your psychic magic rivals Julia's, in every other aspect, Julia far surpasses you. That's why I think she's a better fit for class president." Awa stood there, her head bowed in humiliation and bitterness. As she walked out of the room, she gritted her teeth. Her eyes burned with resentment. She vowed to herself, "Just you wait. I'll show everyone who's the best." Back in the present at the cafeteria, Julia watched Awa's retreating back with concern. "She's gone." She looked really angry. "She's not eating properly either. Maybe I should buy lunch and bring it to her." Seeing this, Mina curiously asked if Julia was close with Awa. The girl eagerly confirmed they were roommates and praised her highly. "Yes, Awa's psychic magic is truly amazing. It was the first time I'd ever seen it." Lucas noted thoughtfully that psychic magic was indeed a rare ability. Meanwhile, Mina internally assessed Julia's brother's sharpness. Suddenly, Mina lightly tapped her finger on the table. A glowing magic circle activated, enveloping the group. Lucas immediately noticed the abnormality. A soundproofing barrier? "What's going on?" Mina put a finger to her lips, signaling for secrecy with a calculated smile. She thought to herself that overly intelligent people were difficult to deal with. Then, she casually suggested, "My wind magic is interesting too, if you'd like." Julia happily offered her remaining food to her brother, but Lucas had already seen through the vice president's intentions. He coolly put down his fork and asked directly, "Mina, you didn't just come here to chat, did you?" Mina adjusted her glasses, silently admitting Julia's brother was extremely cautious, but she believed that as long as she had Julia's affection, his interference was minor. Mina got straight to the point. "You're sharp, then I'll be direct. You know about the dangerous demon beast mountains behind the school, right?" Mina quickly revealed that there had been unusual ecological changes there recently. The number of low-level demon beasts was dropping drastically. Even the once common phantom leopards had completely vanished without a trace. Hearing this, Lucas froze. He remembered riding Uru through the forest that night. Mina continued, revealing that 3 days ago, the Imperial investigation team had discovered the lair of a high-level demon beast. Lucas was so startled he dropped his spoon. He worried, "Don't tell me it's Uru's lair." He quickly composed himself. He asked about the difficulty of the field mission the student council wanted to assign. Mina covered her mouth, her eyes shining mysteriously as she stated the reward, 100 points. Both siblings were stunned by the huge reward. Their eyes lit up at the thought of the points. Lucas thought with his and Julia's current strength, it would be an easy job. Meanwhile, at the Miranda mansion, a luxurious but suffocating banquet was underway. So Miranda, the Duke and head of the family, was calmly enjoying his dinner. Sayan looked at his father and sighed. He recognized his stubbornness. He made his sister Catherine stay in the guest room, even though her old room was clean. Catherine sat silently opposite him. She hadn't touched a single bite of food. The atmosphere was as heavy as a funeral. Suddenly, Soa spoke his daughter's name. He tapped his fork on the table and declared, "As for Julia, a child with the potential to be a saint-level mage, I am willing to acknowledge her as a granddaughter of the Miranda family." Catherine thanked him emotionally, but just as she was about to mention, Lucas was also an excellent martial artist who scored perfectly. Soa cut her off. He stated firmly that no matter how good a martial artist was, they were completely meaningless to this family. Soa wiped his mouth and stressed that the Miranda family only sought geniuses with the potential to become saint-level mages. Catherine was saddened. Her father's prejudice against martial arts hadn't changed after all these years. Just then, a servant entered with an urgent letter. It was from the Demon Beast Mountain investigation team. The letter's contents made Soa frown in thought. A new area had been discovered beneath the lair. The danger level was unknown. This news made Catherine and Cyan extremely worried. They feared the events in the mountains would threaten the students at Allen Academy. Soa stood up. He believed that with the protection of the teachers and his subordinates at the school, the children would be safe if they stayed inside. He told Catherine to wait until the situation stabilized before visiting her children. Catherine could only bow her head in sorrowful obedience. She looked down with sad eyes and silently told Lucas and Julia to wait for her a little longer. Back at the academy, Mina was shocked. An employee told her the mission required a minimum of 5 people, one of whom had to be a student council member. She shouted angrily. Yesterday, there was no rule about the number of participants. The employee explained that the president had changed the requirement due to abnormalities found in the mountain cave. Mina gritted her teeth in frustration. Trying to make things difficult? You think I can't handle this? Lucas thought to himself, so the vice president is so isolated she can't even find 5 people to go with her. No wonder she tried to get close to Julia from the start. Seeing Mina about to give up in disappointment, Lucas stepped forward decisively. Leave the recruiting to us. Julia eagerly supported him. That's right, we'll help you. Mina was touched and thanked them, but she immediately felt a pang of guilt for using such kind-hearted kids as pawns. Just then, Kai appeared majestically in shining iron armor. He declared loudly, "Hello, Senior. Wherever my best friend Lucas goes, Kai goes." He was excited to show off the high-end gear his parents had just bought him. Soon after, Maya Rasta also appeared with a magic book in hand. She introduced herself politely. "Nice to meet you all. I specialize in water-based healing magic. I hope I can be of some help." Seeing the all-rookie lineup, Mina was speechless. She silently retracted her earlier praise. She feared these kids would just be a burden on the mission. Lucas curiously asked his sister why she called Maya instead of Iwa. Julia could only sigh. Iwa wouldn't even listen to her. Mina held her head wearily, reassuring herself. They just needed to fill the numbers. She and Julia would handle the main task. She ordered decisively, "Let's go before it's too late. Move out." Mina activated acceleration magic. She announced that even with magical assistance, it would take half a day to reach the beast's lair. A few hours later, the group sped through the forest. They finally stopped before a dark, gloomy cave. Mina announced coldly, "We're here." Standing at the cave entrance, Mina noticed the area was being investigated by the Empire's survey team. Seeing the flag with a thorny rose, she confirmed the crest belonged to the Miranda family. While Mina and Kai were examining the leftover battle traces on the ground, Lucas let out a silent sigh of relief. They hadn't found Uru's home. Suddenly, a murderous aura washed over them. Lucas's expression changed. He yelled a warning. Enemy attack from above. A ferocious winged creature with blazing red eyes dove straight down from the sky. Instantly, Mina swung her staff and activated a magic circle. Oh, fierce winds. Become a fortress of sharp blades. But the attack wasn't over. More monsters began to surround the group. Mina quickly shouted, "Magic shield." Meanwhile, Kai bravely used his shield to block the enemy's sharp claws. Kai boldly declared, "Let us handle the close combat." Lucas also charged into the fight with lightning speed. He smiled teasingly, "Don't hog all the glory." Kai fought back, challenging him, "You think you can keep up with my speed?" From the back, Maya provided full support. "Water spirit barrier. Keep fighting. I'll handle the healing." The group coordinated perfectly while surrounded by flying demon beasts. Mina watched the scene and thought to herself, it had been a long time since she felt everyone fighting so smoothly together. She quickly identified the enemy's weakness and gave an order. "These beasts are weak to wind and lightning magic. You're up next." Julia focused all her magical power into her staff, activating a magic barrier. Massive bolts of purple lightning erupted. It wiped out the horde of demon beasts in a blinding flash and agonizing screams. Witnessing this destructive power, both Lucas and Kai were in awe of Julia's terrifying lightning magic. Mina stood there, silently watching the enemy's ashes disappear into gray smoke. Seeing Mina staring at her, Julia asked innocently, "Did you say something?" Mina flinched, sweating and trembling as she replied, "No, it was nothing." She turned away with a complex expression, silently admitting a shocking truth. She had completely underestimated the power of these pawns. Maya began casting healing magic on Kai's arm. The wound vanished in an instant. Kai exclaimed in amazement, "Amazing! The wound healed instantly." "You're a goddess," Maya replied shyly. "No, I'm not. Calling me a goddess is a bit much." But deep down, she started daydreaming. She imagined Lucas gently holding her hand and saying, "Thank you for healing me, my goddess." The thought made Maya blush crimson with embarrassment. Lucas stood beside her, puzzled by her strange expression. She quickly shook off the silly thoughts. The best way was to not let anyone get hurt in the first place. The group started to venture deeper inside. They were all stunned by the cave's vastness. Julia cheered excitedly. Wow, it's so spacious in here. Kai was also impressed. He realized the place was so big a small army could camp here comfortably. Lucas observed the rock walls and concluded it wasn't a natural cave. It seemed to have been excavated. The ground must be crawling with demon beasts. Mina nodded in agreement. She warned them that the deeper they went, the more dangerous it would be. She told everyone to be extremely vigilant. Instantly, a horde of aggressive, axe-wielding goblins rushed out from the darkness. Julia decisively swung her staff, unleashing purple lightning bolts. The monsters shrieked in agony. Mina explained that these goblins had lived underground for so long their eyesight had weakened. They relied on hearing to hunt. By using thunder, she had destroyed their hearing to ensure the group's safety. However, Lucas noticed the number of beasts seemed endless. If they kept fighting passively like this, it would be exhausting. A moment later, Kai suddenly dashed into the middle of the cave. He waved his arms and shouted, "Hey, come and get me." Julia and Maya immediately coordinated their magic to hold the target. Julia's purple lightning merged with Maya's wind vortex. It created a massive energy storm. It wiped out all the goblins and slimes in an instant. Witnessing this, Lucas was impressed by the efficiency of wide-area attacks. Kai lay amidst the rubble, boasting smugly, "I lure the enemies into one spot, then the senior and Julia finish them all at once. What do you think? Great plan, right?" He even claimed this technique was only possible because of his high-end gear. Lucas, sorry for stealing the spotlight. Lucas just sighed. Not everyone is as obsessed with fame as you. After Maya healed his wounds, the group continued deeper into the cave. They eventually reached the center and found a treasure chest. It was overflowing with gold, silver, and glowing ancient weapons. Seeing that Julia and the others were tired, Lucas suggested a break. Julia and everyone else are exhausted, but Kai pretended not to hear. He continued charging with his sword to lure more monsters. "Come out, you monsters!" He taunted them fearlessly. Julia noted, "He's pretending not to hear, isn't he?" A moment later, Kai ran back in a panic with a horde of lizard monsters. "I brought them. The rest is up to you guys." But he was soon bewildered to find the area empty. Huh? Where did everyone go? Hiding behind a rock, Lucas joked that they had to sacrifice a teammate. Julia clasped her hands in prayer. "Kai, may you rest in peace." Maya worried, "If he's still breathing, I'll definitely save him." Suddenly, a deep, heavy sound echoed from the cave ceiling. Maya looked up in terror. Lucas corrected her. "No, it's coming from the center of the cave. The survey team must have found the boss." The group decided to head towards the sound to check the situation. As they got closer, the strong smell of blood filled the air, making Lucas frown. Mina gave everyone a potion and said, "First, drink the recovery potion I brought from home." She figured the survey team probably didn't need their help, but it was better to be safe. However, the sight before them was horrifying. The entire elite survey team had been brutally massacred amidst a crimson mist. Mina trembled as she ordered, "Impossible. The entire team is dead? This is wrong. Abort the mission and retreat immediately." A terrifying explosion suddenly erupted. From the rubble, a massive entity emerged. It had the form of a merman, with burning blue eyes full of killing intent. The monster roared wildly. It swung a giant halberd carrying destructive powers straight at Mina. She was stunned. Why would a minotaur, a disaster-level creature, appear here? Lucas immediately realized something was wrong. A monster this strong would never appear in a school mission. Something had gone terribly wrong. This familiar, dreadful feeling made him suspect he'd encountered this aura somewhere before. Lucas shouted, "Watch out." An ice shield suddenly appeared, blocking the Minotaur's heavy blow. It shattered instantly upon impact from the terrifying pressure. Julia rushed over in a panic to check on her brother and Mina. Lucas asked if Mina had created the ice shield. She just shook her head, denying it. Lucas's gaze immediately shifted to the monster's hand. He realized the person who had just saved them was the man being crushed in its grip. The Minotaur growled resentfully at the man in its hand. "You dare stand in my way? Die." Despite being severely injured, the soldier urgently pleaded, "Hurry, call for reinforcements from the Imperial Army." The soldier painfully announced that the ancient seal here had been completely broken. The monster furiously squeezed him. It glared at the group and roared savagely, "You foolish brats! I'll devour you one by one." Witnessing such cruelty, Julia and Maya could only scream in utter rage. Amidst the rubble, a small vial suddenly fell and rolled on the ground. However, the brave soldier, though heavily injured, fought back. He gritted his teeth, activating a massive magic circle. "Enough talk. Be gone." A giant ice pillar erupted, piercing through the monster's arm to its astonishment. The exhausted soldier collapsed, only managing to utter his last words. "Go now. Hurry. Report what's happening here." Mina quickly pulled Julia away, decisively answering the soldier's plea. Lucas looked at the man sacrificing himself with a pained expression. He silently promised, "I'm sorry I couldn't save you. I'll be back soon to avenge you." Behind them, the soldier continued to shout, urging the group to escape while they could. "Everyone, I've done all I can." But the Minotaur had already broken through the ice. It roared in fury. A mere insect had dared to attack it. The Minotaur opened its fang mouth wide, ready to swallow the soldier whole. "Prepare to be my dessert." Just in the nick of time, a powerful bolt of purple lightning struck the monster directly in the face, making it roar in pain. Julia stood defiantly with her staff. Her eyes blazed with fury as she declared, "He's not an insect. He's a great warrior." While the monster was stunned by the surprise attack, Mina used wind magic to save the falling soldier. Mina cast Wind Bomb to create a pressure wave, safely catching the soldier. She frantically yelled at Lucas, questioning why he stayed instead of running. The soldier had sacrificed his life to buy them time. Lucas silently stepped forward. "I'll hold this monster here. Mina, get out and report the situation." Mina tried to stop him in terror. This was a disaster-level creature that a first-year student could never handle. He coolly admitted, "You're right, this won't be easy." The monster roared furiously, creating a massive shockwave that shook the entire cave. While Lucas intended to fight alone so everyone could escape, Mina suddenly swung her staff, activating a magic circle and stepping forward. She yelled, "Stand back. As vice president, it's my duty to protect everyone." This courageous act made Lucas see her in a new light. He thought to himself that Mina was much braver than her usual calculating demeanor suggested. It wasn't just Mina. Julia and Maya also refused to leave. Julia insisted she would never abandon them. She wouldn't leave her brother and Mina behind. Maya quickly sent a distress signal to Kai at the entrance and called for everyone to fight together. Mina just sighed. If Maya knew how to use communication magic, she should have said so earlier. The Minotaur roared fiercely, but it was immediately struck by a bolt of Julia's purple lightning. Still, Mina worried that even together, they could hardly defeat this fearsome creature. Just then, his hand glowed with a golden aura. He said with confidence, "Please, trust in everyone." Lucas poured all his power into his fist. It blazed like the sun, emitting an incredible pressure. He charged straight at the giant Minotaur and roared with determination. "There's no way we're losing to a monster like this." The Minotaur roared madly, swinging its giant halberd down with terrifying force. Lucas didn't flinch. He focused all his spiritual energy into his glowing golden fist. He threw a full power punch. The impact was so strong that the monster's eyes widened in shock. Mina shouted, "Lucas, keep up the pressure. I'll attack while you have its attention." Lucas replied firmly, "Got it." Attacked by a being it considered an insect, the Minotaur roared in rage. "You pathetic insects! How dare you!" Mina quickly activated a huge, glowing magic circle at her feet. "Looks like he's ready." Instantly, Julia also channeled all her lightning magic into her glowing staff. She shouted, "You dare bully my brother? Eat this." An extremely powerful bolt of purple lightning struck down from above. It engulfed the Minotaur in its agonizing screams. Seizing the opportunity while the enemy was paralyzed by the current, Lucas relentlessly landed heavy blows on the monster's weak points, shattering the ground around them. The Minotaur roared in agony amidst the thick dust and smoke. Lucas's eyes narrowed with determination. He knew the time had come. I've hit its weak point and locked its movements. Now, Julia immediately activated her Thunder Arrowbell skill. Mina also channeled all her wind magic into her palm, creating sharp blades of air called Wind Cutter. They both went all out, shouting in unison as they launched their powerful combination attack at the enemy. Destruction combo. The combination of Julia's lightning and Mina's wind magic created a terrifying explosion. It struck the Minotaur directly, making it scream in pain. Though severely injured, the monster gritted its teeth in hatred. "Damn it. Once my legs recover, I'll tear you all to shreds." Hearing this threat, Maya stepped forward decisively. Her eyes shone with determination. "I won't let that happen. Take this." She activated a water-type spell called Waterfall. A massive torrent of water engulfed the monster's entire body. Maya gasped for breath, exhausted after pouring all her mana into the attack. But Mina was shocked to realize something was wrong. Its legs have already recovered? This boss has a healing hack? That's insane. The Minotaur casually swung its giant halberd, brushing off the water. It laughed arrogantly. "This cheap water trick is nothing. I'll eat you all alive." It charged straight at Maya with terrifying speed and a sky-high killing intent. Just in the nick of time, Julia shouted, "What happens when a wet target gets electrocuted?" "Let's find out." She focused all her lightning magic into her staff, which crackled with powerful purple sparks. Julia roared, "You will pay with your life for killing those soldiers." A giant bolt of destructive lightning struck the drenched Minotaur. It shrieked in absolute agony as the current coursed through its body. Lucas watched, impressed by his sister's quick thinking. So that's it. She used water to amplify her lightning attack. To think of a strategy like that on the spot. She's truly the top student. The monster collapsed, its body smoking and motionless amidst the rubble. Lucas coolly approached it. His hand glowed with an oppressive golden aura. "Let me end this." But Mina suddenly noticed something was wrong and gasped, Huh? A dark, evil red aura erupted violently from the Minotaur's corpse. Mina trembled in terror at the overwhelming pressure filling the space. What? What is this? Lucas also froze. A ghostly black shadow was slowly rising from within the monster's body. It radiated an evil power beyond imagination. From the rubble, a massive shadow entity with glowing red eyes and sharp teeth emerged, letting out a chilling, maniacal laugh. At the same time, the ground outside the cave began to shake violently. Kai, who was on guard duty, panicked and wondered if it was an earthquake. Realizing the escalating danger, he quickly made a decision. I have to run and get help. Everyone, just hold on. Kai turned and dashed into the night to find reinforcements. The monster roared wildly, its sharp fangs bared amidst the thick black smoke. The red evil aura enveloped its body. A shocking explosion erupted from its roar, creating a shockwave that blew everything away. Lucas was sent flying, tumbling across the ground by the overwhelming power. The Minotaur now stood tall with glowing red eyes. Its entire body was cloaked in a powerful, dark energy. Lucas raised a hand to his ear. He was horrified to realize the sound wave from its roar alone was enough to injure him and draw blood. This thing has gotten much stronger. As he struggled to his feet, Lucas frantically asked if everyone was okay. The situation was worse than ever. Mina, Maya, and even Julia were all incapacitated, lying motionless on the ground with serious injuries. Seeing his sister lying in the rubble with blood on her lips, Lucas's eyes suddenly became lifeless and filled with a cold, killing intent. An ultimate rage erupted. He channeled all his spiritual energy into his body, preparing for a destructive attack. The monster roared a challenge. He closed the distance with unbelievable speed. Lucas's eyes blazed with a hateful golden light. He roared decisively, "I'm going to kill you." The monster roared back madly, but Lucas didn't flinch. A terrifying burst of spiritual energy exploded, sending everything flying and leaving a large wound on the evil creature's body. Lucas landed, his sharp gaze never leaving his opponent for a second. However, Lucas's expression quickly turned to shock. The monster didn't seem to feel any pain. What the hell? Why isn't it hurt? As Lucas retreated to create distance, a dark miasma swirled around the Minotaur's wound. He was horrified to see its mangled arm regenerating at an impossible speed. The monster swung its giant axe, smashing it into the ground. It created a violent shockwave that shattered boulders. Though he dodged in time, the pressure from the blow was so strong it made Lucas cough up blood. Wiping the blood from his lips, he cursed himself. Just the pressure made me bleed. I was careless. Faced with Lucas's resilience, the monster's killing intent grew stronger. It was thrilled to feel the blood of a true warrior begin to boil. Another explosion erupted, shaking the entire cave. It forced Lucas to slide across the ground to evade the attack. The Minotaur gave him no time to rest. It charged with terrifying speed, its red eyes leaving streaks of light in the darkness. The force from the earth-shattering impacts caused the cave ceiling to crack violently. Giant boulders began to fall, threatening to bury everyone. Lucas was horrified by the imminent danger. Damn it, they're all falling where everyone is. Amidst the thick dust, Lucas dashed forward frantically. A large boulder plummeted right where Julia lay unconscious, but Lucas managed to shield her in time. He protected his sister from the fatal impact. He glanced back at his comrades with worried eyes. Meanwhile, the Minotaur continued to roar madly, cloaked in a red miasma. The evil entity opened its fanged mouth wide. Its brutal roar created shocking energy vortexes. It directly attacked Lucas's hearing and internal organs. He realized the situation was getting worse. The roar was echoing off the collapsed walls, becoming even stronger. The pressure from the resonating sound made Lucas unable to stand. He collapsed, breathing heavily and coughing up blood from his severe injuries. But the Minotaur had no intention of letting him go. It swung its giant arm, cloaked in black smoke, bringing down a fatal blow from above. With blazing red eyes full of malice, it roared a death sentence. Go to hell. But the giant axe was suddenly stopped by Lucas with just one hand. His body was enveloped in a blazing golden spiritual energy. Lucas couldn't back down. Behind him were the people he needed to protect. Lucas's eyes blazed with a determined blue light. He roared with all his fury. As long as I live, I will never let you touch Julia and the others. Before it could react, he quickly snatched the axe from the monster's hand. Lucas channeled all his spiritual energy, smashing the axe down. He brought it down on the monster's body, making it shriek in pain. Lucas's eyes flashed with rage. Every muscle in his face twitched as his fury reached its peak. He unleashed a lightning-fast punch. It directly shattered the Minotaur's jaw. Without a moment's hesitation, Lucas closed in. He used his bare hands to grab the monster's huge body and slam it into the rubble. The battle turned into a one-sided slaughter. The monster was thrown back, screaming in despair. Amidst the smoke and dust, Lucas emerged shirtless and covered in blood. The countless white scars on his body glowed under the immense spiritual pressure. His eyes were now blood red. He radiated the aura of a true monster, standing proudly on the fragments of his enemy's own hide. The Minotaur roared madly. It swung its giant fist at the small figure before it. Despite the clear size difference, Lucas bravely faced it head-on. The impact created an earth-shattering explosion that rocked the entire cave. He got right in the monster's face. Lucas coldly delivered the death sentence in a low voice. Time to send you to meet your maker. Around him, a thick killing intent formed into countless red characters for death, covering the space like a fatal curse. The monster cried out in utter shock at the sudden burst of power. What? Lucas's eyes blazed with malice. He poured all his rage into one final, devastating attack. A giant pillar of light descended, piercing the Minotaur's body in a massive explosion that shook the entire mountain range. Outside, violent tremors from within the cave continued to spread amidst the pouring rain. Julia groaned and slowly regained consciousness. She asked in shock, "We're still alive? Where's my brother?" The battle was over. Lucas stood tall amidst the wreckage. The monster was completely destroyed, leaving an eerie silence. Amidst the cave's red dust, Julia stared into the distance and called out through her tears, "Brother!" But Lucas didn't seem to be himself anymore. Red energy streams, like demonic blood vessels, began to appear, covering his entire body. Lucas screamed in absolute agony as a dark power madly tried to consume his mind. On his chest, a demonic sigil of a goat's head within a pentagram suddenly blazed to life. The scene suddenly shifted. It brought us to a fiery place called the Shrine of Wrath. Amidst a vast sea of fire, the silhouette of the martial god appeared faintly. He seemed to be imprisoned by some evil force. From the flowing lava, a giant hand of fire emerged. It pulled a powerful entity out of the darkness. A demon with long horns and bulging muscles stomped the ground, its eyes glowing with malice. Looking at the violently fluctuating spiritual energy, he growled a name with deep hatred, Martial God. This fearsome entity was Van Saba, the demon king of wrath. He gritted his teeth and declared cruelly, "I will definitely tear you to pieces." Just then, a bewitching voice rang out, "Oh, how interesting." Appearing with a giant snake was Genshida, a high-ranking demon king with long, seductive but venomous green hair. She smiled, revealing that Van Saba's awakening was thanks to the wrath of the key they had so carefully chosen. Van Saba snorted in contempt. He looked into the distance and wondered if that thing truly had enough hidden potential. Genshida smiled knowingly as she witnessed Lucas's transformation. From his throne of fire, Van Saba confidently stated that at this very moment, the young boy was shattering all restraints to unleash his true power. Lucas had completely lost his sanity. He screamed madly, "I'll kill you." Amidst the black smoke, Julia ignored the danger and rushed to hug her brother tightly. She sobbed and pleaded, "Brother, stop. Please, wake up." Mina shouted in horror, "Julia, get back now." Julia's heart-wrenching cry for her brother pierced through the darkness, veiling Lucas's soul. A single tear fell. It created ripples in his mind, which was sinking into a deep abyss. In that void, his sister's desperate voice became a guiding light. It helped Lucas find himself again and gradually break free from the evil magic's control. The dust slowly settled. Julia looked worriedly at the figure. He stood amidst the wreckage as she softly called, "Brother." The red marks on Lucas's body began to fade. He slowly regained his consciousness. Lucas turned to his sister with a gentle look and said softly, "I'm back. I'm sorry. Please step back a bit." Julia cheered happily and immediately obeyed her brother. Lucas took a deep breath, trying to regulate his breathing and retract the violently exploding spiritual energy. The dark veins on his body gradually faded as a brilliant golden aura enveloped the entire space before completely vanishing. The demonic sigil on Lucas's chest also slowly faded, restoring peace to the ruined cave after the horrific battle. Seeing her brother had calmed down, Mina and Julia rushed over from behind. Julia asked worriedly, "Brother Lucas, are you okay?" Lucas tiredly sat down on the rubble. He replied softly to reassure them, "I'm fine." Julia threw herself into Lucas's arms, hugging him tightly. She cried out in fear, "Oh my God, you scared me half to death. I'm sorry. I promise I'll never do anything to make you worry like that again." Meanwhile, in the gloomy demon realm, Demon King Van Saba sat calmly on his throne amidst a sea of fire. Genshida licked her lips with a venomous gaze. She remarked that the key named Lucas still needed to go through many more harsh trials to truly awaken. For example, making him taste the pain of losing his family and much more. An image of Julia appeared, a grim omen of the tragic storm about to hit the Ryan family. The scene shifts elsewhere. Voices echo repeatedly, "Lucas, wake up." Lucas, in his daze, weakly asked, "Who?" Images of his father, mother, and Julia suddenly appeared in his mind, but they were surrounded by strange red spots. Lucas called out the names of his loved ones, father, mother, and Julia. Julia cheered with joy when she saw him move. He's opening his eyes, thank goodness. But the space around him suddenly darkened. An intense pain shot through him, making his eyes flare with terrifying blood-red light. Lucas realized in horror that his body was moving on its own. He whispered the names of his father, mother, and Julia in despair as darkness consumed his last bit of sanity. Suddenly, a shout rang out. "Hey Lucas, are you crazy? You just punched me." Lucas jolted awake in the infirmary of Allen Magic Academy. He saw he was covered in bandages, while Kai was holding his bleeding nose resentfully. Kai growled, "Are you still half asleep? If you weren't injured, I would have decked you." Lucas could only mumble an apology. "I'm sorry." Kai left the room, his nose still throbbing. Lucas sat alone on the hospital bed. He put a hand to his face, thinking about the terrifying dream he just had. He wondered if the strange power from the cave was messing with his mind. Lucas remembered the moment he went berserk, the sigil glowing on his chest. He realized he had never lost control so badly before. Wait, wrath? Lucas wondered if his mind had been tainted because he let his anger take over during the fight. But in a life-or-death battle, can anyone truly suppress their rage? He looked at the glass of water beside him and had an idea. He needed someone nearby to stop him whenever he fought, but Lucas immediately dismissed the thought. The people who accompanied him on missions or during training were just students. He realized it would be too dangerous to ask them to stop him in that berserk state. Lucas thoughtfully touched his face. He made a bold decision to control himself. That's right. Then I'll just have myself stop myself. At the same time, in the hospital corridor, nurses were gossiping about the patients brought back from the field mission. One sighed in relief that they were out of danger, but another wondered. Still, even for seniors, how did they get so badly injured on a school mission? In the distance, Teacher Saigon was staggering along with a bottle of liquor in his hand. The whispers continued. I heard they got hurt protecting the underclassmen. They even brought 2 deadweights from the martial arts department with them. No wonder they were so badly injured. Mina lay motionless on the hospital bed, her head and face covered in white bandages. It seemed she was the one who had paid the highest price to protect the younger students. Suddenly, an incredible pressure erupted. The nurses clung to each other against the strong wind. The doors closed tight. Where is this wind coming from? Sigan was so stunned he dropped his bottle, shattering it on the floor. His eyes widened in terror as he sensed the familiar aura. This aura, a high-level martial artist. You got to be kidding me. In a closed room, Lucas was focusing all his spiritual energy to perform an ancient technique. He smiled smugly. Excellent. The cloning technique was a success. Instantly, 2 identical versions of Lucas appeared, standing beside him in a brilliant aura. Lucas began to analyze based on his knowledge from the old library book. A clone's power is at most half of the original. If split into 3, the power would be divided evenly. Each clone would only have 1/6 of his true strength. He looked at his palm, assessing the technique's effectiveness. This is a bit too weak to stop me if I really go berserk. But still, it's enough to buy some time for everyone to escape. Lost in his calculations, Lucas's hands moved as he sensed someone approaching. He turned his head and saw his homeroom teacher standing at the door. Teacher Sigan. Sigan entered the room with an unusually serious expression. His sharp eyes stared intently at Lucas. He said grimly, Hey, Lucas. From the entrance exam, to the beast, taming competition, and now this mission. Strange things always happen wherever you are. Sigan stepped closer. What are you? Why did you come to this school? Faced with the teacher's pressing question and glowing golden eyes, Lucas could only bow his head in silence, leaving a tense, suffocating atmosphere. Lucas broke out in a cold sweat, trying to deflect his teacher's suspicion. I honestly don't know what you're talking about. The reason I came to Allen Magic Academy is, of course, to learn martial arts and become stronger. Instantly, Sigan appeared right behind Lucas with terrifying speed, giving him no time to react. Sigan spoke with heavy pressure. Become stronger? Then first, tell me what your true strength is. Lucas raised a hand to his chin, thinking. He had to admit, Teacher Sigan was really sharp. With someone like him watching over things, school life would be quite safe, but he still felt a little uneasy. Suddenly, the door opened. A noble woman appeared and asked, And who might you be? Lucas exclaimed in shock. Mom. Lucas quickly made introductions to ease the tension. This is Teacher Sigan, my homeroom teacher for the martial arts department. He was just visiting and guiding me on a few techniques. He even cheekily added that the teacher had advised him not to face strong enemies head-on. Sigan could only sweat, realizing Lucas knew his mother was coming just from her footsteps. Catherine smiled. I see, but today is a day off. Shouldn't you let him rest? Don't you agree, Teacher Sigan? Sigan sighed, knowing he was being politely kicked out. He stated he wouldn't let Lucas cause any trouble as long as he was the homeroom teacher, then excused himself. Catherine sat down by the bed. She told her son not to make selfish requests that angered his teacher. She revealed that after the incident at the cave, she had to stay at the Miranda estate and wait for things to stabilize before she could visit. Julia's eyes welled with tears. So you've been nearby all these days? I wish I could have seen you sooner. Mom. After saying that, she immediately threw herself into her mother's arms, sobbing. Lucas looked towards the door and asked curiously, Didn't Dad come with you? Catherine explained that the war situation at the front lines had worsened. After dropping her off at the Miranda estate, Holt had to leave for battle immediately. Lucas thought about the Miranda family's stubbornness. They welcomed his mother back but still refused to acknowledge his father. Soon after, Catherine took out an ornate wooden box. She announced it was a gift from his father to congratulate him on placing first in the entrance exam. It was the treasured sword passed down through generations of the Ryan family. Although it was heavily damaged in the war against the Beastmen decades ago and wasn't very practical, it was a priceless heirloom, a symbol of their lineage. Holding the sword, Lucas could feel the weight of his father's expectations on his shoulders. He stared at the old blade, his gaze sharp and determined. He silently promised to do his best not to disappoint his father. Seeing this, Julia pouted. Humph, what a show-off. Lucas gently patted his sister's head and teased that their mother always spoiled Julia the most. Indeed, Catherine had prepared a box of monster cores, and lots of delicious pastries and donuts just for her. Julia gasped in delight. Wow, I love you the most, Mom. Watching his sister eagerly enjoy the food, Lucas felt the warmth of family. Suddenly, Catherine took out another item. She asked Julia to bring it to Jeremy later. Lucas asked curiously, "What is it?" Catherine explained it was also a monster core Holt had prepared for Jeremy. Since Lady Jessica couldn't come, she had accepted it on his behalf. Although she didn't like Jeremy much, Julia reluctantly agreed. "I don't like him, but I'll give it to him." After saying goodbye to her mother, Julia went to the boys' dormitory to deliver the item. The appearance of the top-ranked genius immediately drew everyone's attention. The students couldn't help but gossip, curious why she was looking for her half-brother. Jeremy's friends were thrilled to see Julia. They praised her endlessly and suggested they bring the genius little sister along on their next mission. However, their praise inadvertently touched Jeremy's sore spot and pride. He suddenly snapped, attacking his own friends with thorny vine magic, to everyone's horror. Jeremy walked through a glowing green aura. His face was twisted with resentment, thinking about how his parents had never once visited him at the academy. Jeremy gritted his teeth, clutching the box of medicine. Jealousy flared violently when he saw all the attention and even the family's treasured sword were given to Lucas. He couldn't accept that someone he saw as a loser was receiving all the love. In a fit of rage, Jeremy swore, "Everything that is his must be mine. All good things must come to an end." Catherine had to return to the Miranda estate to handle family matters. Although they couldn't see each other every day, knowing their mother was staying in Dak Town for a while made Lucas and Julia incredibly happy. Meanwhile, Lucas began concocting a new elixir with Uru by his side. It was to help Mina recover quickly from her serious injuries. To avoid suspicion about his alchemy skills, Lucas had Julia deliver the medicine to Mina, claiming it was a gift from the Miranda family. Mina was amazed by its miraculous effects and praised the quality of the renowned family. Half a month passed. The academy atmosphere exploded with the opening ceremony for the Tower of Allen, dazzling with fireworks. Kai excitedly claimed the iconic tower was shining just like his own aura. Lucas could only smile wryly at his friend's delusion. The tower had been there since the first day of school. Kai's narcissism was on another level. Tessie quickly organized the class into formation, but it was teacher Sigan's imposing presence that truly silenced everyone. With a cold gaze, he reminded them this was part of the curriculum, not a playground. He also demanded everyone quickly take their assigned seats. Immediately, malicious whispers from the magic students started up again. They slandered the martial arts department as a bunch of fools chasing impossible dreams. Kai gritted his teeth in anger upon hearing his department being insulted, but Lucas quickly placed a hand on his shoulder to calm him down. As expected, the fact that the martial arts department had secured 20 spots in the Tower of Allen had angered the other teachers. They tried every way to pressure the principal to reclaim those spots. Looking at the crowd constantly proclaiming that martial artists were unnecessary for the Empire, Lucas coldly judged them. What a shameless bunch. Meanwhile, teacher Sigan calmly turned and walked away. He seemed completely unconcerned about his students' spots being taken. "Listen up, everyone. Every year, the third-year students will be the first to enter the Tower of Allen to set an example for the freshmen." A loud announcement echoed, requesting the upperclassmen to get ready. Jeremy gripped his weapon tightly, sweating from a mix of nervousness and excitement. After 3 years of hard work since enrolling, he finally had the chance to set foot in this legendary tower. His friends relentlessly mocked him for barely making it into the top 100, just enough to qualify for the first time. "Brother Jeremy," Julia's voice called from behind, making the group turn around. Jeremy's friends immediately recognized the genius sister of the Ryan family and couldn't stop admiring her. Julia waved cheerfully. "Do your best." Jeremy shyly looked down, embarrassed by his friends teasing not to disappoint his little sister. In reality, Julia was only doing this because of her mother's request. She thought to herself, if things get bad, he should just retreat early. She had fulfilled her mother's request. Meanwhile, Jeremy was filled with a fierce determination. He promised himself, "Just you wait. In this tower, I will definitely surpass Lucas." The group headed towards the brilliant gate of light to begin the real challenge. Upon entering, a majestic voice instructed everyone to place their magic staves down and close their eyes. Jeremy paused, puzzled. The voice was incredibly familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. A magic screen appeared, monitoring the students' meditation inside the tower. Behind it, Director Otani, with his long white beard, observed quietly and thought, "So, it finally begins." He He placed his hand on the ancient mechanical wheel, pouring all his power into it, making it glow with a brilliant golden aura. His eyes shone with power. He released a massive amount of energy that enveloped the entire research room. The majestic tower was now engulfed in a sea of blazing spiritual fire, illuminating the entire academy. Lucas stared from below, stunned. Was there a martial artist at this school whose power surpassed even Teacher Sigan's? Lucas suddenly realized the true reason. He knew why Teacher Sigan was so confident the martial artist would enter the Allen Tower. It was because the keyholder, the one with power to open the tower's gate, was the Academy's strongest martial artist. Inside the Allen Tower, a hyper-realistic illusion space began to open. Jeremy emerged from a brilliant blue magic vortex. He was amazed to find that everything felt real, even though only his consciousness had entered. Even his magic staff had its familiar weight. Seeing the rookie's shock, an upperclassman spoke up. Not surprised this was his first time. The Allen Tower's best feature is its incredible realism. However, the conversation was quickly cut short. Another member shouted urgently, "Stop chatting. Go and gather with your teammates." Jeremy clicked his tongue, annoyed by the upperclassman's arrogance. He trudged toward the tower looming in the illusionary forest. Meanwhile, outside, Lucas was watching everything closely. He used a glowing magic screen to see inside the tower. His eyes glowed golden as he had an interesting realization. So even from out here, if I can sense the mental energy waves, I can see what the students inside are doing. Lucas saw Jeremy getting the cold shoulder from the upperclassman. He couldn't help but smile knowingly. Poor Jeremy, getting shunned from the very start. Standing beside him, Teacher Sigan confirmed it. Anyone with enough power could watch by sensing mental energy. "First, let me give you a quick explanation," he said. Teacher Sigan explained that when the trial began, students would be teleported to random locations around the central tower. They could go alone or form a team, but the maximum size was 3 members. He advised that teamwork was essential to reach the higher floors. Kai excitedly asked Lucas to team up, but Lucas flatly refused, saying he planned to go with Anto and Decio. Lucas explained that based on the tournament rankings, the 3 of them would be split into different groups to ensure balance. Kai was so shocked he turned to stone. He whimpered, wondering if he was too good, so he got left out. Sigan quietly observed Lucas with a knowing look in his eyes. Suddenly, a flash of light from the tower gate caught everyone's attention. Someone had been eliminated and was emerging from a cloud of dust. It was a group of third-year students, but they were defeated too quickly. Teacher Sigan explained that the phantom enemies inside the Allen Tower automatically adjust their strength based on the students' actual abilities. Every year, some are too arrogant. They underestimate their opponents and get thrown out immediately. Lucas looked at the majestic, glowing tower. He wondered how Jeremy was doing inside. Inside the tower, Jeremy had luckily grouped up with his teammates. The team was quickly advancing to the 2nd floor. Lucas watched through the magic screen and thought to himself, what a lucky guy. He found his teammates right away. Jeremy's group stepped out of the teleportation gate. They officially set foot on the 2nd floor of the Allen Tower. This place was a mystical cave. It was surrounded by giant, glowing red crystals. The team moved cautiously deeper inside. They were unaware of the giant, dark figures with glowing red eyes watching them from above. Jeremy suddenly sensed a murderous aura. Green-skinned monsters with ferocious faces lunged down from above with guttural roars. Jeremy reacted quickly. He brandished his staff, activating plant magic. He created vibrant green vines that bound the enemy in midair. The monsters roared in pain as the vines tightened around them. Immediately, another team member channeled mana into his palm. He unleashed the Earth Wave technique. A huge cloud of dust and sand blasted the restrained monsters head-on. Jeremy's thorny vines writhed wildly. They bound and crushed the monsters in an instant. A notification confirmed the successful elimination of the elite Crystal Warriors, earning Jeremy 10 precious points. Standing amidst the rubble, the group breathed a sigh of relief. The 2nd floor was as dangerous as rumored. They decided to press on while their mana and stamina were still high. In the central area of the 2nd floor, Jeremy continued to show off his power. He easily defeated a Beastman scout to rack up more points. His teammate was just as impressive. He used a water blade to tear through the ranks of skeleton warriors. Fire and water magic attacks were launched continuously. They cleared every obstacle in their path. After the trial ended, the group left the tower in high spirits. One member teased his friend about being eliminated early, but the other remained optimistic. At least they weren't last this time. Noticing Jeremy's silence, a friend asked curiously, "You've been so quiet. Aren't you happy, Jeremy?" Jeremy smiled slightly and replied, "Of course I'm happy." He looked up at the majestic tower. He thought about how his father must face such terrifying enemies every day. He felt he had finally taken one step closer to his father's great legacy. A few hours later, the Allen Tower shone brightly against the Academy's sky. Watching from a distance, Lucas realized something by sensing the mental energy. He could clearly grasp everything happening up to the 3rd floor of the tower. In these trials, phantom enemies with various traits would appear. Their difficulty would increase with each floor the students climbed. Lucas wondered if these illusions were modeled after real creatures. If so, the battle experience of the martial artist who opened the Allen Tower must have been truly terrifying. He glanced at Teacher Sigan and thought that he probably realized his true strength too. But for now, everyone was just quietly observing without interfering. Lucas wondered, is he showing me favoritism? Suddenly, an announcement called for the final group to gather at the entrance to begin their trial. The crucial moment had finally arrived. The leading group was already approaching the entrance to the fourth floor. Mina and her team, who had achieved the best results in the taming competition, were also confident they could catch up. Seeing Mina about to enter the tower, Julia excitedly cheered from behind. "Go for it, Mina." In response to the girl's enthusiasm, Mina turned and smiled gently. "Thank you, Julia." A male student approached and kindly asked if Mina's wound had fully healed. She confidently stated she was completely recovered and was encouraged to do her best. Behind her, whispers started up again. They talked about her becoming vice president in her second year and her close relationship with the genius student. Mina clicked her tongue, annoyed by the gossip, but she quickly pushed it aside to focus on her goal, reaching the 6th floor and breaking Theodore's record. Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor of the Allen Tower, a fiery space with molten lava awaited the contestants, surrounded by ferocious purple monsters swinging their weapons to attack. Mina ordered her team to ignore the small fry. They would use acceleration to go straight to the 4th floor. The group instantly transformed into streaks of light. They shot towards the central tower amidst a sea of fire. After just 30 minutes, Mina's group officially reached the 4th floor. It was an achievement worthy of the strongest third-year team. They were suddenly faced with a giant elite beastman exuding a purple miasma. Twice the size of the monsters on the lower floor, this was where most students gave up. A lightning-fast attack earned the group 80 points. They took down the beastman instantly. Witnessing Mina's incredible improvement after her recent field mission, her teammates were amazed. For Mina, a quick kill was the best way to save time. After all, these monsters were nothing compared to the fearsome minotaur she had faced. She decisively left the cleanup to her two friends. Then she dashed off alone to find the way to the 5th floor. She continuously defeated more beastman scouts to accumulate points. Mina became a whirlwind of wind magic. She swept away all obstacles and constantly received point notifications. She headed towards the tower, which was emitting a crimson aura. Mina and her teammates finally reached the 5th floor of the Allen Tower. Though her face was smudged with dirt, she wore a satisfied smile. We finally made it to the 5th floor. Outside, Teacher Sigan observed the monitoring board. He noted that 3 people had reached the 5th floor, a much better result than last year. Hearing this, Kai couldn't help but feel the pressure when looking at his own abilities. The 5th floor? When could I ever reach that level? Teacher Sigan noticed his students' anxiety and reassured him. There's no need to rush. For a first-year freshman, reaching the 3rd floor is more than enough. If you keep improving your skills, the monsters on the 5th floor will be nothing to fear. Observing his teacher's attitude, Lucas realized something. Teacher Sigan must have been a master of this tower. A moment later, the doors slowly opened. Mina's group had finished the trial. It seemed she hadn't achieved her goal. Mina lowered her head, her eyes filled with disappointment and humiliation. She couldn't break her predecessor's record. Meanwhile, in the student council room, Theo had his feet up on the table. He sipped his tea and watched Mina through a magic orb. He smirked victoriously. "So, you understand now, don't you, Mina?" Theo stared at Mina's anguished face glowing in the orb. He spoke with condescending mockery. "Trying to surpass a genius like me? Not in a million years, sweetie." Julia excitedly shot fireworks from her fingertips to celebrate. "Congratulations, Mina, on taking first place in the 3rd-year exams." Lucas also praised her for reaching the 5th floor, but Mina only managed a sad smile. She admitted she still couldn't break President Theo's record. Seeing her senior's lack of confidence, Julia quickly comforted her, saying they both stopped at the 5th floor, so it was a tie. However, Mina shook her head, explaining the reality was completely different. By the time she saw the stairs to the 6th floor, she was too exhausted to even stand. Meanwhile, Theodore had climbed to the very last step. He had almost opened the door to the 6th floor. She admitted she was still far behind Theo in stamina, strategy, and magic control in every aspect. Then, Mina pushed aside her sadness. She asked about the siblings' team situation. Julia brightly announced she would team up with Iowa. The young lady still had her arms crossed, looking reluctant. She claimed it was an order from her father, and she had no other choice. Lucas realized that news of the Miranda family acknowledging Julia had already reached Iowa. He said he would team up with his 2 roommates, Anto and Decio. When Julia asked if they had a fight, Lucas explained that their ranks were too different. They had to be split into different groups. Hearing this, Kai rushed over, hugged Lucas, and wailed dramatically. "You cold-blooded monster. How could you abandon me for someone else?" While Kai was wondering who to team up with, Taishi suddenly appeared. She proactively invited him to join her team. Taishi smiled, saying her group really needed a strong vanguard like Kai. As soon as he heard the class president's offer, Kai's attitude did a complete 180. He slicked back his hair confidently and declared he would join since they had so earnestly requested it. Witnessing his friend's quick change, Lucas was speechless at Kai's fickle personality. Soon after, Teacher Sigan appeared at the training ground. He was pleased to see everyone had found partners. Sigan's eyes hardened as he faced the class. He roared for them to show their fighting spirit. He knew the insults others always aimed at the martial arts department behind their backs. The magic students relentlessly mocked them. They said the martial arts department would be eliminated quickly, and giving them a spot in the tower was a waste. With a sharp gaze, Teacher Sigan looked at his students and asked, "Do you want them to look down on you forever? No one wants that, right?" Tessie declared firmly, "We will train hard so things don't go as they expect. We'll prove we deserve to be in the Allen Tower with our real strength." The whole class roared with fighting spirit, determined to take the #1 spot. Teacher Sigan had skillfully turned the gossip into motivation. He ignited the fighting spirit of the entire martial arts department instead of letting their will be shaken. His plan was a brilliant success. They prepared to face the diverse and intelligent phantom enemies inside the tower. The class began intense group training sessions to build perfect coordination. During breaks, Teacher Saigon diligently explained the characteristics of the different races they would encounter, especially the terrifying muscular strength of the Beastman tribe. He even put on a monster mask to play the role of an enemy and spar with the students. He demanded they treat it as if they were facing a real beastman. Though every day was grueling, no one complained. They all focused on a common goal, conquering the A-Land Tower. "Let's make our mark, everyone." And then, the day of the freshman trials finally arrived. An important notice was posted, confirming the martial arts department's results were valid, and they were officially allowed to participate. Under the bright sun, the Allen Tower radiated a majestic golden aura, awaiting the contestants. The magic students still watched with prejudiced eyes. Before entering the tower, Teacher Sigan gave careful instructions. When you get inside, regroup with your team at the central staircase. If you can run, run without hesitation. If you can't run, fight as if your life depends on it, and at least take down one enemy. These words were once again mocked by the magic students. They sneered that even their own teacher didn't trust in their strength. Someone even bet that the entire martial arts department would be wiped out in less than 3 minutes. Hearing those words, Kai just scoffed disdainfully. Listen to them chatter. What a bunch of losers. Lucas remained cold and calm, noticing his friend Kai's growth. Immediately after, an examiner approached and ordered, "You 12, follow me." Lucas led the group of freshmen, marching forward with a completely different aura. Headmaster Otani quietly observed Lucas through a magic screen. He marveled that it had been many years since so many martial artists had entered the Allen Tower at once. He believed that the legacy left by the martial god could finally fulfill its purpose. Lucas narrowed his eyes with determination, ready to enter the battle within the tower, while the other students were strictly following the teacher's orders, trying to avoid enemies to head straight for the central staircase. Lucas decided to go in the completely opposite direction. He knew that most of the tower's first floor was goblin territory. They often used fog magic to obscure vision before launching an attack. As soon as he detected the hazy white smoke, Lucas acted immediately. He told Anto and Decio to wait a moment. He needed to run a small test before catching up with the group. Venturing deep into the fog, Lucas faced a goblin. The green-skinned creature was exhaling foul-smelling gray smoke, just as he predicted. When Lucas's clone finished off the enemy, no point notification appeared. Lucas realized the energy creating the phantoms in the Allen Tower felt very familiar. It was the exact same energy he used to create his clones. He confirmed his suspicion. These phantoms were definitely created by the great martial artist who opened this tower. Since Lucas's clones and the phantom monsters shared the same energy, no one would detect his use of the clone's skill. Lucas's plan was perfect. He would leave one clone to protect Anto and Decio while his real body continued to climb the higher floors. Suddenly, a bold idea struck him. If they shared the same energy source, could he transform his clone's shape into a beast phantom? Lucas immediately began to experiment. A golden aura enveloped the clones, and in an instant, 2 ferocious goblins appeared before him. Lucas smiled victoriously. He could change his clone's appearance in any way he wanted. Meanwhile, Headmaster Otani was quietly observing him through the magic screen. He had noticed Lucas frequently sneaking into the library to study martial arts, but he never expected him to master the clone technique so impressively fast. The headmaster wondered if Lucas would again accumulate points for his classmates. He knew that helping too much could hinder their own growth and hoped Lucas understood that too. At the same time, in another area of the tower, others were in a dire situation. A giant shadow suddenly appeared, causing them to panic and scream. A giant? Don't come any closer. A massive green goblin with glowing eyes, and its minions were slowly advancing. They knew that with their current strength, facing 2 goblins was their absolute limit. The monster opened its fang-filled mouth, ready to devour its prey, as desperate cries for help echoed. At that moment, a strange light suddenly appeared. It descended from above, drawing everyone's attention. He calmly told his teammates to stay calm. Thanks to the thick fog, the giant couldn't see them. That's right. The giants on the first floor have low intelligence and move very slowly. He gave a decisive order. Keep your distance from the boss. Take out the small fry first. The group immediately sped through the thick fog. They had to focus all their efforts on their first real battle inside the tower. Thanks to the timely guidance, they continuously dodged attacks, and their decisive counterattacks began to injure the enemy. A mysterious notification lit up brightly. Goblin Scout successfully eliminated, plus 10 points. It confirmed that the group's coordinated efforts were starting to pay off. They stared in shock as the enemy disintegrated into particles of energy. We actually killed it. Another person excitedly realized the teacher was right. Teamwork is victory. They eagerly pushed forward to collect more points from the remaining targets. Watching from behind, Lucas thought that victory required not just strength, but also calm judgment and courage. He smirked knowingly, wondering if using Beast Phantom clones to train his classmates counted as cheating. He hoped this trial would help everyone experience the thrill of real combat. At the observation area outside the Alan Tower, the magic class teacher smirked smugly. He saw Lucas's group surrounded by 3 monsters in the fog. He casually sneered. What bad luck. They're dead for sure. The students standing nearby joined in contemptuously. Even we struggle against 3 at once. Those weaklings from the martial arts department don't stand a chance. The teacher confidently asserted they would soon be defeated and flee. What a bunch of fools. Even if they get into the tower, they're just a laughingstock. He glanced at Sigyn and sneered at his misplaced confidence. Sigyn remained silent, arms crossed. His eyes were fixed on the screen as he thought, 3 at once? If they stay calm, there's still a chance to win. Suddenly, the tower flashed with a powerful golden aura. The magic teacher's face turned pale with shock. What is this? The students outside were confused. The fog is too thick. Are they trying to escape? What's happening? But the reality was the complete opposite. The monsters fell one by one at the feet of the martial arts freshmen. From the white smoke, 3 figures with sharp, glowing eyes emerged, completely turning the tide of the battle. The giant green goblin was shocked to see its comrades fall. A sharp sword pierced through the monster's chest with terrifying force, instantly finishing the target. The team coordinated flawlessly. The notification for defeating a Goblin Scout appeared with 10 points, confirming the overwhelming power of the martial arts freshman. The magic class teacher's face went pale, contorted in horror at the unbelievable sight. Impossible. How did those martial artists defeat 2 high-level goblins so quickly? In contrast to the panic, teacher Sigyn smiled proudly and praised them internally. Well done. Sigyn clearly announced the first victory to all the students. One of our teams has already defeated 2 enemies. Just fight as I've taught you. The monsters in the Allen Tower are nothing to be afraid of. The martial arts students' spirits soared. They would do their best not to fall behind their friends. The magic teacher tried to save face by sneering that they just got lucky. But someone else immediately pointed out the contradiction in his own words. However, Sigyn continued to gaze thoughtfully at the glowing tower. He sensed a strange energy that had just vanished and suspected. Don't tell me Lucas has pulled another trick. In a hidden corner on a high tree branch, Lucas suddenly let out a loud sneeze. In his mind, an image of his sister cheering enthusiastically appeared. Big brother, you're amazing. You'll definitely reach the top of the tower. Lucas jumped down and was immediately spotted by Anto and Decio. Seeing their friend was safe, they both cheered. Lucas, thank goodness, you're okay. Where have you been? We were worried sick. Lucas realized he had been teleported quite far, but luckily, the group had found their way back to the assembly point. Seeing Lucas, a male student cheered excitedly. His female companion also congratulated the 3 for returning safely. Lucas waved back, sighing in relief. Everyone was exhausted, but no one was seriously injured. He gazed into the distance. He thought about his team. Sly's group and the others would probably arrive soon. Seeing Lucas standing there lost in thought, Anto asked if anything was wrong, but he just smiled and said it was nothing. Lucas looked up at the glowing peak of the tower. He told himself that as soon as everyone gathered, the entire department would advance to the 2nd floor together. Meanwhile, outside the tower, the magic students were still gathered, whispering among themselves. They were surprised that the martial arts department hadn't lost a single team yet, but they quickly began to mock them. They assumed the martial artists were just hiding and panicking inside the tower. A worried magic class student ran to his teacher to ask about the martial arts department's status. Old Greg clenched his teeth in silence, sweat pouring down his face in fury. Damn it, how did they all get to the 2nd floor? Greg fumed internally. Even the best magic freshmen often had someone eliminated on the 1st floor. Yet those weaklings managed to escape every enemy spectacularly. He gritted his teeth bitterly. He realized if the martial arts department kept advancing like this, they would soon take all the magic class's resources and become a real threat. Inside the tower, Lucas hid behind a tree, watching the monsters. They had grotesque appearances and were swarming everywhere. He thought to himself, how are we supposed to fight this many? Lucas recalled the rules of the Allen Tower. From the 2nd floor onward, teams are teleported randomly based on performance. The stronger the team, the harder the challenge. He told himself he needed his clones to find the other classmates quickly. Lucas immediately activated his spirit energy. He summoned beast phantom clones in the form of glowing golden wolves. Back with his group, Desio asked worriedly, "Lucas, how is it on your end?" Lucas replied calmly, "There are a lot of enemies, and they're moving in groups." Anto agreed that avoiding a fight now was impossible. Lucas shrugged. "Anyway, the challenge in the Alan Tower is for us to gain combat experience." Anto nodded. "Right. What's the point of a trial if we just keep running?" Suddenly, a monster spotted them. Lucas dodged swiftly and reassured them, "I'm fine." Desio was stunned. He hadn't even noticed two enemies getting that close. He thought that if it had been him, he would have been eliminated instantly. The giant magic wolf roared, lunging at Lucas with incredible pressure. His eyes remained sharp and focused. As fast as lightning, he raised his hand and blocked the opponent's attack in midair. Lucas realized these monsters were truly cunning. They used a feint to immediately call for reinforcements. Lucas shouted a warning to his teammates. "This is just the vanguard. If we don't finish them quickly, we'll be surrounded by reinforcements." Meanwhile, Desio frantically realized his short sword was gone. Anto asked in shock what happened. Desio could only stammer that he had accidentally thrown it away in a panic. Lucas immediately sensed a murderous aura from underground and yelled, "Another enemy is approaching from right under us. Be careful." A green shadow suddenly burst from the ground. It launched a lightning-fast attack aimed directly at Anto. He dodged nimbly, admitting to himself that Teacher Sigyn was right. The monsters on the second floor were on a completely different level than the first. They were not only stronger but also smarter, knowing how to ambush and even disarm their opponents. The green wolf victoriously swung the hammer it had just stolen, aiming for Anto, but he just smirked confidently. "Even if you stole my weapon, you'll soon regret it." Anto felt lucky he had used his accumulated points to buy the Dragonstone gauntlets. He poured all his strength into a finishing blow aimed at the monster's jaw and roared, "You want a test of strength? Not a chance." Anto was fighting fiercely with the magic wolf. He shouted his teammate's name, Desio. Desio immediately rushed to help, responding decisively, "I'm here." Seizing the opportunity while the monster was vulnerable, Anto channeled all his power into his glowing fist and signaled, "Now." With a determined gaze, he roared, "Take this." Then he unleashed the powerful roaring dragon strike. A notification confirmed the successful elimination of the Beastman scout. It added another 10 precious points for the group. Witnessing his two friends' seamless coordination, Lucas smiled in approval. That was great teamwork. While Anto scratched his head with a smug grin, Desio was stunned by Lucas's appearance. Looking at the dissipating monster phantom behind them, Lucas encouraged them clearly. "Let's keep moving forward for the martial arts department." The martial arts department's progress left the magic class teachers in awe. They wondered why no one had been eliminated yet. At their level, they should have been surrounded and wiped out as soon as they set foot on the second floor. Some even suspected if the Alan Tower automatically lowered its difficulty because the martial arts kids were too weak. But that idea was quickly dismissed, as the teachers would have noticed the anomaly immediately. Old Greg watched with a contorted face, seething with anger. He clenched his teeth bitterly as he saw things spinning out of his control. On the second floor of the Alan Tower, earth-shattering explosions continuously rocked the cave. Anto and Desio were also fighting with all their might against the skeleton warriors, though their faces were smudged and they had minor injuries. Anto still fought tenaciously, swinging his sword to cut down the frenziedly charging skeletons. A skeleton warrior suddenly attacked from behind, but Anto quickly turned and delivered a finishing blow, shattering it to pieces. Anto panted, "How many have we taken down? Are you keeping score?" Desio replied, "Probably 3. How are they so tough?" Neither of them knew Lucas was still quietly watching from behind to ensure their safety. Noticing that all the martial arts department members had reached the second floor unharmed, Lucas decided to use a secret support technique of the Ryan clan called the Hero's Blood Battle Cry to help everyone pass this trial together. On the magic map, the groups began to move tactically through Area B. Suddenly, a beastman riding a glowing green speed wolf charged at them with terrifying speed and a fierce roar. Facing 7 ferocious wolves closing in, Lucas and his teammates quickly took a defensive stance. A blade of light suddenly descended from above. It pierced through the magic wolf's body in a blinding explosion of spirit energy. From behind, a female student drew her bow, firing sharp arrows to support her teammates. The golden wolf summoned by Lucas stood majestically on a peak, quietly observing the scene where the speed wolves had been completely annihilated. Notifications continuously popped up, confirming each kill earned another 10 precious points. In Area C, the group coordinated seamlessly to attack a one-eyed cyclops, directly taking down the massive creature and earning another 25 points. The battle continued to rage in Area D. Young martial artists swung their swords, slicing through the hordes of charging goblin scouts. A series of point notifications from eliminating vanguard goblins and beastman scouts lit up the magic screen. Lucas was amazed by the group's Baofa power. "Amazing. I never thought we could defeat so many enemies. At this rate, we can actually make it to the third floor." The image of Lucas's golden wolf continued to silently follow his teammates' every move from a distance. Through the observation orb, old Greg was so shocked that sweat poured down his face. He saw the glowing dots representing the students surrounding the tower. He couldn't believe his eyes. What? They're all on the third floor? An announcement rang out. All 12 martial arts students had successfully reached the stairs to the third floor. The magic class teachers began to panic. They couldn't believe these freshmen were so strong and wondered what teacher Sigan had taught them. Old Greg gritted his teeth in bitter resentment. But then, he suddenly broke into a sinister, calculating smile. He told himself it wouldn't happen. Some of the martial arts students seemed to have reached their physical limits. With a wicked glint in his eyes, Greg confidently asserted they would soon be forcibly ejected from the tower. The atmosphere inside the Alan Tower grew heavy as the members began to collapse from exhaustion on the stairs. Decio stumbled and fell, his breathing ragged and tired. Lucas quickly rushed to support his teammate and asked worriedly, "Decio, can you hold on?" With a pale face, Decio whispered that he had reached his limit. He looked at his hand, which was slowly dissolving into spirit energy, and urged, "Don't worry about me. Just keep going." It wasn't just Decio. Other members were also exhausted and had to sit down on the stairs. A female student tiredly announced she was stopping there. Others still tried to encourage Lucas to advance to the third floor on their behalf. They desperately wanted Lucas to prove the strength of the martial arts department to the magic students. Lucas gently placed his hand on Decio's shoulder. Meanwhile, Anto gritted his teeth with determination. "We've come this far. We have to reach the third floor." Seeing his teammates' unity, Lucas gave a confident smile. "That's right, we're a team, after all. Let's work together so all of us can step through that third floor door as one." Lucas's call seemed to give the group one last burst of strength. Everyone cheered in unison, determined to use their last bit of energy to complete their goal. Under the brilliant light radiating from the top of the Allen Tower, all 12 martial arts freshmen advanced together amidst the sparkling crystals. A true miracle had occurred. All 12 students had successfully set foot on the third floor of the legendary tower. The third floor. So this is the third floor of the Allen Tower. The real nightmare began when grotesque purple creatures emerged from the sea of fire and charged ferociously. Although he tried to fight back, he was soon completely overwhelmed by the swarm of aggressive monsters. Outside the tower, the eliminated contestants recalled with fear. The third floor is truly brutal. I couldn't even count how many enemies there were. I saw we were surrounded by 5 of them. We almost got wiped out. Watching from a distance, Lucas concluded that the third floor was the current limit for the martial arts students. He thought to himself, "To avoid suspicion, I deliberately had my real body withdraw, but my clone is still inside the tower. By supporting the second martial arts group with the hero's blood battle cry skill, I can lead everyone to the third floor. That way, everyone in the martial arts department gets a better score, and I won't stand out too much." Looking at the scoreboard, Tessie, Kai, and Lena all had 55 points, while he only had 43. Lucas smiled knowingly. "My department is stealing the show." This uniform progress caused a real shockwave among the magic classes. The magic students buzzed in disbelief. No way. All the martial arts students made it to the third floor? They couldn't believe it. Usually, only the elite class could achieve something similar. Witnessing the powerful rise of the martial arts department, old Greg gritted his teeth in bitter resentment, sweat pouring down his contorted face. "This is bad. We have to beat the martial arts department in both points earned and floors reached. The magic class cannot lose to the martial arts department." A magic freshman was thrown out of the tower by a brilliant blue energy blast. Meanwhile, another was struggling against a swarm of fire monsters. Headmaster Otani quietly observed through his magic orb and sighed in disappointment. He thought, "Is losing to martial artists really that hard to accept? You've wasted mana like water since the first floor. What did you plan to do on the second and third floors?" The magic freshman's lack of composure made the headmaster shake his head. The notification board continuously showed disastrous numbers. Groups 3 and 4 were completely wiped out on the second floor. Even the best performing group, Group 8, was annihilated upon reaching the third floor. Seeing the dismal results, old Greg flew into a rage, his face contorted with humiliation. He gritted his teeth as he realized not a single magic class student ranked below 40 had made it to the third floor. Some teams were even wiped out on the first. Greg frantically grabbed a colleague's collar and roared in frustration. "This is completely wrong. This must be a trap aimed at the magic class. The monsters only got more numerous and stronger when it was our turn, right? Losing the game and then blaming the game?" At Greg's outburst, Teacher Linda coldly stepped forward, reminding him not to deny reality in front of the students. She taunted, "Surely Teacher Greg knows the Allen Tower is operating normally. Or do you mean your own sensory abilities have dulled?" His pride wounded, Greg gritted his teeth so hard they bled. His hateful gaze was fixed on Saigon and Lucas with utter resentment. He cursed internally, "Saigon and that kid. Just looking at them makes me sick." Meanwhile, Linda smiled in approval of the martial arts department surpassing the magic class. stating she always believed in their abilities. Teacher Saigon remained calm. He humbly said it was entirely the result of his students' relentless efforts. Seeing the elite class's turn was about to start, Saigon reminded Linda to return to her position, but she casually replied that she didn't need to worry about those kids. Linda confidently stated she had her class's excellent representative there. Julia and Iowa confidently walked forward, to the admiration of everyone. Julia proudly boasted to her friends, "My brother is really amazing. If he were serious, he could climb much higher than the 4th floor." These words made the surrounding magic freshmen feel humiliated and discouraged even before their trial began. When the examiner called Julia's group into the tower, from a distance, Lucas waved and shouted, "Go for it, Julia. Don't forget to eat the candy I gave you." Julia enthusiastically replied and entered the glowing portal with her teammates. The nearby examiner overheard Lucas mention candy. He wondered why he would say that at this particular moment. However, as soon as he saw Julia put it in her mouth, his eyes widened in astonishment as he realized the truth. It wasn't candy at all. It was a powerful mana recovery pill with a miraculous restoration speed. Pills of this quality were extremely expensive because martial artists who could craft them were very rare. It was an incredible luxury to use such a precious item for a simple school trial. Meanwhile, Julia winced at the bitter taste. Ugh, I got tricked again. Poor little sister. Just bear with it. Lucas smiled calculatingly. He thought that even though Julia already had plenty of mana, since everyone used medicine before the exam, he wanted his sister to use it too. It would ensure her best performance in the Allen Tower. As soon as the trial began, Julia immediately unleashed overwhelming power that terrified everyone. She brandished her staff, her eyes glowing with power, and shouted, "Heavenly thunder, descend." Massive purple lightning bolts rained down from the void. They directly engulfed the giant one-eyed monsters and other grotesque creatures in a blinding light. Witnessing this sight, Iowa Miranda was stunned by her cousin's natural talent. She thought in amazement, that level of control. She can strike the enemies with precision without harming a single blade of grass. Julia turned to Iowa with a confident, radiant smile. She eagerly urged, "Iowa, stick close to me. Julia is carrying the team so hard." On the 3rd floor of the Allen Tower, amidst flowing molten lava, devastating bolts of lightning continuously rained down from the sky. They crushed every obstacle swarming around. Julia stood majestically in the sea of fire. She summoned the powerful Thunderbird technique to completely wipe out the enemies. She smiled radiantly and urged Iowa and Derek to quickly move forward. Derek sighed in relief. He admitted that without Julia, his fire magic would have struggled against the fire-resistant lizards. "This is what a carry looks like." Julia happily replied that it was all thanks to the team's smooth coordination. Iowa crossed her arms arrogantly. She thought to herself that in the real world, she could have easily controlled the monsters' minds to make them destroy each other. Hearing Julia praise her talent on a real battlefield, Iowa froze for a moment. She bitterly realized that her spiritual magic was completely useless against the mindless phantoms inside this tower. Iowa tightened her grip on her staff. She felt like nothing more than a burden, only able to scout enemy positions. Witnessing Julia's innocence and absolute trust in her, Iowa was moved. She blushed, turned away, and loudly declared she would let Julia take all the glory this time. Then she suddenly dashed forward. Julia, who was running, crashed into Iowa's back. She rubbed her nose and whined, "Why did you stop so suddenly? Is there an enemy?" Iowa replied, flustered, "No, it must have been my imagination." But deep down, Iowa was suspicious. She kept sensing a strange presence, not an enemy, but not a fellow student either. Julia excitedly instructed, "Hey, Iowa, when we get to the 4th floor, find the path with the fewest monsters." An announcement rang throughout the academy. The first 3 students had advanced to the 4th floor. Watching silently, Lucas broke into a cold sweat. That was close. Spiritual mages really are sharp. Outside, the crowd buzzed with excitement over the freshman's shocking achievement after 30 long years. Teacher Linda proudly claimed it was proof of her excellent teaching. Other colleagues argued it was due to the student's own extraordinary efforts. Lucas smiled quietly. He knew the pill only boosted mana. How far Julia could go depended entirely on her own strength. He told himself his only job now was to silently watch over his sister's growth. Inside the tower, Julia was highly focused, purple lightning crackling around her staff. Suddenly, Iowa shouted a warning. "Be careful. There are 4 enemies behind us to the right. They're beast archers." These were monstrous archers with a ferocious, skeletal appearance. A burst of red flame erupted, deflecting the attack. Derek brandished his staff and shouted, "Fire." He stepped forward to shield Julia and declared, "Julia must be exhausted from the 3rd floor. Let me handle these guys." Derek continuously unleashed powerful fire spells to fight the horde of monster archers firing relentlessly. A giant magic circle glowed beneath his feet. It instantly incinerated the monsters in a sea of fire. Pleased with his victory, Derek turned back to boast. "What do you think? My fire magic is pretty good, right?" However, Iowa paid no attention to his bragging. She coldly warned that many enemies were approaching and urged everyone to leave quickly. Being ignored, Derek could only sulk and chase after them as Julia and Iowa had already run ahead. Iowa nervously announced that about a dozen enemies were charging straight at them with terrifying speed. Iowa nimbly dodged the deadly attacks. But just then, heavy iron gates suddenly slammed down, blocking their path. It formed a cage, trapping the entire group. From the dark shadows, a giant entity with the form of a pig-headed minotaur emerged. Next to it stood a white wolf with glowing red eyes, growling menacingly. Faced with these high-level beasts, the small Iowa could only stand frozen in fear. Iowa gritted her teeth in frustration as she looked at the sturdy iron bars. This is bad. Only a metal-type mage can break this cage. No, there's another way. Immediately, Julia brandished her staff and activated the Thunder Wall skill. Powerful bursts of pink and purple electricity erupted. It directly struck the charging wolf, paralyzing it completely in pain. High-temperature flames could also melt metal. Understanding the plan, Iowa quickly gave orders. Everyone, hold off the enemy. Derek, break the cage. The giant pig beast roared furiously. It and its pack of wolves charged wildly. The attack created suffocating pressure on their magic defense. Amidst the chaos, a mysterious voice suddenly spoke. The fourth one on the left is the fastest and also the weakest. Julia immediately focused her eyes. She directly struck down the weakest target in the frenziedly charging monster pack. Iowa activated her spiritual magic, a red circle glowing on her forehead. She shouted, "No time to explain. 3 on the left. 2 on the right. Hurry." Julia smiled confidently and replied, "Yes, ma'am." Massive purple lightning bolts erupted, striking the monsters directly, making them scream in agony. Iowa continued to maintain her spiritual pressure to pinpoint targets for her teammates. However, she was shocked to realize the enemies here were incredibly durable. If these were third-floor enemies, they would have been blown to bits by now. As expected, the fourth-floor enemies are on a whole other level. Iowa yelled her command, "Wipe out the right side first." After a series of attacks, Julia began to tire. She panted heavily, "I'm running out of mana. I'm sorry. Right now, I can probably only seal the giant's movements." Iowa gritted her teeth with determination, then watched for an opening and take down the wolf. She gathered her last bit of strength. A giant, wolf-shaped bolt of lightning erupted. It directly engulfed the enemy in a blinding light. The magic wolf shrieked in agony and then vanished completely amidst the tower's rubble. Standing in the desolate scene, Iowa sighed in relief. "We've defeated them all. The giants still can't move, so we're safe now, right?" That was terrifying. I thought it was game over. Julia smiled brightly. She asked excitedly, "After we get out of here, can I proudly boast that I protected my classmates like a real class president?" Iowa gently reminded Julia not to get too full of herself, which only made the girl laugh mischievously. However, their carelessness came at a high price when something unexpected happened. The giant purple entity suddenly broke through the barrier and charged. Iowa was horrified. She realized she had been too careless. She hadn't detected a new group of enemies silently approaching. Amidst Julia's terrified screams, Derek managed to jump in front of her. He urged everyone to run while they still could. Julia cried out in despair as she watched her teammate sacrifice himself to protect her. Derek used all his strength to create a small opening, just enough for one person to pass through. He fiercely demanded that Julia escape quickly. Despite Julia's insistence on staying to fight, Derek, his face covered in sweat, firmly stopped her. He didn't want her to waste her precious mana on this floor. He used every last bit of his strength to hold back the evil entity. With his eyes glowing fiercely with fire, Derek demanded that Julia, at the very least, be the one to move forward. An earth-shattering fire explosion erupted. It engulfed the space in a sea of red flames. At the Alan Tower, the situation became incredibly tense. 2 members of the group had just been eliminated. Now, only one person remained on the 4th floor. Derek thought to himself, "In that situation, I instinctively protected Julia because she was the only one who could keep going. We did pretty well." Iowa walked away coldly. She stated calmly, "I was just repaying a debt. If this weren't the Alan Tower, where spiritual mages are at a huge disadvantage, I would never lose to anyone." Iowa glanced back at the exhausted Julia, who was resting. From the observation room, Headmaster Otani watched intently through his magic orb and praised them endlessly. A scout to track the Phantom's movements, an engineer to disable traps. Each one understands their strengths and weaknesses and makes the right decisions. Wonderful. This also applies to the other 2 inside the tower. At that moment, deep inside the tower, an ancient library was engulfed in flames. After clearing out all the monsters, Lucas calmly adjusted his cuffs. He looked down at the tracks on the ground and noted these footprints. It seems Julia has also cleared this area. Julia was racing against time with all her might. She gritted her teeth, thinking she had to reach the safe zone before her mana ran out. However, a swarm of ant monsters and wild beasts had already surrounded her from all sides. Julia saw her fallen teammates. "Everyone, wait for me," Julia shouted. "Get out of my way," as she unleashed powerful purple lightning bolts, crushing the swarm of giant scorpions surrounding her. She stood amidst the wreckage, sparks of electricity still crackling. She resolved not to let her teammates' efforts be in vain. Suddenly, Julia was stunned to find that all the fatigue in her body seemed to have vanished after a strange energy washed over her. This was thanks to Lucas, who had secretly activated the hero's blood battle cry skill. It increased his sister's attack and defense power by 30% for 10 minutes. Lucas thought, with this, Julia will be able to pass the 4th floor. He realized that when all students finished the trial, the Allen Tower would close. This was his last chance to explore the higher floors. As soon as he set foot on the 5th floor, Lucas was immediately submerged in a vast ocean world. Lucas dived deep to the bottom of the water. There, giant anglerfish with sharp teeth lurked in the darkness. He thought he should avoid unnecessary fights to save strength for the 6th floor. A giant merman holding a trident stood guard with its minions, which had strange bulging eyes. Noticing the mermen weren't very intelligent, Lucas used a transformed clone to create a diversion and quickly found his way to the 6th floor. Just 5 minutes later, Lucas shot out of the water like a golden flash. He launched a powerful attack, directly crushing the head of a giant sea monster. 20 minutes passed. Julia finally reached an ancient structure. Exhausted from the continuous battles, Julia collapsed onto the floor of the safe zone inside the tower. She smiled with satisfaction and exclaimed, "I did it." Seeing his sister was safe, Lucas gave a gentle smile of relief and pride. Lucas stood before a teleportation gate, swirling with red energy. He reached out to touch the surging dark aura. As he stepped through the gate, Lucas felt his body free-falling through a vast cosmic space filled with thousands of twinkling stars. He flew through the endless night and officially set foot on the 6th floor of the Allen Tower. Upon arriving on the 6th floor, Lucas was stunned. The scene was like standing in the middle of the universe, with stone slabs floating in the void. He exclaimed in amazement, "So this is the 6th floor." Lucas walked cautiously, feeling the instability as he stepped onto a floating meteor fragment. He looked around in confusion and realized the place was completely empty. There was no sign of any monsters. Even the concept of space itself seemed non-existent. The only thing that existed in this void was a giant, glowing ancient stone tablet. Lucas approached it. He was immediately shocked by something unusual. "This tablet is absorbing my spirit energy." On the tablet's surface, a circular symbol with 2 crossed weapons suddenly shone brightly. It caught the attention of Headmaster Otani from the observation room. He mused to himself, "So that child really did make it to the 6th floor. This must be the legendary legacy of the martial god." However, his expression turned grim as he looked at another screen. Unfortunately, his sister is gradually reaching her limit. Down on the 5th floor, Julia was facing a giant, ferocious fish monster at the bottom of the deep ocean. Headmaster Otani thought, "How much she can learn before the Allen Tower closes depends entirely on you." Lucas stood silently before the tablet, which was radiating an intense, fiery heat. A sharp, pressuring gaze suddenly appeared in his mind. A shadowy entity with a glowing red core roared in resentment. "Ma, you have won this time. But we have already sown our seeds throughout this world. Even if it takes tens of thousands of years, we will return." Facing the endless darkness, the martial god Ma radiated a powerful golden aura. He grunted in annoyance at the enemy's declaration. "Damn it, stop your nonsense. This martial god has quite a temper." Ma poured all his spirit energy into his fist, which glowed like the sun. He unleashed his ultimate attack, martial god's secret art, annihilation. A massive wave of energy descended, engulfing the evil entity in a blinding explosion of light. The destructive power of the martial god's punch spread throughout the universe. It shattered the enemy's energy core into pieces. Lucas snapped back to reality, drenched in sweat. He wondered if those images were memories of the martial god's past battles. He pondered the evil entity's threat about the seeds sown across the world. He wondered if mutated creatures like the Minotaur were the result. Realizing the seriousness of the matter, Lucas decided he needed to investigate this more thoroughly. He slowly reached out to touch the glowing ancient characters on the stone tablet. Just as Lucas was about to learn more, a giant golden hand suddenly appeared from the void. It made him jump back in alarm, thinking he was being attacked. However, he soon realized the mysterious hand's target wasn't him. It was aimed directly at the ancient stone tablet. The giant hand struck a direct blow, shattering the tablet into pieces. Lucas realized with horror that the martial god's relic was the real target. The stone tablet was gone. There was no reason to stay in Allen Tower. Besides, Julia had probably finished her trial by now. Sitting on the floor, Lucas felt a strange change happening inside his body. He wondered if this was from witnessing the martial god's ultimate technique. At the same time, the tower's magical gears ground to a halt. Headmaster Otani silently watched Julia on the 5th and 6th floors. He hoped she would continue to train and grow even stronger. An announcement declared the end of the Al Anthem Tower trial. The tower would be sealed immediately now that the final challenger was finished. Amid a shower of brilliant fireworks and confetti, Julia strode proudly through the gate. She held her staff high with a radiant smile. An announcement then echoed throughout the academy, honoring Julia Rian. She was the first freshman in history to reach the 5th floor of Allen Tower. In the quiet Allen Academy library, the headmaster was speaking with someone. The visitor was clearly displeased. He pointed out that the freshman magic class results were abnormally bad. A full 18 students had failed to score a single point. Otani remained calm. He claimed the number was only slightly higher than last year. It was within an acceptable margin of error. However, the visitor stressed that only half as many students reached the 2nd floor compared to last year. Otani replied coldly, "You should ask the magic class teachers about that. I also want to know what they taught to make the students lose their composure. You focused so much on the magic class that you missed the anomaly in the martial arts department." After the trial, 4 martial artists have broken through their limits. They're now striving to rank up. Master Sigan is assisting them directly. Otani was stunned. He realized Allen Tower might have a special ability to accelerate a martial artist's growth. The visitor worried that if this information leaked, it would cause a worldwide shockwave. Countless martial artists were desperate to break their limits. He revealed that his only goal was to find a talented martial artist, someone who could become the next manager of Allen Tower. Otherwise, he would have never reopened it. Otani ordered this information be kept an absolute secret until it was confirmed. Outside, the magic students were still cheering. In the end, a mage still set the new record. The freshman Julia is a true magical genius. Jeremy walked away, filled with utter resentment. He couldn't accept that Julia had a talentless martial artist brother like Lucas. He gritted his teeth, clenching his fists in jealousy. Damn it, we have different mothers, but I'm Julia's brother too. So why does Lucas get all the attention? Of all people, why is a useless person like Lucas her real brother? At the academy cafeteria, the atmosphere suddenly became lively with the arrival of Theodore Formal. The student council president appeared in a brilliant aura. Hearing the cheers, he smiled smugly and thought, that familiar sound. Even if Julia broke my old record, I'm still this school's idol. However, Theodore's smile quickly faded. He realized the crowd was flocking towards Julia. Look, the magic genius, Julia is over there. Julia was busy enjoying delicious food, admired by everyone around her. The crowd praised her cuteness. Some even calculated that with the 1,000 bonus points she just received, this 500-point meal was nothing to her. Theodore watched from a distance with a look of pure hatred. That girl, Julia. Lucas gently encouraged his sister to eat as much as she liked. But Theodore suddenly appeared, interrupting the siblings' meal. Lucas was startled by his opponent's terrifying speed. So fast, student council president, Theodore Foreman. He coldly asked what his purpose was. He looked down at Julia and gave a condescending warning. Julia, you may be excellent, but don't get arrogant just for reaching the 5th floor. However, Julia just kept chewing her food and asked innocently, Huh? What do you mean? Theodore panicked as he saw Julia's magic power suddenly erupt violently, spiraling out of control. He feared he'd lose face in front of the crowd if the situation escalated. He quickly made his retreat. He turned and fled, not forgetting to leave a threat. You'll regret this. Julia watched blankly as the president fled in a cloud of dust. She wondered, is this guy crazy? Lucas calmly wiped his mouth and told his sister not to worry. He told her to just keep eating. Inwardly, Lucas laughed at Theodore's foolishness for daring to threaten his sister. In fact, he had secretly used the hero's blood battle cry skill on Julia. It boosted her total power by 30%. It increased her attack and defense, and dispelled all fatigue for 10 minutes. His opponent fled without a chance to boast. Theodore was supposed to be number 1, but something felt different. Just then, Julia cheered happily when she saw Mina approaching. Mina smiled and congratulated Julia on her outstanding achievement, but Julia humbly insisted it was thanks to her 2 teammates. Mina suddenly asked if they could help with the Goddess Memorial Festival. The siblings were both confused, having never heard of the event. Seeing their confused faces, Mina began to explain about the festival. It was an event that brought together the 3 largest magic schools in the Kamina Empire: Allen Academy, Kyoto Magic School, and Holy Magic School. Every year, the 9 best freshmen are selected from the 3 schools. They compete with each other to determine the top genius. Mina stated firmly that with Julia's current abilities, she would definitely be one of this year's competitors. Julia listened with a serious expression. This was a massive competition. Lucas watched from the side. He found the event interesting and wondered if his sister was truly interested in the new challenge. In the elite girls' dormitory, a loud alarm clock shattered the quiet morning air. Julia was still curled up in her blankets with messy hair, mumbling sleepily. Suddenly, she shot up, remembering her brother's words. From tomorrow on, you're on your own for waking up. Her eyes widened in panic, realizing she had officially been abandoned. She frantically scrambled out of bed. With toast in her mouth and books in her arms, Julia activated her Thunder Dash skill. She shot off like a bolt of lightning, but in her haste, she slammed right into someone, sending her books flying everywhere. Awa scowled in annoyance and snapped, "Are you blind for running into me?" Awa's sharp glare made Julia tremble with fear. Later in class, a gloomy atmosphere surrounded Julia. she realized she had forgotten her textbook. Iwa sat beside her with a cold expression. She didn't seem to care about her friend's predicament. Suddenly, Awa slammed her book on the desk. She pushed it towards Julia with a curt offer. We can share, so stop making that face. Later, in the library, Julia was struggling. Iwa once again silently appeared and helped her get a book from a high shelf. Julia whispered a thank you, but Iwa had already turned and walked away. At the cafeteria, Lucas ate his bread while watching his sister. He wondered about Iwa. Is she a demon or a secret guardian angel? Shortly after, during magic practice, an old professor demonstrated a delicate mana control technique. He created brilliant blue water birds. He stressed, good mana control means less suffering. The surrounding students watched in awe. Julia hid behind a corner, noticing Iwa watching from a distance. She immediately focused her mana, created a bird, and went to show it to Iwa. But this was her first time attempting this, so Julia couldn't completely control it. Her mana went wild, causing the bird to explode right in front of Iwa. What a disaster. Late that night, Iwa carried a lantern down the dark hallway and entered Julia's room. She found Julia fast asleep, even drooling a little. She was completely unaware of her roommate's presence. Looking at Julia's messy sleeping habit, Iwa sighed. Then she noticed a box on the desk. It was a box of cookies with an apology note from Julia. I'm really sorry about today. To make it up to you, do you want to hang out tomorrow? I left some homemade cookies on the desk. Please eat them. Awa smiled slightly and left a reply note next to it. Don't think I'll forgive you just because the cookies are good. But fine, let's go tomorrow. The next day, at the academy gate, Awa stood waiting, looking annoyed at being stood up. Just as Julia ran up, apologizing for being late, Awa froze solid when she realized Lucas was with her. Julia introduced him excitedly. I brought my brother along. He said he'd treat us. She thought to herself she'd only agreed because she thought it would be just the two of them. Lucas could clearly see the dissatisfaction on his cousin's face. Just then, Maya happened to pass by. She was surprised to see the Ryan siblings. Julia immediately invited her. Maya, perfect timing. Do you want to hang out with us? Hearing that Lucas was there, Maya blushed beet red from embarrassment. I'll go. This made Iwa even more furious as her original plan was completely ruined. Julia cheered excitedly and urged the group to head straight for the food street in Daktown. Looking at the three girls enthusiastically walking ahead, Lucas could only sigh. He realized he was the one paying for everything. He would be footing the bill for all three of them. As soon as they arrived in Daktown, Julia cheered excitedly. We're here. Let's eat this town dry. Watching his sister dance through the bustling streets, Lucas could only sigh in exhaustion, worrying about his soon-to-be empty wallet. He felt like he was being punished. His plan for a private outing with Julia was ruined. Instead, his tsundere cousin Awa and his ex-fiancée Maya were here. While Awa maintained her cold, proud expression, Maya was secretly happy. She finally had a chance to talk to Lucas outside the academy. Julia excitedly pulled her two companions towards a magnificent building and shouted, Look! This is the super famous dessert shop from school. Awa glanced at the display case full of cakes. She acted uninterested. She said dismissively that she had no interest in such childish shops. However, Julia's hopes were soon dashed. An announcement stated there were only 2 spots left for the day. Julia was completely devastated. She slumped to the ground in frustration. But this is the place I wanted to visit the most. Seizing a golden opportunity to be alone with Lucas, Maya quickly made an excuse. Her doctor had told her to avoid sweets, giving her spot to Julia and Iwa. She cleverly suggested, Julia and Awa, you two, go ahead. I'll wait out here with Lucas. Maya was so clever, her chance had come. Although Awa still seemed reluctant, Julia quickly recovered her spirits. She excitedly pulled her senior into the shop, completely unaware of Maya's true intentions. When only the two of them were left, Lucas kindly gave Maya a drink. He apologized on his sister's behalf for her childishness. Maya smiled gently. She said she was just happy to see Lucas and his sister happy. Sitting on a bench in the vibrant town square, Maya reminisced about old memories. Julia is so energetic and cute. It reminds me of when we used to hang out together as kids. Seeing Lucas look confused, Maya reminded him of a time they snuck away from the adults. They went to see the Night Wolf exhibition in this very town. She asked if he really didn't remember. A distant memory surfaced in Maya's mind. It was of a rainy afternoon when they were children. Back then, little Maya had backed away in fear. She was faced with a fierce wolf snarling behind iron bars. But Lucas had bravely stood in front of her to protect her. It's okay. I'll protect you. Back in the present, Lucas forced a smile. Ah, yeah, I think something like that did happen. Inwardly, he was confused. He didn't know how to face memories from before his soul entered this body. Maya clutched her drink, her eyes filled with sadness as she looked at Lucas. She asked in a choked voice, Are you still mad about the broken engagement? Seeing Lucas hesitate, she poured out her long-suppressed feelings. I've always felt like you've been deliberately avoiding me all this time. My family proposing to break the engagement right after you were rejected by the gods must have hurt you a lot. Maya teared up, admitting she was too young then to understand the full meaning of it. So when they met again, She didn't know what to say. She hesitantly made a suggestion. So, if you want, can we be friends? Faced with such sincerity, Lucas smiled warmly. He thought to himself that he couldn't refuse such an offer. He assured her he had never once blamed her. Then he held out his hand and said gently, "I'd be happy to be your friend." Maya's face lit up with a brilliant smile. The tears in her eyes vanished as they shared a meaningful, reconciling handshake. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Julia and Iwa were enjoying the lively festival atmosphere with blue butterflies and fantastical magic shows. Julia was excitedly eating a giant cotton candy. She praised its sweetness next to a blushing Iwa. She also enthusiastically picked out matching items. "Let's buy matching things." Though Iwa kept a cool expression, she could only sigh and go along. "Do whatever you want." Lucas and Maya were sharing a warm, reconciling handshake when suddenly, Julia and Iwa unexpectedly returned. Witnessing this intimate scene, Julia was stunned. Maya panicked and waved her hands defensively. "No, it's not what it looks like." Iwa looked at them with a scornful gaze. She muttered about their lack of decency. Lucas could only awkwardly change the subject. He quickly urged the group to move on to the food street to break the awkward atmosphere. The group headed towards the bustling shopping district of Dak Town. Julia was happily eating a star-shaped candy. She commented that its taste was just average. However, the candy suddenly emitted a brilliant pink light, making her exclaim, "The candy is signaling something delicious." Awal was surprised by the candy's strange function. Julia quickly led the group, following the guiding light through the small streets. The light led them to an ancient, imposing building called the Five Elements Hall. Lucas curiously asked about the place. Julia excitedly explained that it was actually a dojo. The master was a famous treasure collector. She revealed an enticing piece of information. If they went inside and passed 5 trials, they could receive an incredibly valuable magic item. Although Lucas was hesitant since their goal today wasn't to challenge dojos, both Maya and Iwa were very interested in finding truly valuable magic treasures. Faced with his sister's enthusiastic pleading and sparkling eyes, Lucas could only sigh in defeat and agree to go inside. However, just as the group reached the foot of the stairs, a loud shout ordered them to halt. 2 burly guards in red uniforms and dark sunglasses stepped out to block their path. The 2 guards coldly blocked their way, declaring this wasn't a place for kids to kill time. Without flinching, Lucas gently placed his hand on a guard's shoulder. He calmly explained, "We're here to hunt for treasure. Please step aside." The guard was shocked, sweat pouring down his face. He felt an incredibly terrifying aura emanating from Lucas and wondered who this young man really was. Meanwhile, Lucas noted with interest that even a gatekeeper here was a 4th-level martial artist. He smiled slightly and asked again, "So, can we go in?" Under the immense pressure, the guard's attitude immediately changed. He asked again. He then welcomed the group inside, stating that this place always welcomed those with real strength. This sudden change of heart left Awa and Maya stunned, while Julia was excited that they had gotten inside safely. As soon as they stepped through the door, a clear voice welcomed them to the Five Elements Hall. It announced the first trial, the Beast Test. In a vibrant arena, a man with purple hair sat casually on a magic circle. He grinned sinisterly and declared that if they could defeat his pet, they would pass this stage. "Come on out, my fire cat." A giant lion, its body ablaze and eyes as red as fire, slowly appeared amidst resounding roars. Seeing the monster's fierce appearance, Maya nervously warned everyone to be extremely careful. The beast tamer immediately activated the magic circle, shouting an order to release the beast magic chains. The sound of shattering iron chains echoed dryly. The fire lion let out a savage roar, its blazing eyes reflecting Lucas and Julia. Just as the monster furiously charged with its mouth full of fangs, Lucas quickly stepped forward to shield his sister. However, just as the fire lion was about to pounce on its target, it suddenly froze, to the beast tamer's shock. A pitch-black aura in the shape of a giant wolf erupted from behind Lucas. It radiated a terrifying pressure that made the fire lion tremble and sweat with fear. It froze solid upon meeting the big boss Black Wolf. Lucas's face was now shrouded in shadow. The beast tamer furiously cracked his whip. He roared for his beast to attack immediately. However, it turned and fled in terror. In its panic, it completely ignored its master and sent him flying. Lucas scratched his head, sheepishly asking, does this count as passing the trial?" Julia cheered excitedly. "That's my brother." Meanwhile, Awa watched with a suspicious gaze. She couldn't understand what trick Lucas had used without even lifting a finger. As they climbed the stairs to the next stage, Awa was still puzzled. That lion had clearly been terrified of Lucas. Julia leaned close to Lucas and whispered, "Are you still using that Yuru hack?" Lucas put a finger to his lips, signaling for secrecy, and smiled mysteriously. "Sheh, I just got lucky." The group stopped in front of a magnificent corridor illuminated by blue magic circles. An old man with a monocle appeared, announcing that this was the second stage, the Wind Corridor. The rules were simple. The player had to shoot an arrow through all the moving circles and hit the ball at the very top to complete the task. The old man explained that this challenge tested not only delicate mana control but also the participants' sharp judgment. To add to the drama, he would personally control the corridor's environment through a magic control panel. Julia eagerly volunteered to take the first challenge. Seeing the girl's enthusiasm, the old manager smiled. "My, you're full of energy. Let's begin." Immediately, a magic arrow was fired, gliding through the glowing circles in the corridor. While sucking on her candy, Julia focused her mana and confidently shouted, "Watch me." She skillfully guided the arrow. It passed through each magic circle with absolute precision. Witnessing the arrow's intricate yet smooth path, Awa couldn't help but exclaim in amazement, "Incredible, such smooth curves." Maya next to her also silently acknowledged the girl's obvious natural talent. The old man nodded in approval of Julia's skill. Impressive for a young one. "Let's end the warm-up here." With that, he decided to increase the difficulty by pressing a button on the magic panel. Magic cubes began to float and rotate, creating a challenging maze in mid-air. The old man noted with amusement, "Now things are getting interesting." The old man squinted challengingly and asked if she really thought she could pass this trial so easily. Julia strained to control the magic arrow, guiding it through the glowing energy rings. She realized that just keeping the arrow from falling was consuming almost all of her strength. The old manager laughed smugly, urging her to give up as he continuously increased the pressure with fire and water magic to interfere. The magic cubes relentlessly fired obstructive light beams. This created a chaotic field full of obstacles from various elements. Lucas observed and realized this wasn't just a simple trial. It was a complex combination of physical elements and high-level magic interference. As Julia struggled to find a way through, she suddenly remembered her brother's advice from a past training session. He told her how to deal with magic interference. With a confident smile, Lucas had once stated that the only way was to directly destroy the source of the interference. Julia's eyes suddenly lit up with determination. She bit down hard on her candy and poured all her power into her super thunder strike. She shattered all obstacles, to the utter shock of the old manager. Witnessing Julia's destructive power, Maya thought to herself that this was more like a real battle than a simple test. Although Iwa sarcastically remarked that she had used excessive force, Julia was thrilled to receive praise from her brother after spectacularly passing the second stage. The old manager quickly regained his stern composure. He led the group into a room full of books and potion ingredients. He warned them that not every challenge could be solved with pure muscle. The third stage, the alchemy trial, appeared before them. It valued control and absolute focus over combat strength. A female mage with brown hair and goggles smiled challengingly. "Race me in potion making. If you're slow, you lose." This challenge was to brew the legendary magic potion known as the Tears of Trivia. The female mage presented a table with 108 rare ingredients needed to complete it. However, she gave a grave warning. The recipe is luck-based. One wrong move and you'll blow up. Facing 108 ingredients without a specific recipe, Iowa thought it was just a game of chance. Lucas also concluded that this delicate work was not for attack-oriented people like them. Suddenly, Maya spoke up shyly. Can I try this challenge?" The mage was surprised by the young girl's boldness. "You want to try?" "Oh, how brave." She immediately began her demonstration with specialized goggles. They displayed precise measurements down to 0.01 grams and controlled. She controlled the cooling time to just 0.5 seconds for the 12th step. Watching the mage's actions, Lucas was amazed. She was not only fast, but her mixing precision was also incredible. Julia called out excitedly, "Brother, look at Maya." Maya began her turn by touching her necklace, which glowed with blue spiritual energy. She gently controlled the ingredients, making them float in the air amidst a shimmering light. Maya noted to herself, "This star crystal contains a lot of mana and is a bit salty. Just a little more should be enough. Is she cooking or making a potion?" Lucas was stunned by Maya's knife skills. Each slice was swift and precise down to the millimeter. The processed magic ingredients began to blend into the glowing cauldron. Maya focused intently, thinking, "Let it melt slowly on low heat, just like cheese." When she noticed a slightly bitter and conflicting aroma, she decided to add a sweet-smelling ingredient to balance the potion's flavor. Maya gently poured a sparkling essence into the cauldron. She thought, "This will soften the potion's harsh components." Watching her skillful movements, Julia couldn't help but be impressed. Maya makes this look as easy as cooking. Iwa also had to admit that with that rhythm, Maya looked like she was conducting a symphony orchestra. A huge vortex of magical energy began to swirl violently inside the room. "It's done," Maya announced cheerfully as the cauldron emitted a mystical purple light. She held up the sparkling potion in her hand. To the female mage's absolute shock, the mage trembled as she checked it, unable to believe her eyes. That purity! This is truly the legendary Tears of Guia. The mage frantically grabbed Maya's shoulders and demanded, "To master this skill at this level takes decades of experience. Are you the disciple of some great alchemist?" Maya could only stammer, No." Maya shyly explained, "Actually, this is my first time making Tears of Jivia. I'm not sure how I did it. Maybe it's because I cook often?" Her innocent answer left the female mage, Lucas, and Iwa all frozen in shock. Maya continued to share that she usually focused on the ingredients' aromas to find the best ratio, so alchemy felt no different from cooking to her. She smiled and said, "Making this is as easy as making soup." The female mage was speechless at the absurd comparison. "You're comparing a legendary magic potion to soup?" Julia enthusiastically agreed. "That's why your sweets are so amazing, Maya. The cookies you made last time were so good, I almost cried." Even Iwa had to praise Maya's talented cooking instincts. "You're kind-hearted and a great cook too. Whoever marries you in the future will be a very lucky person." The unexpected compliment made Maya blush beet red. She flusteredly waved her hands. "Huh. No way. I just cook for fun." While her heart pounded from embarrassment, Maya secretly glanced at Lucas, wondering what he was thinking about her. Lucas stroked his chin thoughtfully. Besides making potions, having a good cook in the team would be a huge morale booster on long journeys. Seeing Lucas's confused expression, Awa sighed in exasperation. What an idiot. While Lucas and Julia were still confused about what was happening, Maya just smiled happily because the group had passed the trial together. The alchemist mage silently mocked herself. The mixing technique she had practiced for half her life had lost to what a young girl called cooking skills. She smiled with relief and said that being utterly defeated felt surprisingly refreshing. She then respectfully handed the potion to Maya. "This is yours. This tears of Gvia belongs to you." Maya hesitantly held the precious potion. "I can't accept something so valuable." The female mage kindly reassured her that Maya had made it herself, and in a life-or-death moment, this potion would surely save her. Lucas also smiled encouragingly. "You should take it. That potion is proof of your own ability." Hearing Lucas's encouragement, Maya blushed happily and nodded with gratitude.